Chapter 269 Little Lolita Incarnation. The incarnation Guang envisioned, even if it didn't need to be identical to his true form, at least shouldn't be too different. For example, if his true form was a handsome man, the incarnation should at least be a little handsome to be presentable. But the incarnation that appeared before Guang's eyes at this moment, let alone not resembling his true form, was simply another person. More accurately, it was a palm-sized, very cute little loli. This was no longer just a difference between a handsome man and a little handsome man, even the gender was different. Guang was actually mentally prepared for an unexpected outcome in the incarnation refining process. After all, his current incarnation refining was full of uncertainties. However, transforming the incarnation from the planned little handsome man appearance into a cute little loli was a bit too outrageous. Guang, a grown man, didn't want to become a naive little loli. It seemed the result of the incarnation's refining could no longer be changed. As for destroying this painstakingly refined little loli incarnation, that was even more impossible. Guang had paid no small price to refine this incarnation. I wonder if using disguise and appearance alteration techniques would work. Guang began to ponder how to utilize this little loli incarnation. Using this little loli incarnation as the core and putting a little handsome man appearance on the outside didn't seem impossible. Just as Guang was pondering how to utilize this little loli incarnation, suddenly, the little loli, who was curled up with her eyes closed, moved her eyes slightly. Seeing this, Guang was startled. The incarnation he had refined had actually developed an independent consciousness. An incarnation developing an independent consciousness was an extremely dangerous sign, meaning the incarnation would become uncontrollable. Almost instantly, the thought of destroying this little loli incarnation arose in Guang's mind, but he quickly suppressed this notion. If this little loli incarnation had no consciousness, then Guang could still treat it as an incarnation shell. But when this little loli incarnation developed consciousness, then, to some extent, it was no longer Guang's incarnation, it was more like Guang's child. Guang clearly couldn't bring himself to destroy a child he had personally created. Therefore, Guang decided to wait and see. Unless uncontrollable factors appeared, Guang was very curious to know what would happen after this little loli incarnation he refined developed consciousness. As the little loli incarnation developed consciousness, heaven and earth spiritual chi poured down towards the little loli incarnation. Seeing this, Guang quickly began to absorb heaven and earth spiritual chi to meet the little loli incarnation's needs. Under the replenishment of massive spiritual power, the palm-sized little loli's body was gradually growing larger, and for every bit the little loli incarnation grew, the consumption of spiritual chi would increase proportionally. This continuously increasing demand for spiritual chi made Guang feel immense pressure. This was only possible because Guang possessed a heaven and earth nascent soul and could absorb spiritual chi from the void realm. If it were any other cultivator, they would have long since been unable to bear such a massive demand for spiritual chi. But Guang felt that he was also about to give out. When the little loli incarnation grew to the state of a 5 or 6-year-old, the demand for spiritual chi completely exceeded Guang's limit. Seeing this, Guang could only forcibly interrupt the supply of spiritual chi. Deprived of spiritual chi, the little loli incarnation stopped growing. Then, the little loli incarnation opened a pair of eyes like stars. Papa. The little loli looked around curiously, then her gaze locked onto Guang. She excitedly pounced over, hugging Guang tightly, and sweetly calling out. This is truly. Although he treated the incarnation he refined as a child, seeing this little loli incarnation actually turn into a daughter left Guang a bit bewildered. However, this was not unacceptable. Guang looked at the adorable little loli. He could feel an extremely close connection between the little loli in front of him and himself. With this connection, at least this little loli incarnation with independent consciousness would not go out of control. Hug. The little loli rubbed against Guang intimately, then looked at him with expectant eyes. Seeing this, Guang reached out and picked up the little loli incarnation. He had to admit, this little loli incarnation was indeed very cute. Especially, the little loli incarnation had a special ethereal aura about her, giving people a feeling of not being immortal. And this clearly came from that mysterious bloodline. Guang could assert that the owner of that mysterious bloodline should be an extremely powerful female cultivator, very likely a legendary immortal. Only an immortal bloodline could remain so powerful after a long period of time, so powerful that Guang's various methods could not change its bloodline, which led to the incarnation Guang ultimately refined becoming a little loli. And this was very likely the appearance of that immortal in her childhood. It was a pity that there was no spiritual imprint of that immortal in that drop of bloodline, otherwise, that immortal might have been able to undergo rebirth directly. Rebirth from a drop of blood was no longer difficult for void refining cultivators who had cultivated their physique to the extreme. Not to mention the legendary immortals. If an immortal could be reborn, it might be possible to resolve the zombie disaster in the Tianyuan cultivation world, and at the same time, he could have a powerful backer. Shaking his head, Guang dismissed the unrealistic thoughts in his mind. An immortal's rebirth, whether it was a blessing or a curse, was unknown. After all, no one knew an immortal's thoughts. What if the immortal was indifferent to mortals? Perhaps, that immortal would even blame Guang for defiling her bloodline. So, the current situation should be the best. Guang held the little loli, pinching her soft little cheek, and said, from now on, you'll be called Ruan Ruan. Ruan Ruan. The little loli tilted her head, clearly unable to understand these things for a moment. Guang didn't mind this. In time, she would naturally understand that Ruan Ruan was her name. Feeling the familiar aura appearing outside, Guang carried little Ruan Ruan out of the quiet room. Gumo, you. As the spiritual chi vortex in the sky disappeared, Yuan Naya and Chu Fifei arrived at Gumo's cultivation retreat, waiting for him to emerge. Then, the two women saw Gumo appear, holding a cute little loli. Seeing this, both women were a bit bewildered. What was going on here? Papa, hungry. Just as the two women were bewildered, little Ruan's next words instantly stunned them. Cough cough, it's like this. Gumo briefly introduced Ruan's origin. Upon learning that this little loli was an incarnation refined by Gumo, Yuan Naya and Chu Fifei couldn't help but marvel. Then, they both took little Ruan into their arms. Little Ruan didn't resist this. Instead, she placed her small hand on Chu Fifei's chest and said in a soft, sweet voice, Ruan, hungry. Humph. Hearing this, Yuan Naya, who had just held Ruan, snorted in dissatisfaction. Several days later, a disciple acceptance ceremony was held in the Kinglo sect. The true lord of Sheneng Valley had discovered a girl with excellent talent and aptitude in the mortal world and planned to take her as a disciple. This girl was, of course, Ruan. Ruan, from now on, don't call me Papa. You should call me Master, understand? Gumo instructed the little loli in front of him. Although the powerful incarnation he had envisioned was gone, having a formidable disciple was also good. Ruan, who inherited the immortal bloodline, was now beginning to show various extraordinary qualities. Especially the light and agile chi contained within Ruan's body, Gumo suspected if it was the legendary immortal chi. But whether it was immortal chi or not, this light and agile chi hidden within Ruan's body would be of great help to Ruan's future growth. In addition, Ruan's cultivation talent was also extremely terrifying, but considering that she contained an immortal bloodline, it was no longer surprising. Instead, during Ruan's cultivation, the light and agile chi within her body would become active, and then a special Dao rhythm would emanate from Ruan's body. This Dao rhythm was of immense help for breakthroughs in realm. This also meant that the original three-person cultivation team of Gumo, Chu Fifei and Yuan Naya now included little Ruan. Chu Fifei's unique fragrance increased cultivation speed, and little Ruan's Dao rhythm provided opportunities to aid in realm breakthroughs. The superposition of these two made Yuan Naya's cultivation progress by leaps and bounds. While Chu Fifei was preparing to assault the nascent soul realm, Yuan Naya also smoothly reached the golden core great perfection realm through this opportunity. Gumo attached great importance to Chu Fifei's breakthrough because Chu Fifei was different from ordinary cultivators. She possessed a special physique like the Beiwa sacred body. It was very likely to attract a special heavenly tribulation. With Chu Fifei's foundation, she could easily withstand an ordinary nascent soul heavenly tribulation, but if it was a special heavenly tribulation, no one could guarantee she would definitely pass it. Because the power of a special heavenly tribulation had no upper limit. Therefore, all Gumo could do was to help Chu Fifei prepare various contingency plans as much as possible. A fourth-order spiritual vein located several thousand miles away from Kinglo sect. This was the territory of a demon king. Upon learning that Gumo needed a fourth-order spiritual vein location, this demon king voluntarily gave up his territory. This was Gumo's current status in the Kinghe cultivation world. After all, anyone who had witnessed Gumo's battle where he slew the intelligent zombies would understand who the pillar of the Kinghe cultivation world was now. If Gumo hadn't acted, none of the nascent soul true lords and demon kings who participated in that battle would have likely returned alive. Rumble. At this moment, dark clouds rolled in the sky above the fourth-order spiritual vein, which was the nascent soul heavenly tribulation attracted by Chu Fifei's breakthrough opportunity. Boom. The tribulation clouds in the sky brewed for a moment, then a heavenly lightning bolt descended, striking towards Chu Fifei below. However, this heavenly lightning bolt was blocked by a pink rabbit smoke beast. Although each heavenly lightning bolt weakened the smoke beast's size, the smoke beast still firmly protected Chu Fifei within it. As the heavenly tribulation reached its last bolt, this smoke beast still had not dissipated. Without needing any other methods, Chu Fifei could withstand the entire nascent soul heavenly tribulation simply by relying on the smoke beast, and the smoke beast was equivalent to Chu Fifei's foundation, which showed how profound Chu Fifei's foundation was. Of course, Chu Fifei's profound foundation also benefited from the 100 Flowers sect's massive resource allocation. As the hope for the 100 Flowers sect's future rise, the resources the 100 Flowers sect poured into Chu Fifei were unimaginable to outsiders, and these efforts, at this moment, were clearly being rewarded. As the last heavenly lightning bolt fell, Chu Fifei's smoke beast, though becoming increasingly ethereal, successfully blocked this final heavenly lightning bolt. Sure enough, there's more. Gumo looked at the tribulation clouds that had not dispersed in the sky and sighed deeply. Chu Fifei's Beiwa sacred body itself had a probability of attracting a special heavenly tribulation, and this probability continuously increased with the depth of Chu Fifei's foundation. It could be said that with Chu Fifei's foundation, it was highly probable that her breakthrough would attract a special heavenly tribulation. However, there were also differences between special heavenly tribulations, and it was unknown which kind Chu Fifei would face. So stinky. As Gumo pondered, a soul-piercing stench drifted down from the sky. At some point, the dark tribulation clouds in the sky had turned into a bizarre, ghastly green. The soul-piercing stench emerged from these ghastly green tribulation clouds. Then, the ghastly green tribulation clouds poured down towards Chu Fifei below like a funnel. It was very clear that the special heavenly tribulation Chu Fifei faced was not a direct damage type of test like heavenly lightning, but a biochemical test. Chu Fifei's method of dealing with it was also very simple. fully activate her Beiwa sacred body and use the unique fragrance of her body to dispel the stench. If Chu Fifei could pass this tribulation, then Chu Fifei's Beiwa sacred body would undergo a sublimation. But if she failed and ultimately couldn't dispel the stench, Chu Fifei's Beiwa sacred body might be polluted and eventually disappear completely. Facing this major test, Chu Fifei naturally had preparations. Back then, the ancestral master of the 100 Flowers sect, who also possessed the Beiwa sacred body, had experienced such a special nascent soul heavenly tribulation. Although the special nascent soul heavenly tribulation encountered by each person was not entirely the same, being of the same Beiwa sacred body still provided extremely high reference value. Therefore, among the tribulation crossing items provided by the 100 Flowers sect to Chu Fifei, there were corresponding preparations. This preparation was bottle after bottle of specially made fragrant dew. These fragrant dews formed a wall of fragrance, blocking the stench falling from the sky. However, relying solely on these was clearly not enough. If a special heavenly tribulation could be so easily blocked, the name special heavenly tribulation wouldn't cause people to change color upon hearing it. These fragrant dews could only serve an auxiliary effect. To pass this tribulation, Chu Fifei ultimately needed to rely on her own foundation. This confrontation between fragrance and stench lasted for 3 full days, tormenting the noses of nearby creatures for 3 days. No, not just the noses, because both the fragrance and the stench directly struck the soul. Even pinching one's nose wouldn't escape it, unless one moved far away from the area. But the allure of the special heavenly tribulation made many people unwilling to leave, especially after some discovered that under the continuous bombardment of the fragrance and stench, there was actually an effect of enhancing the divine soul. Everyone became even more unwilling to leave. Even those who foamed at the mouth from the impact of the fragrance and stench still stubbornly endured. Everyone knew how difficult it was to enhance the divine soul. Now, just by suffering a little, one could enhance soul power. If they missed this, they would definitely regret it for life. It seems it's done. As the stench in the sky gradually faded, Guang knew that Chu Fifei had likely passed this tribulation. With so many preparations from Chu Fifei, it would have been too unreasonable if she couldn't pass it. Go. As the stench in the sky completely disappeared, Guang pulled Yuan Naya and little Ruan and quickly headed towards Chu Fifei, because an opportunity arising from Chu Fifei's breakthrough was about to descend. Chapter 270, Great Perfection Level Zombie. Chu Fifei's Beiwa sacred body would have an explosive period with each breakthrough, and this time, it was a major breakthrough after undergoing tribulation, so it was foreseeable that Chu Fifei's Beiwa sacred body would undergo a huge transformation, and the unique fragrance emanating from this transformation would definitely be an opportunity for others. Buzz. As soon as Guang and the others arrived beside Chu Fifei, they were enveloped by a pink smoke beast that was rapidly expanding. As Chu Fifei's cultivation base stepped into the nascent soul true lord realm, the smoke beast, as the most direct manifestation of her cultivation base's foundation, would naturally surge accordingly. Oh! It smells so good! As the smoke beast continuously expanded, a faint, unique fragrance also spread, causing the cultivators who came from afar to observe Chu Fifei's undergoing tribulation to feel their spiritual qi circulate a few times faster within their bodies. Immediately, some cultivators sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate. There were also cultivators who moved closer to the smoke beast, because the closer they got to the smoke beast, the stronger the fragrance became, and the faster the spiritual qi circulated within their bodies. Guang did not disperse them, as the opportunity brought by Chu Fifei's breakthrough was actually limited to the area covered by the smoke beast. Outside, it was merely a trace of the lingering fragrance. But just the lingering fragrance had the effect of accelerating cultivation, which showed how much improvement Chu Fifei's breakthrough brought this time. And to enter the smoke beast's interior to gain this opportunity, only those approved by Chu Fifei could do so, as opening the smoke beast was equivalent to revealing all of one's defenses. Chu Fifei would not allow anyone she didn't particularly trust to enter. Therefore, only Guang, Yuan Naya and Ruan were allowed by Chu Fifei to enter the smoke beast's interior, everyone else was rejected by Chu Fifei. However, for the cultivators outside, just getting close to the smoke beast and the resulting increase in cultivation speed was already a pleasant surprise for many. Cultivating near the smoke beast for a day was enough to equal several days or even more than 10 days of usual arduous cultivation, with the specific effects varying from person to person. Chu Fifei's sublimation of her Beiwa sacred body lasted a full month, also providing a month-long experience of soaring cultivation speed for a group of cultivators. Many of them took advantage of this opportunity to directly choose to break through, successfully stepping into a higher realm. Of course, the ones who gained the most were naturally Yuan Naya and Ruan, who were inside the smoke beast. Yuan Naya, who had just stepped into Golden Core Great Perfection, completely solidified her realm this time. It was no exaggeration to say that Yuan Naya could now directly choose to impact the nascent soul realm. Ruan successfully completed foundation establishment, and it had only been a mere 100 days since Ruan began cultivation. Ruan truly achieved the legendary 100-day foundation establishment. As for Guang, he left the smoke beast very early because Guang received news that more zombies were approaching the Qinghe cultivation world. Unknown ruins. The remnant soul took a deep breath from a tiny crack on the seal, and instantly, the soul power consumed by his previous action was restored. Not bad. The recovered remnant soul nodded in satisfaction at Yao Shifeng. Now that Yao Shifeng had refined the zombie origin power he had given him, his cultivation base had reached Golden Core Great Perfection, and with the increase in cultivation base, Yao Shifeng's speed in eroding the seal had naturally increased significantly. At this moment, a crack had already been eroded into the seal by Yao Shifeng, and the remnant soul could finally absorb the power within the seal through this tiny crack to strengthen himself. The remnant soul could even use some divine ability to tear open this crack, but he resisted the urge because once he did so, the seal would react strongly. At that time, this place would be exposed. If the previously summoned zombies had arrived successfully, even if it were exposed, the remnant soul would not fear. However, the last plan failed, and the remnant soul now had no one else usable besides Yao Shifeng. In this situation, if this place were discovered and attracted that terrifyingly powerful nascent soul cultivator, it would be very troublesome. The remnant soul did not fear other nascent soul true lords or demon kings, he only feared Gu Mo, because Gu Mo's combat power was too strong. Last time, he controlled a nascent soul realm zombie but couldn't do anything to the opponent, let alone now that he didn't even have a nascent soul realm zombie. Therefore, the remnant soul planned to continue summoning a batch of zombies. Compared to the frustration here, in the Tianyuan cultivation world, with the assistance of 3 soul transformation zombies, the seal there was being eroded very quickly. This also caused the power of the headless corpse to be continuously released, and this power transformed into an endless zombie tide, pushing back the defense line formed by the cultivators of the Tianyuan cultivation world. Tianyuan cultivation world. We cannot retreat any further. The sect masters of the 3 top sects gathered again. Facing the current situation, all 3 sect masters felt extremely troubled, the number of zombies was too great. If it were merely a large number, it would be nothing, but the real trouble was those nascent soul realm zombies. From the early stage nascent soul zombies at the very beginning, now there were already nascent soul great perfection zombies appearing, and their number was not just 1 or 2. If we don't retreat and resist head-on, do you know how many casualties that will cause? The Valley Master of Sheneng Valley said helplessly. Engaging in a war of attrition with zombies was absolutely the most unwise thing to do. Even so, we cannot retreat. We have already lost too much territory. If this continues, our living space will become smaller and smaller. The sect leader of Taking Sect sighed deeply. I wonder if the old ancestors have found a way to deal with this. If they don't show up soon, we won't be able to hold on. The sect leader of Yin Yang Sword Sect stood up and walked out of the meeting room, preparing to face a tough battle. At this moment, several communication talismans flew in and were received by the 3 sect masters. This is. The 3 sect masters swept their divine sense over them and quickly finished reading the contents of the communication talismans, then, expressions of astonishment appeared on their faces. A batch of nascent soul realm zombies suddenly disappeared from the zombie tide, including those few at the nascent soul great perfection realm. What are those zombies doing? Suddenly abandoning such a favorable situation, the 3 sect masters were somewhat unclear about the zombies' intentions. Last time, it seemed a batch of zombies also suddenly left. Is this time the same as last time? The Valley Master of Sheneng Valley recalled the previous situation. Are there any clues about the zombies that left last time? The sect leader of Yin Yang Sword Sect asked. The war situation in the Tianyuan cultivation world had been too tense during this period, and they had long since forgotten about this matter. As the sect leader of Yin Yang Sword Sect spoke, relevant intelligence was naturally sent over. The zombies that left last time landed in the Qinghe cultivation world. The sect leader of Yin Yang Sword Sect read the jade slip in his hand. It had been a long time since the zombies landed, so the corresponding intelligence had naturally already reached the Tianyuan cultivation world. What? Then isn't the Qinghe cultivation world in danger? Upon hearing this, the Valley Master of Sheneng Valley and the sect leader of Taking Sect were shocked. They naturally knew the situation in the Qinghe cultivation world very well. That side simply couldn't stop that wave of zombie tide. No, that wave of zombie tide was wiped out. See for yourself. Suddenly, the sect leader of Yin Yang Sword Sect let out a cry of surprise, then threw the jade slip in his hand to the Valley Master of Sheneng Valley. Gu Mo. The Valley Master of Sheneng Valley took the jade slip and quickly saw a familiar name, only the content described seemed somewhat inconsistent with the Gu Mo in his memory. No, Gu Mo, he breakthrough. Suddenly, the Valley Master of Sheneng Valley reacted sharply. If it were just Gu Mo at the Golden Core cultivation base, he obviously couldn't be as powerful as described in the information. The only possibility was that Gu Mo was already a nascent soul true lord. Good kid, he actually breakthrough without a sound. The Valley Master of Sheneng Valley put down the jade slip, feeling a bit of joy in his heart. Although the true disciples of various sects were now cultivating diligently to impact higher realms, breaking through a realm was not that easy. Gu Mo definitely counted as one of the first few to break through. In my opinion, that Gu Mo is more than just a simple breakthrough. The sect leader of Yin Yang Sword Sect spoke. Don't you think that zombie that gained intelligence has very strong combat power? The method that zombie used, where its whole body turned golden, if my prediction is not wrong, it should be the legendary indestructible Vajra divine ability. What level of combat power do you think is needed to kill such a zombie? This. After the sect leader of Yin Yang Sword Sect's reminder, the Valley Master of Sheneng Valley suddenly realized that the combat power Gu Mo displayed was indeed somewhat illogical. He is Chi Chunda's disciple, so it's not surprising for him to have such combat power, right? Suddenly, the Valley Master of Sheneng Valley spoke. As soon as these words were uttered, the sect leader of Yin Yang Sword Sect also choked slightly. Indeed, during this period, the name of Chi Chunda, the 10,000 lost true lord, had been sung by countless people. Chi Chunda was not only strong in combat, but his methods were also ever-changing. Many late-stage nascent soul cultivators were inferior to him. During the Great War with the Zombie Tide, Chi Chunda played an important role several times. This also made many cultivators interested in the new cultivation technique created by Chi Chunda. Since the last wave of zombies was wiped out, then the target of the zombies that disappeared this time is very likely the King He cultivation world. The sect leader of Taking Sect turned the topic to the disappeared batch of zombies. Then I'll have Gu Mo return. Upon hearing this, the Valley Master of Sheneng Valley's expression changed. Gu Mo could defeat the last zombie tide, but this zombie tide's combat power was not on the same level at all, especially those few nascent soul great perfection zombies, even they needed to be cautious when facing them. No, let Chi Chunda go to support, the King He cultivation world cannot fall. The sect leader of Taking Sect shook his head, because, according to the worst case scenario, if the Tianyuan cultivation world were to completely fall, then the King He cultivation world would be their retreat route. Therefore, preserving the King He cultivation world meant preserving their retreat route. Besides Chi Chunda, send some more people to support. With this thought, the sect leader of Taking Sect continued to increase the stakes. It just so happened that the departure of those zombies gave them a period of respite, so allocating some forces was not a big problem. Good. The Valley Master of Sheneng Valley also understood the sect leader of Taking Sect's meaning and immediately began to gather people. Kid, stop for a moment. In the ruins, the remnant soul once again called a halt to Yao Shifeng, because he had already sensed that the zombies they summoned were approaching the King He cultivation world. This time, the remnant soul was determined to kill the kid who ruined his plan last time. Last time, the zombie he controlled was only early stage nascent soul. This time, with nascent soul great perfection zombies, the remnant soul refused to believe he couldn't kill that kid. Feeling the remnant soul's departure, Yao Shifeng's gaze was solemn. He knew he had to find a way, otherwise, once this seal was broken and he lost his usefulness, the consequences would be dire. The coast where they fought the zombies last time. Gu Mo and the local nascent soul true lords and demon kings gathered again. Behind them was a grand formation composed of golden core cultivators and third-order great demons. According to the collected intelligence, the landing site for the zombies this time was still here. Therefore, Gu Mo had arrived here early to wait. Of course, Gu Mo knew that the zombies this time might be more troublesome than last time, but thinking of the plants in the Dongtian space, Gu Mo's heart became calm. Sword cultivator methods were not his true trump card, the plant battle line was. They're here. Suddenly, the distant sea instantly turned pitch black, and a chilling death chi rapidly spread towards them. So fast, it seems I won't be able to wait for Master's support. Gu Mo had learned the news that his master, Chi Chunda, was coming, but now it seemed the zombies were arriving even faster. Swoosh. As the pitch black sea water continuously approached, a large number of sea demons corroded by death chi rushed ashore. Immediately, the golden core cultivators and great demons in the rear all took action. However, Gu Mo and the other nascent soul true lords did not act. Their target was the source of the death chi, the zombies. Soon, the first zombie leaped out of the water, and upon seeing that zombie, the expressions of the nascent soul true lords and demon kings present changed slightly, because it was a nascent soul realm zombie. According to the intelligence they received, the foremost zombies were always the weakest, but at this moment, the first zombie was already at the nascent soul realm, so what about the zombies behind it? As this thought arose in everyone's minds, zombies continuously leaped out of the water. Without exception, these zombies were all at the nascent soul realm, and some had even reached the middle stage nascent soul, with a portion even being late stage nascent soul. When the late stage nascent soul zombies appeared, many people's faces showed despair. They could barely fight middle stage nascent soul zombies without intelligence, but facing late stage nascent soul ones, even unintelligent zombies, any technique would be crushed in the face of absolute power. But the despair was far from over. When the last three figures appeared, feeling the aura of the three nascent soul great perfection zombies, everyone was speechless. Especially one of the nascent soul great perfection zombies, its gaze was not dead silent, but full of intelligence. This time, how will you stop me? The remnant soul stared at Gu Mo at the very front, originally expecting to see Gu Mo's terrified and despairing expression, but he was disappointed. At this moment, Gu Mo's gaze was solemn, but he was not flustered. This greatly angered the remnant soul. Immediately, the remnant soul controlled the nascent soul great perfection zombie to attack Gu Mo, wanting to slay Gu Mo on the spot to avenge the last time. So strong. Feeling the zombie's aura, Gu Mo couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Early stage nascent soul and nascent soul great perfection, this power level span was too large. So large that Gu Mo had no intention of confronting the opponent head-on, because Gu Mo knew he couldn't win. If it were an unintelligent nascent soul great perfection zombie, Gu Mo could still fight and had a greater chance of winning. But facing an intelligent nascent soul great perfection zombie, there was no need to try, he would just use the plant battle line. Most of Gu Mo's resources these years had been invested in the plant battle line. As Gu Mo's thoughts stirred, the Dongtian space connected with the outside world, and instantly, the surroundings of Gu Mo underwent a dramatic change. The barren wasteland transformed into a vast spirit plant field. The remnant soul, charging forth, immediately guessed what was happening upon seeing the changing environment around Gu Mo, and sneered, trying to hide in a Dongtian space? How naive. With the remnant soul's insight, once the Dongtian space was located, entering it would not be difficult. But very quickly, the remnant soul realized he was mistaken. The target wasn't trying to hide in the Dongtian space, but rather connecting the Dongtian space to the outside world. Hiding in a Dongtian space, the remnant soul could still understand. But connecting the Dongtian space to the outside world? What kind of operation was this? In such a situation, outsiders could directly enter the Dongtian space through the connection point. Just as the doubt arose in his mind, the remnant soul abruptly made the nascent soul great perfection zombie he controlled halt its steps. At this moment, the Dongtian spirit plant field had fully manifested. And upon that spirit plant field were rows of plants, all emanating a nascent soul level aura, with several even reaching the nascent soul great perfection level. What's going on? Isn't the opponent a sword cultivator? The remnant soul was somewhat disbelieving. The last time, Guang had powerfully slain the nascent soul zombie he controlled with a formidable sword array, leading the remnant soul to believe Guang was a powerful sword cultivator. But now, Guang had displayed a large number of nascent soul level spirit plants, and these plants were unlike anything the well-traveled remnant soul had ever seen. Xiao Dodo, lock onto the target. Guang issued an order to the intelligent pea shooters. Following Gumo's words, the pea shooters in the spirit plant field collectively aimed their pod cannons at the nascent soul great perfection zombie controlled by the remnant soul. Attack! With Gumo's command, energy peas, each with fourth order power, shot towards the zombie controlled by the remnant soul. Is that all you've got? After the initial surprise, the remnant soul quickly calmed down. Immediately, the remnant soul unleashed the indestructible divine ability, instantly transforming into a golden zombie, directly withstanding the barrage of energy peas. Ordinary fourth order energy peas striking the golden zombie were unable to penetrate its defense. Only those top grade fourth order energy peas could cause damage, but this damage was not fatal. However, the sheer number of pea shooters compensated for the lack of damage. The dense attack of energy peas made it impossible for the golden zombie to advance an inch. Seeing this, the remnant soul abandoned his original plan of slaying Guang on the spot, and instead ordered the other zombies to attack and help him share the damage. This move was indeed very effective. This time, the number of zombies was even greater than before, and all were at the nascent soul level. The King He cultivation world could at most block a few, and the rest would need to be handled by Guang. Therefore, Guang could only disperse the pea shooters' firepower to deal with the other zombies, ensuring that these zombies could not break through the defense line. Once such nascent soul level zombies entered the King He cultivation world, it would undoubtedly be a disaster for the King He cultivation world. Die. As the firepower was distributed, the golden zombie controlled by the remnant soul immediately felt the pressure greatly reduced. Immediately, the golden zombie, enduring the remaining pea attacks, charged towards Guang. Seeing this, Gumo's gaze remained calm, and then another spirit plant field appeared. This time, the spirit plant field no longer contained pea shooters, but rather torch tree stumps. Boom 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 boom. The next moment, those torch tree stumps burst into roaring flames. The power of these flames all reached the fourth order level, with several torch tree stumps even having flames that reached the fourth order peak. There was even one torch tree stump whose flames had 3 colors, which was clearly not ordinary flame, but a more powerful strange fire. Whoosh 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 whoosh. With the torch tree stump array in place, the energy peas shot by the pea shooters from behind passed through the flames spewing from the torch tree stumps, were instantly ignited, and then, fiery peas rained down on the zombie horde. The combination of pea shooters and torch tree stumps directly elevated the attack power of the pea shooters by a notch. For example, the combined power of a top grade 4th order pea shooter and a top grade 4th order torch tree stump was already nearing the 5th order soul transformation level of damage. Such damage posed a huge threat to the golden zombie controlled by the remnant soul. If he hadn't used the indestructible divine ability, such an attack would have been enough to completely annihilate him. Roar. The golden zombie under the remnant soul's control suddenly let out a low roar. Immediately, the surrounding zombies gathered, protecting the golden zombie as they charged towards Guang. In the remnant soul's view, as long as Guang, the controller, was eliminated, everything would be fine. Boom 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 boom. One nascent soul level zombie after another was obliterated by the scorching fiery peas, but each time a zombie was destroyed, another would take its place, protecting the golden zombie behind it as it steadily advanced. Gumo's expression remained unchanged as he watched the approaching golden zombie. These zombies were lining up to be killed by him, so what reason did Guang have to be dissatisfied? As for the threat of the golden zombie, Guang had never worried about it since connecting the Dongtian space to the outside world. Die for me. As this summoned wave of zombies was nearly depleted, the golden zombie controlled by the remnant soul finally closed in on Gumo's location. The remnant soul knew that this plan had failed again. But as long as he could eliminate Guang, the culprit, he felt it would all be worth it. Bang! The golden zombie controlled by the remnant soul slammed its fist towards Guang, but very quickly, the golden zombie's fist was blocked by a layer of light. The golden zombie's full power strike caused ripples to spread across the light, but the light remained unbroken. What? Seeing this, the remnant soul was also shocked. With this strike, he had unleashed some profound forbidden techniques he knew, pushing the power of this nascent soul great perfection zombie to its limit, even using the zombie's origin. The remnant soul could confidently say that his attack just now had definitely reached the soul transformation level, yet such a strike was blocked. What blocked the remnant soul's full power strike was Gumo's nut array, specifically a nut array with over a dozen top grade 4th order nuts as its core, supported by hundreds of 4th order nuts. The combined power of over a dozen top grade 4th order nuts was absolutely no problem for blocking a soul transformation level attack. It could be said that Gumo's investment in nuts was definitely the highest. Only with a sufficiently powerful nut array could he protect his numerous plants from threats. And as long as the enemy could not break through the nut array, the plants protected by the array could continue to output damage. Good, 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 I'll remember you. The remnant soul glared ferociously at Gu Mo. For Gu Mo, who had twice ruined his plans, the remnant soul was seething with hatred, and at the same time, extremely wary. Then let me deepen your impression. Gu Mo's tone was calm. After these two exchanges, Gu Mo could basically conclude that it wasn't the zombies that had developed intelligence, but rather that the zombies had been possessed and controlled by someone. This indicated that there was a mastermind behind this zombie tide. Unfortunately, Gu Mo didn't know any powerful seal methods, otherwise he could have tried to seal the consciousness within the zombie. Since he couldn't get any useful clues, Gu Mo could only destroy them more thoroughly. Hearing Gu Mo's words, the remnant soul instantly became vigilant. He scanned his surroundings with his divine sense and quickly discovered several crimson cherry bombs. Boom! The moment the remnant soul discovered the cherry bombs, a force of annihilation erupted, directly engulfing the zombie. The top-grade 4th order cherry bomb, with power nearing 5th order, instantly annihilated the zombie that had lost the protection of the indestructible divine ability. The remnant soul had just used the zombie's origin to unleash an attack that reached the soul transformation level, exhausting the zombie's power, and thus naturally could no longer maintain the indestructible divine ability. This was also why the remnant soul knew his plan had failed when he made his move, because after that one strike, the zombie he controlled would be useless. If sacrificing a nascent soul great perfection zombie could eliminate Gu Mo, the remnant soul would have been very satisfied. However, in the end, nothing was accomplished. Furthermore, the power of annihilation destroyed the zombie's physical body, and also severely wounded the remnant soul, but it wasn't a major problem. Now, a small crack had been torn open in that seal, allowing them to quickly recover. The real problem was how to eliminate Gu Mo, this obstacle. As the zombie controlled by the remnant soul was annihilated, this zombie tide interception battle also came to an end. The local nascent soul true lords and demon kings of the King He cultivation world now looked at Gu Mo with awe. Last time, Gu Mo used his sword cultivator methods to resolve the zombie tide, displaying terrifying combat power that left them deeply shocked. Now, Gu Mo used countless powerful spirit plants to block the zombie tide, which was led by several nascent soul great perfection level zombies. Such combat power, it was estimated, aside from deified transformation zombies, no other zombie could break through Gu Mo's defense line. Quick, quick, quick! In the distant sea, Chi Chunda urged the several nascent soul true lords beside him. Upon learning that the vanished zombie tide had arrived at the King He cultivation world ahead of them, Chi Chunda became extremely anxious. That was a zombie tide led by several nascent soul great perfection level zombies. The King He cultivation world's foundation absolutely could not withstand such power. Arriving even a second earlier now could save more lives in the King He cultivation world, especially since his disciple was still in the King He cultivation world, and he didn't know what the situation was like now. We're here. At the speed of nascent soul true lords, Chi Chunda and the other nascent soul true lords quickly arrived at the King He cultivation world, but they did not feel any chaos. Let's go. Chi Chunda took out a dandelion and blew gently, and the dandelion seeds floated in one direction. Seeing this, Chi Chunda followed the dandelion seeds and continued on his way. Along the way, the tranquility of the King He cultivation world surprised the several nascent soul true lords who had come from afar. Hadn't they heard that the zombie tide had already reached the King He cultivation world? Why was it so quiet? Soon, Chi Chunda and the others arrived at a coast. They were all stunned when they saw the scattered zombie fragments emanating nascent soul aura on the shore. That wave of zombie tide had indeed arrived at the King He cultivation world, but this wave of zombie tide seemed to have already been annihilated. This is a nascent soul great perfection level zombie. A nascent soul true lord carefully picked up a fragment, confirming its origin. A nascent soul great perfection zombie was actually slain. When did the King He cultivation world become so strong? Senior Chi Chunda. Just as Chi Chunda and the others were examining the zombie fragments, a local nascent soul true lord from the King He cultivation world hurried over to greet them. Fighting zombies had one advantage: as long as they saw living beings, they were basically on their side, so there was no need to worry about spies. What happened here? Chi Chunda nodded, then voiced the doubt in his heart. That's all thanks to Lord Gu Mo. Upon hearing someone ask, the local nascent soul true lord of the King He cultivation world immediately recounted the events vividly. He stayed there not only to clean up the zombie fragments but also to introduce the situation of this battle to the senior cultivators from the Tianyuan world. For this, that nascent soul true lord had carefully refined and embellished his story beforehand, making his narration feel immersive. This. Chi Chunda listened to the nascent soul true lord's narration, and his entire being was bewildered. When did his disciple become so formidable? According to the other party's description, as long as a soul transformation level zombie did not appear, the King He cultivation world would remain safe and sound. Let's go back. Chi Chunda let out a long sigh and said to the several nascent soul true lords beside him. They had come to provide support this time, but with Gu Mo stationed in the King He cultivation world, they were simply not needed. Given this, Chi Chunda chose to return to the Tianyuan cultivation world immediately, because the situation in the Tianyuan cultivation world was even more troublesome. You came all this way, aren't you going to see your disciple? He poured all the accumulated sun essence in his hand into the cultivation pot, and immediately, the green upgrade arrow slowly began to grow, eventually completely covering the upgrade arrow. Seeing this, Gu Mo couldn't help but let out a long sigh. To fill this upgrade arrow, Gu Mo had consumed countless amounts of sun essence. Without hesitation, Gu Mo clicked on the green upgrade arrow, and in an instant, a beam of light enveloped the sleeping little sunflower. What happened? Little Sunflower woke up from her sleep, shaking her large flower disc and asking in confusion. Little Sunflower, do you feel any different than before? Gumo asked. Little Sunflower had upgraded, but her appearance didn't seem to have changed much. Different. Little Sunflower pondered for a moment, then a phantom sunflower appeared behind her. This is a primordial spirit manifestation. Seeing the phantom figure behind Little Sunflower, Gumo was stunned. The primordial spirit manifestation was a symbol of a venerable nascent soul. After Little Sunflower advanced to rank 5, she also possessed a primordial spirit manifestation. It was just, what was the use of Little Sunflower's primordial spirit manifestation? He continued to ask Little Sunflower, but unfortunately, Little Sunflower didn't know either. This ability was self-mastered after her upgrade, and Little Sunflower couldn't explain the specific situation. Since Little Sunflower didn't know, Gumo could only figure it out himself. Previously, when he obtained new plants, Gumo also had to figure out their specific effects himself. And to understand the abilities of the rank 5 Little Sunflower, Gumo needed to prepare a rank 5 spiritual field. For this, Gumo had already prepared. The top-grade spirit stone cushion combined with the heaven and earth nascent soul could create an area where the spiritual chi concentration reached rank 5. It was just that this area was very small. If Gumo gathered all the spiritual chi in the Dongtian space, this area could increase, but the cost would be draining the spiritual chi from other spiritual fields, which would affect the plants in those spiritual fields. Unless absolutely necessary, Gumo would not draw spiritual chi from other areas. The top-grade spirit stone cushion and the heaven and earth nascent soul were enough. Of course, this enough was only temporary. That small rank 5 spiritual field could at most only be used by one Little Sunflower. If Gumo had a second rank 5 plant, it would not be enough. However, to have a larger area of rank 5 spiritual field unless Gumizuri could transplant a rank 5 spiritual vein into the Dongtian space, and the Qinghe cultivation world did not have rank 5 spiritual veins. Even in the Tianyuan cultivation world, there were only a few, and they were all core areas of top sects. In the past, it was completely impossible to obtain a rank 5 spiritual vein. After all, a rank 5 spiritual vein was the core of a top sect, how could it be allowed for others to covet? But now there was an opportunity. The Demon Dao 3 sects of the Tianyuan world were now almost wiped out due to the zombie disaster, and the Demon Dao 3 sects all had a rank 5 spiritual vein. Although those 3 rank 5 spiritual veins had been contaminated by death chi, they could still be used as long as they were purified. However, to obtain the Demon sect's rank 5 spiritual vein, the prerequisite was to completely eliminate the zombie disaster, otherwise, everything would be wishful thinking. Gumo was calculating the Demon sect's rank 5 spiritual vein in the Tianyuan cultivation world, while Little Sunflower happily swayed her body in that small rank 5 spiritual field. And Little Sunflower's primordial spirit manifestation also unconsciously appeared, swaying along with her. Gumo stared at Little Sunflower's primordial spirit manifestation, his gaze narrowing, because he saw that Little Sunflower's primordial spirit manifestation was actually also absorbing sun power. There was no sun in the Dongtian space, but the sunlight from the outside could directly enter the Dongtian space. Therefore, in the Dongtian space, it would not affect Little Sunflower's ability to condense sun essence in the slightest. At this moment, Little Sunflower, both her main body and her primordial spirit manifestation, were absorbing sunlight simultaneously. This made Gumo think of a possibility, but whether it was true would only be known in the evening. As the sun's light gradually set, Gumo immediately rushed to Little Sunflower's side and harvested a portion of dual-colored sun essence from her. Indeed, the rank 5 sun essence contains primordial spirit power. Seeing this dual-colored sun essence, Gumo knew he had guessed correctly. The core power of a venerable nascent soul was primordial spirit power. The rank 5 Little Sunflower's primordial spirit manifestation condensed primordial spirit power, while Little Sunflower's main body condensed rank 5 sun essence. After refining the rank 5 sun essence, it was still converted into true essence magical power, but it was purer than the true essence magical power of a nascent soul true lord. There was no difference in the essence of magical power between a nascent soul true lord and a venerable nascent soul. The real difference between the two was in the primordial spirit manifestation. A venerable nascent soul with a primordial spirit manifestation could directly control the power of heaven and earth. The amount of magical power was not very significant for a venerable nascent soul. As long as the primordial spirit manifestation was strong enough, it could control vast heaven and earth power for its own use. Now, Gumo, at the nascent soul realm, with the help of the dual-colored rank 5 sun essence condensed by Little Sunflower, obtained the primordial spirit power that only a venerable nascent soul could possess. As long as Gumo mastered a sufficient amount of primordial spirit power, he could directly condense a primordial spirit manifestation, and at that time, Gumo would be a venerable nascent soul. Even now, Gumo, having mastered a trace of primordial spirit power, could use this trace of primordial spirit power to control the heaven and earth power of an area for a short period, unleashing an attack comparable to that of a venerable nascent soul. Sigh. Exiting that feeling of controlling heaven and earth, Gumo couldn't help but let out a long sigh. To maintain this rank 5 spiritual field where Little Sunflower was located, Gumo's top-grade spirit stone cushion and his heaven and earth nascent soul both had to remain, which was a weakening of Gumo's own combat power. Fortunately, the problem was not big. With the plant battle line, it was fine if Gumo's own combat power decreased. Now, he should gather more rank 5 sun essence first. After accumulating some strength, Guang planned to go to the Tianyuan cultivation world and seize the demon sex rank 5 spiritual vein. Once the Dongtian space had a rank 5 spiritual vein, Guang would be able to increase the number of rank 5 plants, and then he wouldn't be as strapped as he was now. Unknown ruins. Senior, what's wrong? Yao Shifeng looked at the phantom remnant soul, whose current weakness Yao Shifeng could see clearly. Nothing. Although the remnant soul was furious at the moment, he didn't want to show it in front of Yao Shifeng. He was a senior expert, and the necessary demeanor still had to be maintained. Open that seal a bit more. I need to recover. The remnant soul instructed Yao Shifeng. With the power from the seal, the remnant soul could quickly replenish his consumption. Yes. Hearing this, Yao Shifeng acted as instructed, casting a series of magical incantations. Immediately, the crack in the seal began to slowly widen. Seeing this, the remnant soul quickly stepped forward, preparing to absorb the power escaping from the crack. But at this moment, a hint of determination suddenly appeared in Yao Shifeng's eyes. Now was definitely the best time to strike. If he missed it, and the remnant soul recovered, there would be no chance. Immediately, Yao Shifeng changed his hand incantation, quickly rushed towards the remnant soul, and swallowed it in one gulp. It's done. When he completely refined the remnant soul, Yao Shifeng's face couldn't help but reveal a look of ecstasy. At this moment, the big stone weighing on him finally disappeared. What's done? Suddenly, an indifferent voice came out of Yao Shifeng's mouth. Hearing this, Yao Shifeng's expression changed dramatically, but soon Yao Shifeng found that his body was out of his control. You're not dead. Yao Shifeng said with a look of disbelief. He had clearly completely refined that remnant soul just now. Just a small trick. I gave you so many opportunities, and you only decided to act now. How disappointing. Yao Shifeng stretched lazily. It's been a long time since I've had a living physical body. It's truly wonderful. So that's how it is. At this moment, Yao Shifeng understood many things. What the remnant soul said before about not fancying his physical body was a lie. It was just that the remnant soul's power was too weak to possess him. Then the remnant soul kept giving Yao Shifeng opportunities to strike, letting Yao Shifeng refine the remnant soul in turn. This way, the remnant soul could take this opportunity to possess Yao Shifeng. But Yao Shifeng was too cautious and had not acted before, until this time when the remnant soul was at its weakest. Yao Shifeng finally made his move. However, acting at this time was not without any benefits. At least the remnant soul's weakness was real. If it were at any other time, Yao Shifeng would have no ability to resist whatsoever. But now, the remnant soul's weakness gave Yao Shifeng the power to resist. In fact, the remnant soul could have given up this opportunity and chosen a better time, but Yao Shifeng was too cautious. The remnant soul was afraid that if it didn't succeed this time, Yao Shifeng would completely give up, and it would be even harder to find other opportunities then. Of course, if the remnant soul's previous plan to summon zombies had gone smoothly, the remnant soul wouldn't have been in such a hurry. He could have waited until the seal here was lifted and he had recovered more power, then forcefully possessed Yao Shifeng. A physical body that had condensed a demonic pill was such a precious treasure. However, the remnant soul's plan was twice thwarted by Guang. Helplessly, the remnant soul could only take a risky move, contending for the body with Yao Shifeng in his weakest state. Yao Shifeng had a complete divine soul and was fighting on home ground, while the remnant soul, though weak, had a high enough realm and mastered divine soul secret techniques. Therefore, the battle between the two was inextricably linked for a time. It was just that Yao Shifeng's experience in divine soul combat was too weak. Divine soul methods were generally only involved at the venerable nascent soul realm. Yao Shifeng, a golden core cultivator, had no experience in divine soul combat whatsoever and was fighting wildly. Initially, Yao Shifeng could fight back and forth with the remnant soul, but gradually, Yao Shifeng began to fall into a disadvantage, and control of his body was slowly being taken by the remnant soul. Seeing that control of his body was being taken bit by bit, Yao Shifeng finally became ruthless and directly rushed towards the remnant soul, preparing to self-destruct his divine soul. Madman. Seeing this, the remnant soul was also frightened. He didn't want to perish with Yao Shifeng. Helplessly, the remnant soul used his methods to suppress Yao Shifeng's about to self-destruct divine soul, but this act consumed the remnant soul's already limited power, which caused the remnant soul's plan to completely possess Yao Shifeng's physical body to fail. At this moment, Yao Shifeng and the remnant soul, two souls, simultaneously controlled one physical body, which was a unique form of symbiosis. No madness, no survival. Yao Shifeng reigned in the madness in his eyes. He had accurately judged that the other party was unwilling to perish with him, which was why he took the risk. And this act also allowed Yao Shifeng to gain half control of his body, not being completely annihilated by the remnant soul. You're very good. The remnant soul had to admit that this junior was ruthless and decisive. Very well, then I shall give you a stroke of good fortune. The remnant soul came to the seal crack. Now that their two souls controlled one body, if Yao Shifeng didn't cooperate, the remnant soul wouldn't be able to accomplish many things. So, the two needed to reconcile. For this, the remnant soul needed to show some sincerity. For example, helping Yao Shifeng condense a nascent soul. With Yao Shifeng's demonic pill, it would be impossible for him to successfully condense a nascent soul with his own power, but in the remnant soul's eyes, this was no big deal at all. He had many methods that could help Yao Shifeng condense a nascent soul. Of course, he was too weak at the moment and needed to absorb some power from the seal to recover. You'd be so kind. Upon learning that the remnant soul wanted to help him condense a nascent soul, Yao Shifeng expressed disbelief. Heaven knew if the other party would secretly play tricks. If you don't want it, then so be it. The remnant soul said indifferently, helping you condense a nascent soul also wastes my power. Do you think I'm willing? You first help me increase my divine soul power. Yao Shifeng clearly understood that the essence of his resistance against the remnant soul was the divine soul. Only by increasing his divine soul power could Yao Shifeng feel at ease. No problem. The remnant soul nodded, then drew out a wisp of pure divine soul power from the seal crack. Yao Shifeng quickly devoured that wisp of divine soul power, feeling his own divine soul power surge, and Yao Shifeng's heart settled slightly. However, even though he felt his divine soul power greatly increase, Yao Shifeng found that he still couldn't expel the remnant soul from his body. It was clear that the remnant soul had used some special method to completely merge into his body. How about it? As long as you cooperate, there are many more benefits like this. The remnant soul said after Yao Shifeng had completely refined the divine soul power. Good. Yao Shifeng nodded. Although he intended to refuse all honey-coated bullets, Yao Shifeng knew very well that he couldn't do anything to the remnant soul now. Only by constantly becoming stronger could he find an opportunity to break the situation. Then, let's first help you condense a nascent soul. You are too weak now and can't help me. The remnant soul left the ruins, preparing to find a secluded place overseas to help Yao Shifeng break through. A breakthrough with a demonic pill was destined to attract a special heavenly tribulation. He naturally couldn't break through in the King He cultivation world. The other nascent soul true lords and demon kings, the remnant soul didn't fear, he was just afraid of attracting Guang. That was the only person in the entire King He cultivation world who could threaten him. Without the remnant soul causing trouble, the King He cultivation world also entered a period of tranquility. However, this did not include the Tianyuan cultivation world. Or rather, the situation in the Tianyuan cultivation world was constantly deteriorating. With the assistance of the three-soul transformation of the demon sect, the headless corpse's seal was being broken very quickly. This led to a continuous increase in the number and rank of zombies in the Tianyuan cultivation world. Fortunately, so far, there had been no deified transformation zombies. But everyone knew that if a solution could not be found, the appearance of deified transformation zombies would only be a matter of time. Although it had long been speculated that the appearance of a deified transformation zombie was only a matter of time, everyone was still shocked when the first deified transformation zombie appeared. Fortunately, an expert from the Cultivator Alliance acted in time to kill that deified transformation zombie. Such unintelligent zombies, despite possessing powerful combat ability, found it difficult to fully utilize it. The Cultivator Alliance, especially the sect masters of the three top sects, possessed many soul transformation methods. Working together, it was not difficult to eliminate an unintelligent transformation god zombie. What truly made everyone feel tricky was whether more transformation god zombies would appear now that the first one had emerged. Dealing with one transformation god zombie was manageable, but if two or even more appeared, that would be a real big problem. Let's prepare for the worst, said the sect leader of Taking Sect. It was clear that the sect leader of Taking Sect no longer held any hope. The appearance of the deified transformation zombie shattered the last bit of confidence in his heart. I wonder how Old Ancestor and the others are doing. The Valley Master of Sheneng Valley also felt worried. Their only hope now was the soul transformation Old Ancestors who had gone to find a solution. Let the true disciples also participate in the battle, said the sect leader of Yin Yang Sword Sect. They had to exert all their strength. Every minute they held on might bring news from the Old Ancestor. This. Regarding the sect leader of Yin Yang Sword Sect's proposal, the two sect masters of Taking Sect and Sheneng Valley hesitated. The true disciples of each sect were the legacy holders of their Dao traditions. They had considered letting the true disciples leave if the situation turned dire, so as not to sever their sect's Dao legacy. If this zombie disaster isn't resolved, running anywhere will be useless, the sect leader of Yin Yang Sword Sect stated a cruel reality. Alas! Upon hearing this, the two sect masters of Taking Sect and Sheneng Valley sighed deeply. They knew it was the truth. With the addition of the true disciples from each sect, the situation was brought under control, but no one knew how long this situation could be maintained. King He Cultivation World. Master, I found a great place for hide and seek. Little Ruan excitedly found Guang and shared her new discovery. Ruan, you ran out to play again. It's very dangerous outside, Guang said, pinching Ruan's little cheek. Ruan is very powerful. Little Ruan patted her small chest, and what the little girl said was actually not wrong. Ruan's cultivation had already reached foundation establishment grade perfection. Furthermore, the cultivation technique Ruan practiced was not taught by Guang, but rather comprehended by herself. When the little girl slept, the spiritual qi in her body would automatically circulate. Therefore, even if Ruan wandered around every day, her cultivation did not fall behind at all. Besides cultivation, Ruan also mastered various secret arts and techniques with ease. This allowed Ruan, though only in the foundation establishment realm, to possess combat power completely comparable to a golden core cultivator. In the King He cultivation world, no one below the nascent soul true lord realm could truly threaten Ruan. Not to mention that Guang, Yuan Naya and Chu Fifei had all given Ruan many life-saving trump cards. Even if she encountered a nascent soul true lord, Ruan could escape safely. Master, I'm going to find Senior Martial Uncle Naya and Junior Martial Uncle Fifei now to play hide and seek together. Without giving Guang a chance to speak further, Ruan excitedly ran off. Soon after, Yuan Naya and Chu Fifei appeared. Deified transformation zombies have already appeared in the Tianyuan cultivation world, Yuan Naya said, sharing the latest intelligence after the three met. It is said that some cultivators are already evacuating the Tianyuan cultivation world. At that time, the Qinghe cultivation world will become the main target of the zombie attack, Chu Fifei said with a worried expression. The current situation offered no favorable intelligence. Although the Qinghe cultivation world seemed very peaceful now, this peace was protected by Gu Mo alone. Moreover, once the Tianyuan cultivation world collapsed, the Qinghe cultivation world would become the second battlefield. Don't worry, with the foundation of the Tianyuan cultivation world, it won't collapse so quickly. As a true disciple of Sheneng Valley, Gu Mo knew the foundation of a top sect like Sheneng Valley could definitely last for a very long time. What Gu Mo lacked now was time. As long as he had enough time, and once they gathered enough fifth order sun essence, Gu Mo would go to the Tianyuan cultivation world to dig up the demonic sect's fifth order spiritual vein. Once the fifth order spiritual vein was obtained, even if a deified transformation zombie appeared, Gu Mo would have nothing to fear. Master, let's go play hide and seek quickly. Ruan pulled Gu Mo's hand, her eyes full of anticipation. This was Ruan's favorite game. Okay, but you can't run around recklessly anymore. Gu Mo knew that if he didn't play a game with the little girl, she wouldn't give up. Yay! Seeing Gu Mo nod, Ruan excitedly climbed onto Gu Mo's back. Then, she guided Gu Mo and the other two to her newly discovered place to play. Ruan, is this the place you found? Gu Mo and the two women exchanged glances, their eyes filled with shock. The place Ruan found was not a good spot for hide and seek, it was clearly a relic site. Moreover, this relic site was very cleverly hidden, and ordinary methods simply couldn't discover it. Yes, it is. Ruan saw that the place she found surprised Gu Mo and the two women, and a proud expression appeared on her small face. Be careful. Gu Mo picked up Ruan and said to Yuan Naya and Chu Fifei beside him. With that, Gu Mo led the way into the relic site. Speaking of relic sites, Gu Mo thought of the one Fenghua sect discovered. Gu Mo had also sent people to search for it, but after so long, there was no clue. Now, this relic site, in Gu Mo's opinion, was very likely the one Fenghua sect found back then. He just didn't know what the situation was with this relic site. This is. Upon entering the relic site, Gu Mo immediately felt as if he had entered another space. No wonder it was so difficult to find, because this relic site was not located within the Qinghe cultivation world, but in an independent small space. And in this small space, many traces of battle remained. It was clear that a great battle had once erupted here. Connecting this with the pile of scrap metal seen in the Fenghua sect's nascent soul storage bracelet, Gu Mo could now confirm that this was the relic site Fenghua sect had found. Since it was a relic site that had already been explored, Gu Mo did not linger outside and walked directly inwards. Along the way, Gu Mo encountered several restrictions, but with 4th order top-grade tombstone moss Little Black, those restrictions were easily broken by Gu Mo, and without causing any reaction from the relic site. It was only in front of a high platform that Little Black was stopped. It was clear that the restriction covering the high platform was not simple, even 4th order top-grade Little Black could not break it. This high platform should be the core of this relic site. I wonder what treasures are inside. Yuan Naya curiously circled the high platform once. Suddenly, Yuan Naya let out a surprised sound, because she saw a crack on the restriction outside the high platform. Little Black couldn't break a restriction without a crack, but with this crack, Gu Mo felt he could let Little Black try. Receiving Gu Mo's command, Little Black quickly covered the crack, and then slowly tore the crack open. The moment Little Black tore open the crack, Gu Mo's expression changed, because he saw a head on the high platform through the crack, and a hairpin was inserted into the center of the head's eyebrows. The moment the restriction was torn open, the head's eyes began to tremble, and a powerful soul power surged within the high platform. However, as the hairpin emitted a faint glow, it made the head's eyes close again. My lord, have you finally returned? A phantom female figure emerged from the hairpin, her gaze sweeping over Gu Mo and the others through the crack, finally resting on Ruan. Ruan, somewhat at a loss, hid behind Gu Mo. At this moment, Ruan also felt that the hairpin was somewhat familiar, but she had never seen it before. You are not my lord. Who are you, and why do you possess my lord's aura? The phantom figure walked out of the restrictions crack and gazed at Ruan. Senior, Ruan should be your master's bloodline descendant. Gu Mo had already guessed something at this point. Ruan was a clone refined by Gu Mo using mysterious blood, and this mysterious blood was obtained by Fenghua sect from this relic site. As for the origin of this phantom, it should be the spirit treasure of that hairpin. Such a spirit treasure that could condense and form had already exceeded the scope of spiritual artifacts and spirit treasures, it should be the legendary immortal spirit. In other words, that hairpin was an immortal artifact, and it was a complete immortal artifact, not the completely power-lost immortal artifact fragments in Gu Mo's hands. Cultivator, do you know the consequences of your actions? The immortal spirit's gaze swept towards Gu Mo, her tone unfriendly. Although she knew the seal wouldn't last much longer, Gu Mo tearing open a direct opening now directly broke the balance. Now she was using her power to forcefully suppress that head. Once her power was exhausted, this head would break through the seal. Sorry. Upon hearing this, Gumo quickly called Little Black back. As Little Black left, the opening rehealed, returning to its previous cracked state. The seals and restrictions broken by tombstone moss were all reversible. Seeing this, the immortal spirit was also stunned. Clearly, such a method also surprised her greatly. Senior, what is the origin of that head? Although Gumo could already guess that this head and the headless corpse in the Tianyuan cultivation world should be one entity, both this head and that headless corpse were full of unknowns. Now that there was finally an informed person, Gumo naturally wanted to ask clearly. Perhaps he could find clues to resolve this zombie disaster from it. That is a corpse immortal. The immortal spirit was silent for a moment, then spoke. After the immortal spirit's introduction, Gumo understood the general situation. A long time ago, a corpse immortal descended, bringing a zombie catastrophe to this world. And the immortal spirit's master, also an immortal, learned that her hometown was in danger and also descended to fight the corpse immortal. Finally, the immortal spirit's master successfully severed the corpse immortal's head, sealing its head and body separately. However, in that battle, the immortal spirit's master exhausted all her power. Therefore, the power to seal the corpse immortal was borrowed from this world's power. This was also why the cultivation limit of this world continuously declined. It was because the entire world's power was being drawn to suppress that corpse immortal. Senior, where is that immortal now? Now that the corpse immortal was about to break through the seal, if they could find the immortal who sealed the corpse immortal back then, this zombie disaster might be resolved. I have lost contact with my master. The immortal spirit's tone was filled with endless sorrow. An immortal artifact losing contact with its master meant either being abandoned or its master had fallen. Then senior, is there any other way to prevent the corpse immortal from reviving now? Gumo knew things wouldn't be that simple. If that immortal was still alive, he or she should have detected problems with the seal long ago. Since there had been no reaction from that immortal until now, the outcome was obvious. Thus, to resolve this disaster, they could only rely on themselves. As long as the head does not return to its main body, the corpse immortal can be prevented from reviving. The immortal spirit's gaze turned to the high platform, but her power could no longer completely suppress that head. In fact, at this moment, she no longer even had the strength to act. All her power was now being used to suppress that head. This was also why the immortal spirit did not stop Gumo from damaging the seal at the first moment. Fortunately, the seal was not permanently damaged. Senior, to what level can the head's power be suppressed? Gumo pondered for a moment and asked. Soul transformation, but this is meaningless, because it will only last for a few breaths of time at most. Furthermore, suppressing that head's power does not mean it can be easily destroyed. The immortal spirit shook her head. Senior, how much longer can it last now? Gumo continued to ask. As long as the seal is not damaged, it can last for several more years without problem. Although the immortal spirit was unclear about Gumo's intention, she still answered Gumo's question. Because the moment that head broke through the seal would also be the time of her complete demise. Therefore, the immortal spirit also greatly hoped that someone could resuppress the head. After getting the answer he wanted, Gumo left the relic site. Then, he buried potato mines around the relic site. Gumo. Chu Fifei looked at Gumo with a worried expression. Knowing that the source of the zombie disaster in the Tianyuan cultivation world was actually a corpse immortal, the pressure this brought was imaginable. This meant that deified transformation zombies were not the end. In the future, even higher level zombies might appear. Don't worry, I've probably found a way. Gumo handed the sleeping Ruan to Chu Fifei. Before leaving, the immortal spirit had left her master's legacy for Ruan. At this moment, Ruan was sleeping and absorbing that immortal's legacy. And Gumo's questions just now were not without purpose, because he had indeed thought of a way to deal with that head. Returning to Kingla sect. Gumo immediately entered the black mist space and found a seed in the black mist space. Although Gumo had been upgrading plants all these years, he had not stopped acquiring new plants. Every now and then, Gumo would open a blind box. Although most of what he opened were duplicate plants, with enough attempts, new plants would always appear. However, at that time, Gumo was busy upgrading sunflowers, and the new plants did not have a particularly obvious effect on improving Gumo's combat power. Therefore, Gumo stored all the new plants he obtained. And now Gumo felt that the new plant could be used to deal with the corpse immortal's head. Gumo found a spot in the Dongtian space and planted the seeds of the new plant. Soon, the seeds began to take root and sprout. In just a few breaths, a purple plant with a huge mouth appeared before Gumo. Name, carnivorous flower. Rank, grade 1 low grade. Effect, devour. Planting conditions, none. The new plant Gumo used to deal with the corpse immortal's head was this carnivorous flower. With the carnivorous flower's devouring ability, he could directly swallow the corpse immortal's head, eliminating future troubles. Of course, the carnivorous flower can only devour targets of the same rank or lower, it cannot devour targets that exceed its realm. This is why Gumo had not cultivated this carnivorous flower before. After all, for Gumo, his combat power was already unrivaled among those of the same rank. It was faster for him to directly kill enemies than to rely on the carnivorous flower's devouring. However, the corpse immortal's head clearly could not be dealt with by ordinary means. But if that immortal spirit could suppress the corpse immortal's head's power level to soul transformation, then Gumo only needed to upgrade the carnivorous flower to 5th order to directly swallow the corpse immortal's head. Moreover, the carnivorous flower does not require spiritual fields to grow. It can obtain the nutrients it needs by devouring prey, so its demand for spiritual fields becomes negligible. This was definitely good news for Guang, who only had a small patch of 5th order spiritual field. Otherwise, if the carnivorous flower occupied his only small patch of 5th order spiritual field, Guang would not be able to obtain 5th order sunflower essence later on. After observing the carnivorous flower's condition, Guang immediately transplanted it into a cultivation pot. Next, what Guang needed to do was upgrade the carnivorous flower to 5th order. And this speed had to be fast, because Guang was also worried that if the time dragged on, the immortal spirit would not be able to suppress the corpse immortal's head. Once the corpse immortal's head broke through the seal, the Qinghe cultivation world would definitely be the first to suffer. Under the nourishment of high-rank sunflower essence, the carnivorous flower's rank increased rapidly. When the carnivorous flower entered 4th order, it also developed intelligence. For this, Guang named the carnivorous flower Xiaozi, Little Purple, because its color was predominantly purple. 1 month later, following Little Flower, Guang's second 5th order plant was born. To quickly raise Xiaozi's rank to 5th order, Guang gave all the 5th order sunflower essence condensed by Little Flower to Xiaozi during this period. In addition, a large amount of 4th order sunflower essence was also given to Xiaozi. After entering 5th order, Xiaozi, like Little Flower, also condensed a faint image of a primordial spirit Dharma idol. This meant that Xiaozi could not only devour physical entities but also illusory souls. After Xiaozi successfully entered 5th order, Guang quickly rushed towards the ruins and met the immortal spirit again. "You found a way to deal with that corpse immortal's head." Looking at Guang, who appeared again after only a month, the immortal spirit's face was filled with astonishment. Even her master could not destroy the corpse immortal's head and could only seal it in the end. But this young man, who was only in the nascent soul realm, claimed to have a way to deal with the corpse immortal's head, which was indeed hard to believe. "Yes, but I still need Senior to first suppress the corpse immortal's head's power to the soul transformation level." Guang nodded. At this moment, Guang also felt a bit uneasy. After all, this matter was theoretically feasible, but it needed to be actually attempted. If the corpse immortal's head seal could still last for a long time, Guang would certainly not take such a risk. But the problem was that the immortal spirit could no longer suppress the corpse immortal's head. In this situation, rather than waiting for death, it was better to take the initiative. So be it. The immortal spirit clearly had the same idea. No matter what method it was, as long as it was a method, she was willing to try it. This was certainly better than waiting for death. Seeing the immortal spirit nod, Guang took out the tombstone moss, Little Black, and tore open the crack on the seal. Then, Guang entered the seal. Feeling someone appear, the corpse immortal's head reacted. However, the immortal spirit resuppressed it, and that suppressive power grew stronger and stronger, continuously suppressing the corpse immortal's head's power. The corpse immortal's head did not resist. After all, this suppression would not last long and would only waste power in vain. The more power the immortal spirit consumed, the faster the corpse immortal's head would break free. Xiaozi. When the corpse immortal's head's power level entered the soul transformation level, Guang quickly connected to the Dongqian space. The next moment, a purple maw covered in sharp thorns emerged from the void realm, then swallowed the corpse immortal's head in one gulp. In an instant, the corpse immortal's head's aura in the high platform immediately vanished. And in Gumo's Dongqian space, Xiaozi was puffing her cheeks and constantly chewing. However, Xiaozi's chewing process seemed very difficult, but the corpse immortal's head could not break free from Xiaozi's mouth. As Xiaozi chewed, a large amount of spiritual qi flowed into the underground spiritual vein through Xiaozi's roots. This scene filled Gumo with pleasant surprise. Clearly, this ability of Xiaozi was unknown to Gumo. The carnivorous flower devours targets and transforms them into nutrients for its own growth. If the target contains too much power, the carnivorous flower will expel the spiritual qi it cannot digest in time. And the head of a corpse immortal, the power contained within it is immense, almost immeasurable. If Xiaozi could expel even 1/10 of the corpse immortal's head's power, the spiritual qi rank of the Dongqian space would definitely increase by several levels. By then, let alone 5th order spiritual fields, there might even be 6th order spiritual fields. Of course, amidst the surprise, Gumo also had to face a reality. With Xiaozi's current digestive ability, it would take several hundred or even 1,000 years to completely digest a corpse immortal's head. Fortunately, this was just an unexpected bonus. The true benefit of Xiaozi devouring the corpse immortal's head was that it completely resolved this huge hidden danger. This. As the corpse immortal's head was devoured, the immortal spirit's eyes were filled with shock. The corpse immortal's head, which even her master couldn't resolve, was actually solved by someone. "Senior, what are your plans next?" Gumo's gaze turned to the immortal spirit. This was an immortal artifact. Although the immortal artifact's power had been greatly consumed during the long years of suppressing the corpse immortal's head, and it no longer possessed the might of an immortal artifact, the knowledge in this immortal spirit's mind alone was priceless. "Since Master is no longer here, I want to stay with Master's bloodline descendant and help her embark on the immortal path." The immortal spirit thought for a moment and said, "Of course, if you have anything, I will also do my best to help." The immortal spirit naturally did not forget Gumo, the meritorious person who helped her out of her predicament. If it weren't for Ruan, that Master's bloodline descendant, the immortal spirit might have followed Gumo. But with Ruan present, the immortal spirit naturally prioritized following Ruan. Gumo was already very satisfied with the immortal spirit's promise. After all, the immortal spirit's true form was a female hairpin, and Gumo, a big man, was indeed not too suitable. Overseas, a certain uninhabited island. At this moment, the island was full of traces of rampant lightning, and in the center of the island lay a charred corpse. However, the rise and fall of the charred corpse's chest proved that this was not a corpse, but a living person. Whoosh! Suddenly, the corpse got up. At the same time, large pieces of charred flesh on the corpse peeled off, revealing new skin. This is your method? I was almost killed by you. Yao Shifeng said with lingering fear. Although he had long known that his evil pill's breakthrough would attract a special heavenly tribulation, Yao Shifeng had not expected to attract the most terrifying purple heaven divine lightning. However, the remnant soul's methods were indeed extraordinary, helping Yao Shifeng block the first few bolts of purple heaven divine lightning. But at the last bolt, the remnant soul suddenly became distracted, which truly put Yao Shifeng in a terrible situation. Fortunately, Yao Shifeng did not completely trust the remnant soul and had prepared some backup plans himself, which allowed him to barely survive. Shut up! Suddenly, the remnant soul's irritable voice came, and in its irritable tone, there was also a hint of fear. Because, just now, the remnant soul found that it could no longer sense the existence of its head. It wasn't that it was resealed, but that it was completely undetectable. The remnant soul had originally planned to break the seal and retrieve its head from the seal after Yao Shifeng successfully made a breakthrough. Then, its head would go to the Tianyuan cultivation world and fuse with its main body, allowing it to be completely resurrected. But now that its head was gone, resurrection was naturally impossible. That head was not just a head, it also contained his sealed primordial spirit and soul. No, there's still hope. The remnant soul tried to calm itself. This remnant soul had escaped, so its primordial spirit and soul might not have completely disappeared. Let's go to the Tianyuan cultivation world. After a long silence, the remnant soul spoke. Originally, after Yao Shifeng successfully made a breakthrough, they were supposed to return to the Qinghe cultivation world. But now the remnant soul no longer dared to go back. If it were to encounter the existence that completely eliminated its head, the remnant soul feared that it would end up with its soul flying away and spirit scattering. Alright. Although he didn't understand the remnant soul's decision, Yao Shifeng knew that even if he became a nascent soul true lord, he still couldn't resist the remnant soul now. Immediately, Yao Shifeng got up and transformed into a black light, disappearing into the sky. Qinglu sect. Senior, are you saying there's a larger cultivation world outside? Gu Mo, Chu Fifei, Yuan Naya and Ruan were currently listening to the immortal spirit recount matters beyond this world. That's right. Among the 3,000 great worlds, this is just one small world within the Cloud Dream Great World. There are many, many such small worlds. However, because a master like mine, an immortal, was born here, it is considered a relatively famous existence among small worlds. The immortal spirit nodded, her words filled with adoration for her master. Then, Senior, how should the zombie disaster in this realm be resolved? Gu Mo continued to ask, can Senior also suppress the headless corpse's power to the soul transformation level? Now that the corpse immortal's head was resolved by Gu Mo, but the corpse immortal's headless corpse was still continuously creating zombies, making the situation in the Tianyuan cultivation world increasingly perilous. Most of the corpse immortal's power is within its main body. The head only contained primordial spirit and soul power. With my current strength, I cannot suppress the corpse immortal's main body. The immortal spirit shook her head, then frowned. It's just that master should have left many methods back then, sealing the corpse immortal's body. Why would they fail? Upon hearing this, Gu Mo informed her of what he knew about the demonic sect's soul transformation quietly eroding the seal. Self-inflicted harm. Upon hearing this, the immortal spirit was speechless. The demonic sect's soul transformation had spent who knows how many years, slowly eroding the seal little by little. No matter how strong a seal was, it couldn't withstand such consumption. This zombie disaster, rather than being a natural disaster, should be considered a man-made calamity. But the disaster caused by the demonic sect now had to be borne by everyone. Master's methods should not be limited to these. Once I recover some strength, I will activate the contingencies master left behind. With the corpse immortal's head gone, it is now just a body with empty power. Resealing it should not be difficult. The immortal spirit thought for a moment and said. What she feared most was the corpse immortal's head. Now that the head had been resolved by Gu Mo, the threat level of the corpse immortal's body was not as great. After all, no matter how strong the power, if no one controls it, it's just a disorganized mess. Thank you, Senior. Hearing that the immortal spirit was willing to act, Gu Mo was delighted. By then, he would follow the immortal spirit and conveniently dig up the demonic sect's fifth order spiritual vein. Relying on the carnivorous flower to digest the head and release spiritual chi was too slow, it was faster to directly dig up a fifth order spiritual vein. In the future, when Gu Mo becomes stronger and continues to raise the carnivorous flower's rank, the carnivorous flower's digestion speed should also accelerate. Senior, can this help you recover your power? Gu Mo took out a portion of fifth order sunflower essence. The situation in the Tianyuan cultivation world was already grim, and Gu Mo wanted the immortal spirit to go as soon as possible, but if the immortal spirit's power didn't recover, going would be useless. Therefore, after the immortal spirit recognized Ruan as her master, Gu Mo took out the fifth order sunflower essence. Although Ruan was an individual with independent consciousness, Ruan's essence was an incarnation refined by Gu Mo. The immortal spirit recognizing Ruan as her master, to some extent, was equivalent to recognizing Gu Mo as her master. The immortal spirit had already discovered this when she recognized Ruan Ruan as her master, but she didn't say anything because she also knew Ruan Ruan's origin. If it weren't for Gu Mo's actions, Master's only bloodline wouldn't exist. It could be said that the immortal spirit still needed to thank Gu Mo. Yes. The immortal spirit observed the sunflower essence in Gu Mo's hand, a hint of surprise in her eyes. The immortal spirit had seen higher rank sunflower crystals than this sunflower essence, but the sunflower essence Gu Mo took out was the purest she had ever seen. Such pure sunflower essence was a rare treasure in itself. With the assistance of Gu Mo's sunflower essence, 3 months later, the immortal spirit's power recovered to a level where she could activate the contingencies left by her master. Immediately, Gu Mo no longer hesitated and set off directly for the Tianyuan cultivation world. In just 3 months, the situation in the Tianyuan cultivation world had changed again. Deified transformation zombies appeared from time to time, causing the Cultivator Alliance to retreat steadily. At this moment, the Cultivator Alliance could only huddle within the 3 top sects, relying on the 3 top sects sect protecting grand arrays for defense. 9 Serenity Domain. As the seal site of the Headless Corpse, and also the place with the most concentrated death chi, powerful zombies were born in the dense death chi and then wandered around. This place had clearly become a forbidden land for living beings. But on this day, living beings descended upon this place. Feeling the aura of living beings, the zombies became agitated and surged towards the appearing living beings. Humph. Suddenly, a cold snort sounded. Subsequently, those zombies knelt down one after another, as if they had seen their king. These zombies actually listened to you. A curious voice emerged from the figure, breaking the sense of superiority. Shut up, this body is under my control now. The remnant soul snorted coldly, and with that, the remnant soul controlled Yao Shifeng's body and walked deeper into the 9 Serenity Domain. Along the way, the zombies retreated and bowed down. These zombies were all condensed from the power of the remnant soul's main body, and this power was naturally under the remnant soul's control. It was no exaggeration to say that the remnant soul could decide the survival of these zombies with just a thought. What's going on? At the core of the 9 Serenity Domain, 3 demon sect soul transformation cultivators, sensing the situation outside, all rose to their feet. In an instant, monstrous death chi overflowed from their bodies. Currently, these 3 demon sect soul transformation cultivators had completely transformed into zombies, but their consciousness had not dissipated. In addition, after becoming zombies, the combat power of the 3 demon sect soul transformation cultivators had also received a huge boost. Who are you? Soon, the 3 demon sect soul transformation cultivators saw a figure walking leisurely, and feeling the vital energy within his body, expressions of shock involuntarily appeared on their faces. The current 9 Serenity Domain was a forbidden zone for living beings. Even before they became zombies, they wouldn't dare to trespass. Why do you not kneel when you see me? The remnant soul looked indifferently at the 3 soul transformation cultivators. You. A nascent soul cultivator opening his mouth and telling 3 soul transformation cultivators to kneel would not be met with a good expression from anyone. If it weren't for the fact that he entered the 9 Serenity Domain so easily and exuded something extraordinary, the 3 soul transformation cultivators would have probably already attacked to teach him what respect means. Before the 3 demon sect soul transformation cultivators could react, an inexplicable sense of unease rose in their hearts, and this feeling of unease continued to grow, finally turning into terror. It wasn't until the 3 soul transformation cultivators bowed down that the terror in their hearts subsided. At this moment, the 3 soul transformation cultivators exchanged glances, and both saw shock in the other's eyes. Ignoring the shocked soul transformation cultivators, the remnant soul continued forward, finally arriving before the headless corpse. Is this your main body? Yao Shifeng looked at the headless corpse before him, his heart filled with shock. Facing the headless corpse directly, Yao Shifeng felt his soul trembling. It was a tremor brought about by a huge difference in life levels. That's right, so, do you still think I would covet your body? The remnant soul snorted coldly. Hee. Hearing this, Yao Shifeng let out a perfunctory laugh, but inwardly, he was thinking, he'd be a fool to believe that. Ignoring Yao Shifeng's sarcastic remarks, the remnant soul's consciousness directly entered the headless corpse. The next moment, the lifeless headless corpse actually showed signs of revival. This is. Seeing this, the 3 demon sect soul transformation cultivators were horrified, and at the same time, they vaguely guessed the origin of the person before them. It must be related to the head of the headless corpse. Rumble. As the signs of revival within the headless corpse grew stronger, the dormant headless corpse suddenly rose. In an instant, a headless corpse, like a towering mountain, stood in the 9 Serenity Domain. At first glance, the headless corpse didn't seem very large, which was due to the seal. At this moment, the seal on the headless corpse had been mostly worn away. Now, with the remnant soul returning to control the headless corpse, a slight struggle directly broke the seal. After breaking the seal, the headless corpse also revealed its true Dharma body. The bottomless 9 Serenity Domain only reached the headless corpse's waist, and the clouds in the sky merely floated at its chest. The seal on the headless corpse is broken. The appearance of such a massive headless corpse was visible to almost the entire Tianyuan cultivation world. At that moment, a feeling of despair arose in the hearts of all cultivators. However, after the headless corpse broke the seal, it just stood there quietly, with no subsequent actions. It wasn't that the headless corpse didn't want to make subsequent moves, but rather it couldn't. Because after breaking the seal, the remnant soul discovered that he simply couldn't control his main body. The headless corpse's main body was an immortal, and the power within it was immense, far beyond what a small remnant soul could command. Helpless, the remnant soul could only withdraw from his main body and return to Yao Shifeng's body. For now, he could only control a nascent soul cultivator like Yao Shifeng. Why are you back? Yao Shifeng felt the remnant soul return and asked curiously. He had thought that after the remnant soul returned to his main body, he wouldn't come back. After all, according to the remnant soul, that was his true main body. Humph. Hearing this, the remnant soul snorted coldly, not answering. At this moment, the remnant soul was pondering a solution. The only way to regain control of his main body was to increase his own power. However, increasing soul power was very difficult. But the remnant soul knew many soul refining techniques. As long as he obtained enough souls and refined them into soul pills, he could quickly make up for the deficiency in his soul power. As for where these souls would come from, it would naturally be harvested from this small world. Now that his main body had broken the seal, although he couldn't control it, the power emanating from it could create a large number of zombies. These zombies would be enough to sweep across this world. Once the souls of the mortals and cultivators in this small world were collected, it should allow him to barely control his main body. At that time, he would go to other small worlds to continue harvesting souls until he fully recovered. Senior, that is. Gu Mo, who was coming from the Qinghe cultivation world, had just arrived at the Tianyuan cultivation world when he saw the majestic headless giant in the distance, and his heart involuntarily skipped a beat. That corpse immortal actually still has a remnant soul. We are one step too late. The immortal spirit's expression was solemn. A corpse immortal without a soul, no matter how strong, posed little threat. But if that corpse immortal still retained a trace of a remnant soul, then the level of threat would rise sharply. Even if that remnant soul couldn't fully control the main body, as long as it could slightly utilize some of the main body's power, then resealing it would become extremely difficult. Senior, what should we do next? Gu Mo asked. We can only continuously weaken the corpse immortal's power, and then seal it. But once the corpse immortal's main body's power is weakened, that remnant soul will be able to directly control the weakened main body, which will also be a great threat. The immortal spirit frowned. The appearance of the remnant soul had completely disrupted her plans. Facing this situation, Gu Mo was indecisive for a moment. Finally, Gu Mo decided to return to Sheneng Valley first. Since it concerned the entire Tianyuan cultivation world, he would let the cultivators of the Tianyuan cultivation world decide together. So many zombies. On the way to Sheneng Valley, Gu Mo saw zombies covering the mountains and plains. Although most of them were not very strong, their numbers were simply too vast. As they continuously approached Sheneng Valley, the number of zombies kept increasing, and more powerful zombies also appeared. It was clear that those powerful zombies had gone to besiege the major sects. Among them, Gu Mo saw a deified transformation zombie. Fortunately, Sheneng Valley's sect protecting Grand Array was strong enough. If it were a nascent soul sect, facing a deified transformation zombie, it simply couldn't withstand it. The deified transformation zombie blocking the gate not only prevented people from leaving Sheneng Valley but also blocked Gu Mo, who wanted to enter. Do you want me to act? The immortal spirit asked. No need, senior, your power must be saved for sealing that corpse immortal. Leave this to me. Gu Mo shook his head. Gu Mo could still deal with a mindless transformation god zombie, and these zombies were a threat to others. But to Gu Mo, these were all treasures. You two, step back a bit. Gu Mo said to Chu Fifei and Ruan beside him. This time, only Chu Fifei and Ruan came with him to the Tianyuan cultivation world, while Yuan Nai remained in the Qinghe cultivation world. Because Yuan Nai had an important task, which was to set up a super formation covering the entire Qinghe cultivation world. The formation's content was provided by the immortal spirit and was an immortal formation. However, this immortal formation had been modified to reduce the requirements for its setup and expand its area, trading quantity for quality. Once this formation was completed, it would completely isolate the zombies outside the Qinghe cultivation world. Of course, setting up this super formation would require enormous manpower and resources. Fortunately, the Qinglo sect in the current Qinghe cultivation world was already the undisputed leader. With the Qinglo sect taking the lead, the progress of this matter was not an issue. Of course, the premise was that before the grand formation was completed, the Tianyuan cultivation world must be able to withstand the zombie tide and prevent it from overflowing. Otherwise, if the zombie tide arrived before the Qinghe cultivation world completed the grand formation, it would be troublesome. Okay. Chu Fifei picked up Ruan, and a cloud of smoke enveloped them both, completely isolating their living aura. Although there was a transformation god zombie, Chu Fifei was not worried that Gu Mo would be in trouble. After all, there was still senior immortal spirit as a backup. After Chu Fifei left with Ruan, Gu Mo quickly rushed into the zombie tide. He did not directly attack the transformation god zombie but instead targeted a nascent soul great perfection zombie. Feeling Gu Mo approaching, the nascent soul great perfection zombie roared and charged at Gu Mo. But before the nascent soul great perfection zombie could get close, a purple carnivorous flower covered in thorns appeared and directly swallowed the nascent soul great perfection zombie in one gulp. That was a 4th order carnivorous flower. Little Purple, who was 5th order, was still slowly digesting the corpse immortal's head. Little Purple would be unable to act for a long time, so Gu Mo had recultivated a batch of 4th order carnivorous flowers. Gu Mo's combat power was absolutely effortless against nascent soul level zombies. But letting the carnivorous flowers devour those nascent soul level zombies allowed the carnivorous flowers to replenish spiritual chi while digesting the zombies. One could say that these zombies, in Gu Mo's eyes, were moving sources of spiritual qi. With the headless corpse breaking through the seal, Gu Mo currently couldn't dig for fifth-order spiritual veins in the demon sect. He could only use the carnivorous flowers to devour zombies, and then rely on the spiritual qi replenished by the carnivorous flowers to increase the spiritual qi in his Dongqian space. Fourth-order carnivorous flowers could completely digest nascent soul-level zombies in just a few hours, after which they could continue to devour. If it were golden core-level zombies, a fourth-order carnivorous flower could probably digest them instantly. Each time a carnivorous flower digested a zombie, it would replenish a portion of spiritual qi. How could the spiritual qi in the Dongqian space not reach fifth order with this? For this, Gu Mo spent a large sum of sun essence, cultivating dozens of fourth-order carnivorous flowers, and hundreds of third-order carnivorous flowers. Gu Mo strolled through the zombie horde, feeding almost all the nascent soul great perfection and nascent soul late-stage zombies to the carnivorous flowers. As for the nascent soul early and middle-stage zombies, they could only be abandoned. There were simply too many nascent soul level zombies. Thinking about it, if there weren't so many nascent soul level zombies, they wouldn't be able to block the gate of a top sect like Sheneng Valley. As for the deified transformation zombie, Gu Mo always walked around it. These zombies had no intelligence. Gu Mo activated his breath concealment technique to suppress his living aura. As long as he didn't get too close, the transformation god zombie wouldn't notice him. After dealing with these nascent soul level zombies, Gu Mo would then deal with the deified transformation zombie. It was a pity that Gu Mo currently hadn't been able to cultivate a second fifth-order carnivorous flower, otherwise, this deified transformation zombie would just be a one-bite affair. The number of zombies has decreased. Inside Sheneng Valley, someone quickly noticed that the number of zombies outside was decreasing. Immediately, a nascent soul elder came out to investigate. It happened that this nascent soul elder who came out to investigate was Chi Chunda. After all, Chi Chunda had many methods and strong life-saving abilities, so he naturally took on the task of investigation. "You brat, when did you come back?" Chi Chunda left the Sheneng Valley sect protecting Grand Array, avoided the transformation god zombie, and then saw Gu Mo wantonly harvesting zombies in the distance. "Just arrived." Gu Mo waved to Chi Chunda, signaling Chi Chunda to help lure a wave of zombies. His third-order carnivorous flowers were still waiting to be fed. "Is this your newly cultivated carnivorous flower?" Chi Chunda looked at the purple spirit plant that was devouring zombies one after another, then thought of carnivorous flowers. Carnivorous flowers were also a type of combat spirit plant, and many Lingzi masters cultivated them. "Something like that." Gu Mo nodded. The carnivorous flower and that carnivorous flower were indeed somewhat similar, but their abilities were absolutely worlds apart. Such fast devouring speed. Because the third-order carnivorous flowers were all third-order top-grade, golden core-level zombies could be completely digested very quickly after being swallowed, and then they could continue to devour. Carnivorous flowers would upgrade after devouring a sufficient number of prey. This was also the only plant that could upgrade without a cultivation flower pot so far. But Gu Mo ultimately chose to use cultivation flower pots to upgrade the carnivorous flowers, and let the carnivorous flowers replenish as much spiritual qi as possible from their digestion. When the spiritual qi in the Dongqian space increased, the sun flowers could produce more sun essence. At that time, this sun essence could be used to upgrade the carnivorous flowers, and this efficiency would definitely be faster than the carnivorous flowers upgrading through devouring. Of course, Gu Mo's ultimate goal was to raise the spiritual qi in the Dongqian space to fifth order. Currently, one portion of fifth order sun essence per day was simply not enough. The number of zombies continuously decreased, which eventually attracted the attention of the transformation god zombie. Although these zombies had no intelligence, some instincts still existed, such as the craving for living beings and the reliance on death qi. The decrease in the number of zombies led to a reduction in the concentration of death qi in this area, which naturally attracted the transformation god zombie's attention. The final feast is finally here. Gu Mo stared at the transformation god zombie in the distance, feeling a bit eager to try. A fourth-order carnivorous flower couldn't devour a deified transformation zombie, but if the deified transformation zombie was severely injured and its power dropped to the nascent soul level, the carnivorous flower would probably be able to devour it. "Watch out!" Seeing the transformation god zombie turn its gaze their way, Chi Chunda quietly warned. Although the transformation god zombie lacked intelligence, its power was genuinely at the soul transformation realm. Carelessness could lead to disaster. Hearing this, Gu Mo nodded. He naturally wouldn't confront a transformation god zombie head-on, especially since his heaven and earth nascent soul was currently gathering heaven and earth spiritual qi in the Dongqian space, limiting his combat power. Of course, while Gu Mo's main body's combat power was limited, it didn't mean his overall combat power was limited. Or rather, ever since he acquired the fifth-order sunflower, Gu Mo's plant-based combat power had experienced a small leap. The reason it was only a small leap was due to the lack of sufficient fifth-order spirit plant fields. If Gu Mo could have a slightly larger fifth-order spirit plant field, his plant-based combat power would experience a significant leap. But even a small leap was enough to make Gu Mo fearless of an unintelligent transformation god zombie. Looking at the approaching transformation god zombie, Gu Mo took out a large cherry and threw it over. It was a fourth-order low-grade cherry bomb. These types of disposable plants possessed power that transcended their own realm. The power unleashed by a fourth-order low-grade cherry bomb could definitely reach the fifth-order soul transformation realm, and only then could it cause damage to the transformation god zombie, whose physical body defense was astonishing. Boom! An unintelligent zombie naturally couldn't detect any danger from the fruit Gu Mo threw. It crashed directly into it without dodging or evading. The cherry bomb impacted the transformation god zombie, and the instantaneously annihilating power enveloped it. It had to be said that the physical body defense of a soul transformation realm zombie was indeed terrifyingly strong. Taking a direct hit from a 4th order low-grade cherry bomb only tore a few gashes in its body. However, the transformation god zombie's aura had significantly decreased. It was clear that the transformation god zombie had consumed a lot of death chi to resist the cherry bomb's attack. These changes in the transformation god zombie deeply shocked Chi Chunda. When the transformation god zombie first appeared, Chi Chunda had tried to attack it to test the strength of this soul transformation realm zombie, so he could provide accurate intelligence to the sect. This would allow them to formulate appropriate countermeasures. At that time, Chi Chunda deeply felt the power of the soul transformation realm zombie, especially its physical body defense. Chi Chunda had used all his methods but still failed to break through the transformation god zombie's defense. Yet, Gu Mo had now used a special spirit plant to directly break the transformation god zombie's defense. As a Lingzi master, the spirit plants he cultivated were also part of his combat power. Gu Mo now using spirit plants to break through the transformation god zombie's defense, didn't this imply that Gu Mo already possessed soul transformation realm combat power? The thought of his disciple actually possessing soul transformation realm combat power, how could this not shock Chi Chunda? Roar! The injured transformation god zombie was thoroughly enraged. Immediately, the transformation god zombie roared and lunged at Gu Mo. Seeing this, Chi Chunda's heart tightened. Although he knew that these zombies were slow and difficult to threaten them, facing a lunging transformation god zombie still brought immense pressure to Chi Chunda. Gu Mo, on the other hand, appeared very calm, because Gu Mo knew his own methods and naturally wasn't afraid of this transformation god zombie. Since the cherry bomb's effect wasn't too obvious, Gu Mo decided to switch to another. Immediately, a bright red large chili appeared in Gu Mo's hand. Snap! Crushing the 4th order low-grade fiery chili in his hand, in an instant, a scorching fiery dragon emerged from Gu Mo's hand and pounced towards the transformation god zombie. The fiery dragon condensed by the fiery chili coiled around the transformation god zombie, continuously scorching its body and burning away the death chi within the transformation god zombie's body. And this death chi was the source of the transformation god zombie's power. With its death chi burned away, the transformation god zombie's realm was slowly decreasing. This was only the case for zombies completely condensed from death chi, where their realm would decrease due to death chi being burned away. If it were a normal soul transformation realm cultivator, as long as the injury didn't harm their origin, their realm would fundamentally not decrease due to injury. The transformation god zombie's death chi was continuously consumed, and finally, the transformation god zombie could no longer maintain its soul transformation realm power, dropping to the nascent soul great perfection realm. It was at this moment that a purple maw full of sharp teeth appeared, directly swallowing the zombie whose power realm had fallen. As long as it was at the nascent soul realm, a 4th order carnivorous flower could swallow them one by one. The only difference was that a 4th order low-grade carnivorous flower would take a bit longer to digest a nascent soul great perfection realm zombie, but even at its longest, it would only be half a day. In the future, when the carnivorous flower's grade was higher, its digestion speed would also increase. Ah, this is... Looking at the transformation god zombie swallowed whole by the purple carnivorous flower, Chi Chunda was somewhat slow to react. This transformation god zombie was a fellow that had always given the sect a headache. Although the zombie was slow, it was more than enough to block the gate. And with the soul transformation old ancestor of Sheneng Valley absent, nascent soul realm cultivators simply couldn't break through the transformation god zombie's defense. As for the soul transformation realm methods within the valley, they naturally couldn't be easily used unless absolutely necessary. Based on these factors, this transformation god zombie had effectively blocked the gate of Sheneng Valley, preventing Sheneng Valley from going out to support other sects. Now, this troublesome transformation god zombie had been resolved by Gu Mo. During this time, Gu Mo only threw out two spirit plants whose power reached the soul transformation realm. If the previous large cherry might have been obtained by Gu Mo through an opportunity, then with the fiery dragon transformed from Gu Mo's large chili, this was enough to prove that Gu Mo had truly cultivated spirit plants whose power reached the soul transformation realm. Even if the spirit plant's aura wasn't 5th order, a 4th order low grade being able to unleash 5th order power was even more shocking. Master, let the people of the sect clear out the remaining zombies, Gu Mo said to the dazed Chi Chunda. Currently, all the carnivorous flowers were digesting the swallowed zombies and wouldn't be able to continue devouring for a short period. However, with the transformation god zombie and those nascent soul great perfection and late stage zombies all dealt with by Gu Mo, the rest no longer posed much of a threat. Good. Hearing this, Chi Chunda took out a communication talisman and sent a message. Subsequently, Sheneng Valley's sect protecting Grand Array activated, and the sect disciples flew out one by one, heading towards the remaining zombies to kill them. Good, 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 I never thought that another venerable nascent soul would emerge from my Sheneng Valley. The Valley Master of Sheneng Valley came before Gu Mo, his expression filled with excitement. Valley Master, this junior is not yet a soul transformation realm cultivator, Gu Mo corrected him. His true cultivation was only at the nascent soul early stage, just one step away from soul transformation. That's right, although Gu Mo's realm was only at the nascent soul early stage, when he successfully cultivated the 5th order sunflower, he was just one final step away from soul transformation. This step was to refine enough 5th order sun essence, and then, with the help of the primordial spirit power within the 5th order sun essence, condense a primordial spirit dharma idol. At that time, Gu Mo would be able to skip the nascent soul middle stage, late stage, and great perfection, directly entering the soul transformation realm. But Gu Mo naturally couldn't speak of these things to outsiders. Not a soul transformation realm cultivator, but better than one. As the actual controller of the sect protecting Grand Array, the Valley Master of Sheneng Valley had naturally witnessed firsthand Gu Mo using powerful spirit plants to eliminate the transformation god zombie. Although that transformation god zombie wasn't a soul transformation realm cultivator in the true sense, Gu Mo being able to eliminate this transformation god zombie meant he at least possessed some of the power of a soul transformation realm cultivator. Therefore, calling Gu Mo a venerable nascent soul was barely acceptable. Even if he wasn't one now, it was highly probable that Gu Mo would become a venerable nascent soul in the future. Even if he couldn't become a venerable nascent soul, the powerful spirit plants Gu Mo cultivated possessed the combat power of a soul transformation realm cultivator. As they spoke, the zombies near Sheneng Valley were completely cleared, and suddenly, the surrounding environment improved significantly. But everyone knew this was only temporary, and new zombies would soon appear. But at least for this period, everyone could catch their breath. Valley Master, can you contact the people of Taking Sect and Yin Yang Sword Sect? Gu Mo asked as he followed the Valley Master into the gate of Sheneng Valley. Yes. The Valley Master of Sheneng Valley nodded. Although the three sects were all blocked by zombies and communication was cut off, the three sect masters still had special channels of contact. Then please, Valley Master, contact the two sect masters. Gu Mo briefly explained the situation of the immortal spirit. Greetings, Senior. Hearing Gu Mo's words, the Valley Master of Sheneng Valley was startled and quickly bowed to the immortal spirit beside Ruan Ruan. It was then that the Valley Master of Sheneng Valley realized he had unconsciously overlooked her presence just now. But thinking of her identity, it seemed quite reasonable. Sheneng Valley's main hall. Is there an urgent situation? The voices of the two sect masters, the sect leader of Taking Sect and the Yin Yang Sword Sect, rang out. The Valley Master of Sheneng Valley's sudden communication request made the two sect masters wonder if an emergency had occurred in Sheneng Valley. There is a very urgent situation. The Valley Master of Sheneng Valley nodded. Then, he recounted the situation he had learned from Gu Mo, including the plan to deal with the corpse immortal. With our strength, can we really weaken the power of an immortal? The sect leader of Taking Sect smiled bitterly. After learning the origin of the headless corpse, his last bit of hope vanished. That was an immortal. Although it was a corpse immortal, an immortal was an immortal. At that level of existence, these nascent soul realm cultivators, were no different from ants before an immortal. For these ants to want to weaken the power of an immortal was undoubtedly a pipe dream. Putting everything else aside, just the leakage of the corpse immortal's aura, which condensed those zombies, had them all trapped within their sects, only able to resist with the help of the sect protecting Grand Array. We can't, but we can invite external aid. At this moment, a gentle voice echoed in the main hall, and then a beautiful woman wearing a laurel wreath and exuding the fragrance of plants appeared. Greetings, old ancestor. Seeing the suddenly appearing laurel-crowned woman, the people of Sheneng Valley couldn't help but be overjoyed. The old ancestor's return made everyone feel that they had found their pillar of support. At the same time, the same voice came from the other end of the communication. Greetings, Senior Suxin. Qing Venerable bowed slightly to the immortal spirit. You know me. The immortal spirit looked at Qing Venerable in surprise. To find a way to resolve this zombie disaster, a few of us consulted all the ancient texts, and there happened to be records about Senior Suxin, Qing Venerable said. Then, what you just said about inviting external aid, could it be? The immortal spirit's heart stirred, and she said. That's right, open the passage to our small world and let the cultivators from the great world help us weaken that corpse immortal. Qing Venerable nodded. This was also the method Qing Venerable and a few others had found during this period. For this, the three of them traveled throughout the entire small world and finally found the world gate. As long as the world gate was opened, external cultivators could enter, and of course, cultivators inside could also leave. However, leaving wasn't as simple as directly passing through the world gate. It required one's cultivation to exceed the small world's tolerance limit, and currently, this small world's limit was the soul transformation realm. Therefore, as long as one's cultivation reached the soul transformation peak, one could leave the small world through the world gate. Similarly, due to the world's limit, external cultivators wanting to enter could not exceed the soul transformation realm. But as long as a sufficient number of cultivators were attracted, the corpse immortal's power could still be quickly weakened. Old ancestor, why would external cultivators help us? The Valley Master of Sheneng Valley raised his doubt. Cultivators were not great philanthropists, who would do something without benefit. The corpse of an immortal, isn't that enough of a benefit? Qing Venerable smiled. My master left some legacy here, which can also be offered, the immortal spirit said after a moment of silence. Originally, these legacies were meant for Ruan Ruan, as she was the true inheritor of the master's legacy in the immortal spirit's eyes. But this small world was also the master's cherished homeland. To help her homeland, the immortal spirit didn't mind offering some of the master's legacy treasures as compensation. There are immortal treasures, and an immortal corpse. These are enough to make many cultivators covetous. Hearing the immortal spirit's words, the three soul transformation realm cultivators, including Qing Venerable, were overjoyed. The immortal spirit was even clearer about this. Immortals were also high and mighty existences in the great world. Anything related to immortals was enough to make countless cultivators fight over it. But bringing in outsiders was a double-edged sword, especially since the native small world's power was too weak. However, considering the current situation, it seemed they couldn't afford to worry about these things anymore. Without introducing external aid, it was hard to say whether this small world could even be preserved. After a detailed plan, the three venerable nascent souls set off again. However, this time, the immortal spirit would also accompany them to help the three soul transformation realm cultivators open the world gate. Gu Mo, I want to return to the sect for a trip. Chu Fifei found Gu Mo. At this moment, Chu Fifei was also very worried about Hundred Flower Sect. Although there was no news of Hundred Flower Sect being breached yet, she imagined the situation wouldn't be too good. I'll go with you. Gu Mo also had an idea in his mind at this moment, which was to relocate some sects with insufficient strength to the Qinghe cultivation world. After all, in the future, the Tianyuan cultivation world would become the main area of activity for external cultivators. For those weaker sects in the Tianyuan cultivation world, moving to the safer Qinghe cultivation world was definitely a good choice, especially after the immortal array covering the Qinghe cultivation world was completed. The spiritual qi concentration in the Qinghe cultivation world would also reach the level of the Tianyuan cultivation world. At that time, the native sects of the small world would also have a pure land. After all, no one knew whether the cultivators who entered once the world gate was opened would be righteous path cultivators or evil path cultivators. Human hearts are unpredictable, so Gu Mo naturally had to be fully prepared. With even the top sects being besieged by zombies, a nascent soul sect like the Hundred Flower sect naturally couldn't avoid being surrounded by zombies. Fortunately, the number of soul transformation level zombies was limited, and those soul transformation level zombies had gone to block the gates of the top sects. Therefore, as long as a nascent soul sect wasn't attacked by soul transformation level zombies, they could hold on for a period of time with the sect protecting Grand Array. But as time passed, even the strongest sect protecting Grand Array couldn't withstand the constant attrition from numerous nascent soul level zombies. Looking at the increasingly dim array, the disciples of the Hundred Flower sect all had solemn expressions. At this moment, the Hundred Flower sect master and Grand Elder Mei Kaiyuan, two nascent soul true lords, had already prepared to lead their disciples in a bloody charge to break through. However, facing such a large number of nascent soul level zombies, no one could predict how many disciples would survive. What was certain was that the Hundred Flower sect would suffer extremely heavy losses this time. Crack! Suddenly, a faint sound of breakage rang out. Although the sound was light, it was like a thunderclap in the hearts of the Hundred Flower sect disciples, because it was a sign that the sect protecting Grand Array was about to shatter. Bang! Sure enough, about a dozen breaths later, a breach appeared in the array, and immediately, a large number of zombies poured in through it. Seeing this, the two nascent soul true lords of the Hundred Flower sect took the lead and charged at the surging zombies, while the other disciples formed a formation to support them. Initially, the situation was very good. After all, those zombies had no intelligence, and the array had only a single breach, so the zombies could only enter from one place, making them relatively easy to deal with. But as time went on, the continuous zombie tide constantly drained everyone's magical power, and the breach in the array also continued to expand, causing the number of surging zombies to continuously increase. Facing the endless zombie tide, the Hundred Flower sect master and Mei Kaiyuan, the two nascent soul true lords, realized how ridiculous their previous idea of leading their disciples to break out was. In this situation, let alone leading people out, they were currently suppressed by the zombie tide and couldn't advance half a step. Although this was also related to the Hundred Flower sect disciples not being skilled in combat, no one expected them to be suppressed so badly. If it were peacetime, with the Hundred Flower sect's connections, they could have called for help, but now everyone was struggling to protect themselves, so where could they find reinforcements? Junior sister, you take the true disciples and leave first. The Hundred Flower sect master used a smoke beast to protect her disciples, but the zombies were constantly tearing at the smoke beast, and it wouldn't be long before it collapsed. Once this last resort collapsed, the female disciples of the Hundred Flower sect would face the zombie tide directly. At that time, the Hundred Flower sect would face the danger of annihilation. In this situation, the Hundred Flower sect master chose to let Mei Kaiyuan take a few true disciples to leave and preserve the Hundred Flower sect's legacy. Senior sister. Mei Kaiyuan opened her mouth several times but couldn't say anything. For the sect's legacy, such an arrangement was absolutely fine, but emotionally, Mei Kaiyuan didn't want to abandon her senior sister and leave. Go. The Hundred Flower sect master lightly shouted, don't forget Fifei, she still needs your protection. However, no sooner had the Hundred Flower sect master finished speaking than an even larger pink rabbit smoke beast descended, enveloping both the Hundred Flower sect master's smoke beast and all the disciples of the Hundred Flower sect. What? This sudden change startled everyone, but soon the Hundred Flower sect master and Mei Kaiyuan reacted. In this world, besides the Hundred Flower sect master, the only other person who could condense a smoke beast was their disciple, Chu Fifei. How did that girl come back? Upon discovering Chu Fifei's return, Mei Kaiyuan felt a surge of anxiety, but soon she realized something was wrong. Why was her disciple's smoke beast so enormous? Master, are you all right? Chu Fifei's figure passed through the smoke beast and appeared before everyone. Fifei, you've broken through. Mei Kaiyuan looked at Chu Fifei, her face full of astonishment. This girl went out for a trip and came back as a nascent soul true lord. She didn't even discuss such a big breakthrough with them. Chu Fifei nodded. Now is not the time to talk about these things. Let's break out first. The Hundred Flower sect master spoke, interrupting their reunion. Chu Fifei's addition gave the Hundred Flower sect master more hope. As fellow nascent soul true lords, the 100 Flowers sect master knew that Chu Fifei, possessing the Beiwa sacred body, would be far more powerful than her. No need, we just need to wait. Chu Fifei waved her hand. She hadn't come alone this time. Following Chu Fifei's words, the 100 Flowers sect master also sensed something was off. The death chi concentration outside was rapidly decreasing, which meant the number of zombies was diminishing. In confusion, the 100 Flowers sect master and Mei Kaiyuan rushed out of the smoke beast, and then they saw a shocking sight. Outside the 100 Flowers sect's gate, purple plants resembling carnivorous flowers were neatly arranged. As soon as a zombie approached, it would be swallowed whole by a carnivorous flower. The dense zombie tide was actually unable to cross that wall of carnivorous flowers, and behind that wall of carnivorous flowers, they saw a familiar person, Gu Mo. Sensing the gaze from behind him, Gu Mo turned his head and nodded to the two, then continued to focus on the zombie tide before him. If this wave of zombie tide were completely devoured, it could increase the spiritual chi concentration in the Dongtian space by a significant margin. Of course, the carnivorous flower is very vulnerable during digestion after devouring a target, so Gu Mo needed to keep a constant watch. After a few hours, the zombie tide besieging the 100 Flowers sect was almost completely devoured by the carnivorous flowers. Without soul transformation level zombies, the entire process was very smooth. Feeling the spiritual chi concentration in the Dongtian space at this moment, Gu Mo felt that even without the help of the heaven and earth nascent soul, he could maintain that small patch of 5th order spirit plant field by relying solely on the top grade spirit stone cushion. If he devoured a few more waves of zombie tide, he might not even need the top grade spirit stone cushion. The spiritual chi from the Dongtian space itself would be enough to condense this small patch of 5th order spirit plant field. However, Gu Mo's goal was not this small patch of 5th order spirit plant field, but a large area of 5th order spirit plant field. To achieve this goal, Gu Mo needed to continue cultivating carnivorous flowers and continue devouring zombies. When Gu Mo finished clearing the zombie tide, the 100 Flowers sect had also packed up their belongings. It was clear that Chu Fifei had explained the situation. The situation in the Tianyuan cultivation world was too dangerous, and the 100 Flowers sect naturally didn't want to stay, so leaving here and heading to the Qinghe cultivation world was an excellent choice. However, not all sects chose to leave. Some sects, upon learning that cultivators from the major thousand worlds would soon arrive and that hunting zombies would yield immortal treasures, many cultivators chose to stay. In the Tianyuan cultivation world, the legacy of many sects had already been broken at the soul transformation realm, but if they could establish a connection with cultivators from the major thousand worlds, they might be able to obtain a stronger legacy. In addition to that, the immortal treasure also made people drool. Although staying was fraught with danger, the opportunity was also great. Gu Mo didn't force anyone. Those who wished to leave, he would be responsible for escorting them to the Qinghe cultivation world. Those who wanted to take risks for opportunity were free to do so. Many cultivators inherently possess a strong adventurous spirit. Fighting for opportunity is commonplace for many cultivators. Giant ships, carrying countless cultivators, sailed away from the Tianyuan cultivation world. After Gu Mo's visits, less than 30% of the sects ultimately chose to leave, most sects chose to stay and fight for that opportunity. However, even if only 30% of the sects chose to leave, the number of cultivators was still considerable. With the addition of these sects, the strength of the Qinghe cultivation world would see a significant increase. I'm going out for a bit. As the fleet sailed to a certain sea area, Gu Mo said to Chu Fifei beside him, and his figure quickly sped away. A moment later, Gu Mo appeared above an archipelago shaped like a crab. This was the Cancer Islands where Gu Mo had once stayed. Because the Cancer Islands were isolated in the sea, this zombie tide did not affect them. Arriving at the central atoll of the Cancer Islands, Gu Mo sensed Shiyue cultivating on the island. Without disturbing Shiyue, Gu Mo went directly into the island and replaced the plants he had left there. However, the spiritual vein of the atoll was third order, so Gu Mo didn't replace plants like pea shooter that had high demands for spirit plant fields. For plants that didn't require spirit plant fields, like potato mine, Gu Mo buried a few fourth order ones. In addition, Gu Mo also left a fourth order carnivorous flower. This way, as long as a soul transformation level powerhouse didn't appear, a nascent soul level 1 could be swallowed in one bite by the carnivorous flower. Finally, after leaving a fourth order top grade cherry bomb, Gu Mo quietly departed. With these measures, even a fifth order soul transformation level demon emperor would not dare to easily attack the Cancer Islands, and given the upper limit of this small world, soul transformation was already the peak. After a long time, Shiyue, having finished her cultivation, habitually went to the spirit plant field to tend to the spirit plants. Then, she saw the changes within. It's, almost instantly, Shiyue knew who had come, but she searched for a long time and couldn't find Gu Mo. Immediately, Shiyue returned to her room and resumed her cultivation. She wanted to work hard to become stronger so that she could keep up with that adult's pace. Because Shiyue could already discern Gu Mo's current realm from the plants he left behind, if she wanted to follow Gu Mo, she needed to become even stronger. After escorting the people to the Qinghe cultivation world, Gu Mo's task was considered complete. As for how to settle the sects from the Tianyuan cultivation world, that was naturally the responsibility of the Qinglo sect. The area of the Qinghe cultivation world was not at all smaller than the Tianyuan cultivation world, so there was more than enough space to accommodate these sects. Furthermore, with the completion of the super grand array covering the Qinghe cultivation world, the spiritual qi concentration in the Qinghe cultivation world would also reach the level of the Tianyuan cultivation world. Therefore, these sects from the Tianyuan cultivation world would not affect the order of the Qinghe cultivation world, in fact, they would even enhance its foundation. In the future, the Qinghe cultivation world could definitely become another Tianyuan cultivation world. As for the current Tianyuan cultivation world, with the corpse immortal breaking the seal and a large zombie tide surging out, and with the upcoming opening of the realm gate and the entry of external cultivators, no one knew what the Tianyuan cultivation world would become. But at least the Qinghe cultivation world would become a pure land for the local cultivators. After staying in the Qinghe cultivation world for several days, Guang returned to the Tianyuan world again. During these few days of staying, Yuan Naya finally took that step and became a nascent soul true lord. Yuan Naya's breakthrough did not encounter any special heavenly tribulation, and with Yuan Naya's foundation, passing it was naturally no problem. This time, Guang returned to the Tianyuan world alone. Chu Fifei and Ruan both chose to stay in the Qinghe cultivation world and joined the effort to set up the Grand Array. After all, the Tianyuan cultivation world was not very safe in the coming days. Not only Chu Fifei, but also the cultivators from the sects that came from the Tianyuan cultivation world, had all received tasks to set up the Grand Array. With so many people joining, the progress of the Grand Array accelerated rapidly. The realm gate was about to open, and the Grand Array in the Qinghe cultivation world not being completed always made people uneasy. Now with so many people joining, it should be possible to complete the Grand Array before the realm gate opens. As for Guang, he needed to increase the spiritual qi concentration of his Dongtian, so he had to return to the Tianyuan cultivation world to continue devouring zombies with the carnivorous flower. At this moment, Gumo's top priority was to create a fifth-order spirit plant field. That was the foundation for Gumo to step into the soul transformation realm. Time passed. When Gumo had gathered enough sun essence to cultivate a second fifth-order carnivorous flower, a soul-shaking roar exploded, and then a phantom gate appeared in the sky. The realm gate has opened. Seeing the phantom gate in the sky, everyone knew it was the realm gate. After all, this matter had already spread widely. Along with the opening of the realm gate, an honor roll also appeared. From then on, hunting zombies could earn merit, and accumulated merit could be exchanged for various treasures. At the very top were some immortal treasures. Even the most ordinary items belonging to an immortal were unimaginable treasures for the vast majority of cultivators. 9 Serenity Domain. Ridiculous. The remnant soul looked at the realm gate in the sky, feeling no panic in his heart, and even a little anticipation. After all, the remnant soul needed a large number of souls to recover, and a cultivator's soul was worth hundreds or thousands of mortal souls. If it was a nascent soul true lord's soul, it could be worth tens of thousands of mortal souls. Therefore, the remnant soul naturally hoped that more cultivators would arrive for him to harvest. As for those external cultivators wanting to suppress him, that was simply a joke. Although the remnant soul could not control the main body was an immortal body. How could it be suppressed by mere ants? Then let's give them a welcoming gift first. The remnant soul gazed at the majestic headless corpse. The next moment, the headless corpse trembled slightly, and then a profound death chi erupted. Within that profound death chi, soul transformation level zombies and even nascent soul great perfection level zombies descended. Boy, the body is yours to control next. The remnant soul's somewhat weary voice sounded in Yao Shifeng's mind. Just a slight use of the main body's power made the remnant soul feel overwhelmed and in need of a good rest. This also spurred the remnant soul to crave more souls. Only by increasing his soul power could he control more of the main body's power. As long as he could use 1% of the main body's power, it would be enough to crush this small world. After regaining control of his body, Yao Shifeng took a deep breath, his gaze fixed on the enormous headless corpse not far away, a never-before-felt longing filling his heart. If he could control this headless corpse, he would become an existence like an immortal god. Of course, under normal circumstances, Yao Shifeng would have no chance to control such an immortal's body, but now that remnant soul was coexisting with him, it gave Yao Shifeng a glimmer of hope. As long as there was a shred of hope, Yao Shifeng would fight for it. Greetings, sir. When Yao Shifeng left the location of the headless corpse, the 3 demonic path soul transformation cultivators immediately bowed in salute. Now that the headless corpse had broken the seal, they naturally no longer needed to continue wearing down the seal. Go hunt for souls. Yao Shifeng waved his hand. Collecting souls was the task left by the remnant soul, and the current Yao Shifeng could not resist the remnant soul, so he naturally had to obey him. Yes. Upon hearing this, the 3 demonic path soul transformation cultivators each led a group of zombies and left the 9 Serenity Domain. At the same time, as the world gate opened, a figure passed through the world gate and descended into this small world. However, this figure did not possess the aura of a living being. What passed through the world gate was merely a puppet. It was clear that this puppet was here to investigate the situation. After all, a suddenly appearing entrance to a small world, without knowing anything about it, carried too many uncertain risks if one rashly entered. Using a puppet to scout first and then deciding whether to enter after confirming safety was the correct choice. Although it was just a puppet, the cultivators guarding near the world gate did not dare to be negligent in the slightest. They quickly stepped forward to explain the situation. After the world gate opened, the 3 righteous path soul transformation cultivators arranged for their disciples to be stationed there to explain the situation to the external cultivators who descended. Only by spreading the word about the situation here could more cultivators from the Great World be attracted, and only with a sufficient number of cultivators from the Great World joining in could there be a chance to suppress that corpse immortal. Soon, the puppet returned, and shortly after, a nascent soul true lord walked out of the world gate. Greetings, fellow deist. A nascent soul elder from a top sect stepped forward. It truly is a corpse immortal. The external nascent soul true lord's gaze was fixed on the distant, towering headless corpse, his heart filled with shock. A corpse immortal was also an immortal's corpse, even in the great world, could only be found in some extremely dangerous and terrifying Jedi. But this obscure small world actually had an immortal's corpse. Unfortunately, it was a corpse immortal. If it were a true immortal's corpse, its value would be even greater. However, the value of a corpse immortal was still considerable. After all, it was in existence at the immortal level, even a bit of its hair or skin was a great treasure for cultivators below the immortal realm. Besides the corpse immortal, this small world even had an immortal treasure, and they were willing to use it as a reward for clearing the zombies formed by the corpse immortal's power. Opportunity. The external nascent soul true lord could only use these two words to describe what he had seen and heard. However, such an opportunity was too great for him to handle alone, nor could he. Therefore, the external nascent soul true lord did not stay long and left. He needed to inform his sect about this matter so that the sect could send people to obtain this opportunity. Several days later, a large number of external cultivators descended, the weakest of whom were at the Golden Core realm, with nascent soul true lords as the main force. Even 5 venerable nascent souls arrived. Such a lineup truly awed the people of the Tianyuan cultivation world. This was only the power dispatched by one sect, and it was said that this sect had an old ancestor at the body integration realm. If this small world could accommodate more than soul transformation cultivators, then certainly void refining level powerhouses would have come this time. Moreover, this was only the first batch, and more cultivators would come later. A treasure trove like a corpse immortal was definitely enough for a sect to exert all its strength to excavate. After these cultivators entered, they were arranged in an immortal city specially opened up. After all, the combat power of these external cultivators already exceeded that of the entire Tianyuan cultivation world, and no one dared to bring them into their own sects. If those 5 soul transformation cultivators were to act, it would be enough to annihilate a top sect like Sheneng Valley. Senior brother, there's also an immortal treasure in this small world. Why don't we just seize that immortal treasure directly? An external soul transformation cultivator transmitted to his senior brother beside him. Those weak small world cultivators actually dared to use them, making them clear zombies and accumulate contributions to exchange for that immortal treasure. It would be better to just seize it directly. Don't act rashly. The soul transformation cultivator, who was clearly the leader, glanced at his junior brother. Since there was an immortal treasure here, there might very likely be a trump card left behind by an immortal. If they acted rashly and these small world cultivators activated the trump card left by the immortal, it would be bad. And this conjecture was completely confirmed when those external cultivators saw the Suixin immortal spirit. Immediately, those cultivators obediently joined the task of clearing out the zombies. Subsequently, those external cultivators immediately suffered a heavy blow, encountering the zombie tide led by the 3 demonic path soul transformation cultivators. These were all zombies newly summoned by the remnant soul, with their lowest combat power at the nascent soul great perfection level, and many at the soul transformation level. It was no exaggeration to say that the remnant soul's welcoming gift to those external cultivators was indeed very grand, and those external cultivators suffered heavy losses upon their first encounter. One of the 5 soul transformation cultivators perished. Although their primordial spirit eventually escaped, a portion of their primordial spirit was left behind. The loss of a primordial spirit meant a defect in the foundation for a soul transformation cultivator. Even soul transformation cultivators were so disheveled, not to mention those nascent soul and golden core cultivators. Many nascent soul true lords couldn't even escape with their nascent soul intact. Of course, although the external cultivators suffered heavy losses in this wave, the zombie tide's losses were even more severe. At least, this wave of attacks from the zombie tide was completely repelled. The external cultivators, filled with anger due to their immense losses, returned to the immortal city. Upon seeing the contributions they had received, their anger immediately dissipated, as this time's contributions were enough for them to exchange for an immortal treasure. Although it was just a very small immortal stone, this kind of stone containing immortal power was absolutely an extremely precious treasure for cultivators below the immortal realm. Some top sects that possessed immortal artifacts desired these immortal stones in any quantity, because they needed immortal stones to activate immortal artifacts. In addition, this higher level of power also had many profound effects. Having reaped benefits, the external cultivators were naturally full of vigor. Subsequently, more cultivators descended through the world gate and engaged in battle with the zombie tide. The native cultivators of the Tianyuan cultivation world, on the other hand, were responsible for providing logistical support to those external cultivators. Of course, the cultivators of the Tianyuan cultivation world could also hunt zombies to earn contributions in exchange for treasures. For example, Guang. He had been hunting zombies on the periphery. Since successfully cultivating the second fifth order carnivorous flower, whenever he encountered a lone soul transformation level zombie, Guang would activate his perfected breath concealment technique to approach it. Before the transformation god zombie could react, he would summon the carnivorous flower to devour it. Afterwards, Guang would retreat and find a place to wait for the carnivorous flower to digest the swallowed transformation god zombie, then repeat the action. And every soul transformation level zombie, after being digested by the carnivorous flower, could bring a massive amount of spiritual qi to the Dongtian space. By gathering this spiritual qi, Guang had already obtained several acres of 4th order top grade spirit fields. With just a few more transformation god zombies, these few acres of 4th order top-grade spirit fields would soon be able to advance to 5th order spirit fields. Unfortunately, the number of lone transformation god zombies on the periphery was limited, and it took a long time to find them each time to make a harvest. I wonder if that immortal stone can increase the Dongtian's spiritual chi. Gu Mo took out a small mirror. This was a sub-body of the taking mirror, a tool used to record contributions, while the taking mirror's main body was a top-grade spirit treasure, the taking sect's foundational artifact. At this moment, the contributions recorded on this small mirror were enough for him to exchange for an immortal stone. Thinking of this, Gu Mo immediately headed to Tianyuan Immortal City, preparing to exchange for an immortal stone to test its effect. As the primary foothold for external cultivators, Tianyuan Immortal City was filled with powerhouses. With external cultivators successfully exchanging for an immortal stone, the number of descending cultivators surged dramatically. And most of those who came were nascent soul true lords, which caused the number of nascent soul true lords in Tianyuan Immortal City to reach an extremely terrifying level. Not only that, the number of venerable nascent souls had now reached double digits. With such a powerful force, the Tianyuan cultivation world side was clearly no longer able to control them. However, these people's goal was to hunt zombies, earn contributions, and exchange for immortal treasures. They didn't have much interest in the things of the Tianyuan cultivation world. Because in their eyes, the things of the Tianyuan cultivation world were too backward, with legacies only reaching the soul transformation level at most. How could this compare to them, who possessed body integration legacies? Gu Mo's appearance did not attract the attention of the people in the Immortal City. If it had been the appearance of a nascent soul true lord before, it would have attracted attention from all sides, but now, a nascent soul true lord was too common here. It was no exaggeration to say that if one stood at the intersection of Tianyuan Immortal City for a while, they would see several nascent soul true lords passing by. Moreover, these external nascent soul true lords generally had stronger combat power than the nascent soul true lords of the Tianyuan cultivation world. This was not a difference in aptitude, but a difference in legacy. A body integration level legacy was naturally incomparable to the highest soul transformation level legacy of the Tianyuan cultivation world. For this reason, many sects in the Tianyuan cultivation world were trying to extract higher level legacies from those external cultivators. Thus, a second exchange list appeared in Tianyuan Immortal City, listing various legacies from the Great World. Some were cultivation technique legacies, while others were legacies for alchemy, artifact refining, formation, and talisman. Cultivators from the Tianyuan cultivation world who wanted these legacies needed to use their contributions from hunting zombies to exchange for them. Using some legacies they didn't care much about to exchange for more valuable contributions, and then using those contributions to exchange for immortal treasures, this was definitely a very worthwhile trade in the eyes of those external cultivators. As for the local cultivators, these legacies were important for improving their sects and their own strength. Conversely, the immortal treasures were less useful to them than these legacies. For the cultivators of the Tianyuan cultivation world, immortal treasures were not only useless, but even harmful. This harm wasn't because the immortal treasures themselves were problematic, but because possessing valuable items invited trouble. The cultivators of the Tianyuan cultivation world saw this very clearly. Therefore, the contributions obtained by the cultivators of the Tianyuan cultivation world from hunting zombies would all be used to exchange for the legacies of external cultivators. Although some people would be very dissatisfied with this, just seeing the double-digit number of venerable nascent souls was enough to calm down those who were displeased. It was precisely because everyone tacitly agreed not to exchange for immortal treasures that Gu Mo's exchange this time was particularly eye-catching. Who is this? Is he tired of living? Many people exclaimed when they saw Gu Mo enter the exchange point. Maybe he just went in to take a look. The contributions required to exchange for an immortal treasure are not a small number. Some also thought that the nascent soul true lord might just want to broaden his horizons, which had happened before. But soon, no one did that anymore, because everyone was afraid of causing misunderstandings with the external cultivators. The crowd didn't recognize Gu Mo, not because Gu Mo was forgotten. As a true disciple of Sheneng Valley, coupled with his astonishing performance in the Heaven's Pride battle that year, Gu Mo's name had long been known to everyone. The reason why the crowd didn't recognize Gu Mo was simple: Gu Mo had disguised himself. Although Gu Mo had been hunting zombies outside, his sources of information were not bad, and he knew many things very clearly. This naturally included the tacit understanding among the cultivators of the Tianyuan cultivation world not to exchange for immortal treasures, but it was clear that Gu Mo did not intend to abide by this tacit understanding this time. As for the hidden dangers brought by not abiding by the tacit understanding, Gu Mo didn't care. With a fifth order carnivorous flower, even if a peak soul transformation cultivator came, it would just be a matter of one bite. Unless two soul transformation cultivators came, Gu Mo could first use the carnivorous flower to swallow one, and then summon his plant battle line to deal with the other. Only if three venerable nascent souls arrived simultaneously would it pose a threat to Gu Mo. But to deal with a nascent soul true lord, let alone three soul transformation cultivators, even dispatching two soul transformation cultivators would be a loss of face for soul transformation cultivators. At most, it would be one soul transformation cultivator, and that would be the top configuration. Perhaps seeing that Gu Mo was only at the early stage nascent soul, it was also possible to send a late stage or great perfection nascent soul. Since he wasn't afraid of threats, Gu Mo naturally didn't need to abide by any tacit understanding. Please select the treasure you wish to exchange for. Gu Mo stood in front of a large mirror. This was the taking sect's top-grade spirit treasure, and its artifact spirit's intelligence was already quite high, more than sufficient for handling treasure exchanges. Immortal Stone. Gu Mo scanned the exchange list. Besides immortal treasures, there were actually some other treasures, but everyone who came here to exchange was aiming for immortal treasures. As Gu Mo spoke, the contributions on his small mirror directly dropped to single digits. At the same time, a stone of special texture appeared, emitting a light and ethereal aura. Sure enough, Ruan Ruan's body contains immortal power. Feeling the aura on the immortal stone, Gu Mo thought of Ruan Ruan, that girl also contained a similar aura. Speaking of which, Ruan Ruan also inherited a portion of an immortal treasure. Unfortunately, Senior Sui Xin would only give that immortal treasure to Ruan Ruan after her cultivation was higher. Otherwise, Gu Mo could ask Ruan Ruan for some immortal stones. After completing the exchange, Gu Mo put away the immortal stone and left the exchange point. Immediately, Gu Mo felt several gazes lock onto him. Gu Mo didn't pay attention to the prying eyes, but he still underestimated how much the foreign cultivators valued the immortal treasure. Before Gu Mo could leave, a nascent soul great perfection cultivator appeared. Fellow deist, have you exchanged for the immortal treasure? I'm willing to purchase it at a high price. I have any cultivation technique or secret art you desire. No, I'm just here to broaden my horizons. Gu Mo shook his head. Is that so? You can't grasp the immortal treasure, fellow deist. If you exchanged for it, it's best to sell it as soon as possible. The nascent soul great perfection cultivator clearly didn't believe him, and his tone carried a hint of threat due to Gu Mo's uncooperativeness. The foreign sect had long since designated the immortal treasure as their exclusive property and would absolutely not tolerate cultivators from this small world obtaining it. Oh. Gu Mo responded indifferently and then left. Humph. Seeing that Gu Mo was unyielding, the nascent soul great perfection cultivator's expression turned cold. However, the other party had no intention of making a move, as it was inconvenient here. Alas. Seeing this, many local cultivators sighed softly, clearly foreseeing the fate of that nascent soul cultivator. However, the foreign cultivators were too strong, and the local cultivators were no match for them. Therefore, in many matters, the local cultivators chose to endure. As expected, they followed. Gu Mo left the immortal city and quickly realized he was being followed. Gu Mo was not surprised by this, those foreign cultivators were indeed a bit too overbearing. Gu Mo didn't mind making those foreign cultivators calm down. With that thought, Gu Mo stopped. Soon, two figures appeared. One was the nascent soul great perfection who had just offered to buy Gu Mo's treasure, and the other was a soul transformation. It was clear that to ensure Gu Mo wouldn't escape, the foreign cultivators had directly dispatched a soul transformation. After all, cultivators at the nascent soul realm usually had some life-saving methods, especially the nascent soul's escape. Without a major realm suppression, it was very difficult to intercept. Now, with the soul transformation holding the line, they could absolutely ensure that this matter was foolproof. Even if those local bumpkins had some suspicions, what could they do without evidence? Fellow deist, I told you, you can't grasp the immortal treasure. The nascent soul great perfection cultivator looked at Gu Mo, a faint smile on his lips. Oh, are you trying to kill me and seize my treasure? Gu Mo's expression was calm. This calmness, in the eyes of the nascent soul great perfection, was full of provocation. You're courting death. The nascent soul great perfection snorted coldly and quickly stepped forward, intending to capture Gu Mo. However, the soul transformation stopped him. A nascent soul early stage, facing a soul transformation like him, could remain so calm. This either meant he had a trump card or he was a fool. And a fool obviously couldn't cultivate to the nascent soul realm, so the only explanation was that the nascent soul early stage in front of him had a trump card. That trump card was likely at the soul transformation level, so letting the nascent soul great perfection junior make a move would be dangerous. Since the immortal treasure would eventually fall into his hands, the soul transformation cultivator would reluctantly bully the younger generation this once. After all, this nascent soul great perfection was also a junior from his lineage. He had notified him of the benefits immediately, and as an elder, he naturally couldn't watch his junior encounter danger. When a soul transformation makes a move, it's like the sky falling. This wasn't the first time Gu Mo had directly faced a soul transformation's attack. Last time, Gu Mo's incarnation was killed by a soul transformation from the demonic sect. But the current Gu Mo was no longer what he used to be. The primordial spirit power obtained from refining the 5th grade sun essence was activated by Gu Mo, and instantly, Gu Mo also gained the ability to control heaven and earth, which was the ability of a soul transformation. Indeed. Feeling the heaven and earth control ability that Gu Mo unleashed, the foreign soul transformation understood. This was clearly the trump card of this nascent soul. Buzz. Two forces of heaven and earth collided, shaking heaven and earth. The nascent soul great perfection also trembled and was covered in cold sweat. If he hadn't been cautious and called upon the soul transformation senior, and had he acted alone, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Fortunately, it was the soul transformation senior who made the move. Even if that nascent soul possessed such soul transformation level trump cards, it was still not enough against a true soul transformation. Just as the nascent soul great perfection cultivator was about to enjoy the sight of the local nascent soul native being killed, suddenly, a large purple mouth appeared in the void realm, directly swallowing the soul transformation who was in a stalemate with Gu Mo. What? The unexpected turn of events was too sudden, causing the nascent soul great perfection cultivator's expression to instantly freeze. A soul transformation, how could he suddenly disappear without even his primordial spirit escaping? Not good. After the initial shock, a strong fear arose in the heart of the nascent soul great perfection cultivator. Unfortunately, it was too late. Without the soul transformation's obstruction, Gu Mo, carrying the might of heaven and earth, directly crushed the nascent soul great perfection. Facing a soul transformation level attack, the nascent soul great perfection had no hope of survival. His physical body and nascent soul were completely annihilated. After doing all this, Gu Mo drifted away. Tianyuan Immortal City. Did a soul transformation just exchange blows? The other foreign soul transformations looked into the distance. Just now, they felt a disturbance in the power of heaven and earth. Being able to control the power of heaven and earth, this was clearly a soul transformation level cultivator fighting. However, the disturbance quickly subsided. The time was too short for those foreign soul transformation cultivators to determine whether it was indeed a soul transformation fighting. After all, two soul transformations fighting couldn't be decided so quickly, unless one side had absolutely overwhelming strength. And this small world obviously didn't have such a soul transformation. And they were all from the same sect, so they shouldn't be fighting each other. After all, if fellow disciples fought, and it was discovered, the sect rules were not to be trifled with. It should be Zhu Lei. He just left, saying that a native was suspected of exchanging for an immortal treasure, a soul transformation said. Their eating habits are a bit poor. Regarding this, a soul transformation shook his head. He didn't approve of plundering the treasures of local cultivators, as this would attract the resentment of local cultivators. Even if those local cultivators were limited by their strength and dared not speak out in anger, such accumulated resentment could very likely stab them in the back at a critical moment. They're just a bunch of natives. We're already giving them a great favor by exchanging cultivation techniques and legacy with them. They're not even grateful. Do they even understand how to use immortal stones? A soul transformation expressed a different opinion. Why isn't that fellow Zhu Lei back yet? Suddenly, a soul transformation spoke. The disturbance in the power of heaven and earth had subsided for a long time, but the soul transformation who had left was nowhere to be seen. He wouldn't be afraid of us asking him to treat us, would he? A soul transformation chuckled. Hehe, that guy got an immortal stone, so he has to bleed a little. That's right, that guy can hide from the first day, but not from the 15th. The soul transformations discussed, and no one would associate it with the death of their companion they were talking about, because that soul transformation's soul lamp had not extinguished. After being swallowed by the carnivorous flower, the target doesn't die immediately, but rather undergoes a process of digestion. At the carnivorous flower's digestion speed, it would take about half a day to fully digest the soul transformation's physical body and primordial spirit. Only then would that soul transformation be considered truly dead. With this half-day buffer, it was already impossible for those foreign soul transformations to find Gu Mo. Dongtian space. Gu Mo buried the exchanged immortal stone in the spirit field. Afterward, Gu Mo noticed that the surrounding spiritual qi began to gather around the immortal stone. This was to form a new spiritual vein based on the immortal stone. And this new spiritual vein would definitely be at the 5th grade level. This immortal stone is indeed a good thing, Gu Mo said with some pleasant surprise. Only when a spiritual vein is formed can the concentration of spiritual qi remain undiminished. However, to fully form this spiritual vein, Gu Mo still needed to provide it with a sufficient amount of spiritual qi. At this moment, the carnivorous flower was digesting a soul transformation. Compared to a deified transformation zombie, this was a true soul transformation, and the spiritual qi obtained from digestion was definitely incomparable to that of those transformation god zombies. Furthermore, after the carnivorous flower finished digesting the foreign soul transformation, it also spat out a storage ring. The collection of a great world soul transformation, this greatly interested Gu Mo. It took several days to gradually break the restriction on the storage ring. It must be said that the methods of the great world were indeed incomparable to those of the small world. The difficulty of the restriction on the storage ring alone was much higher. Fortunately, the owner of this storage ring had died, otherwise, this storage ring would have been impossible to decipher. With anticipation, Gu Mo extended his divine sense into the storage ring and then saw many spiritual materials and treasures he had never seen before. It was clear that these should all be specialties of the great world. In addition, there were many cultivation techniques, secret arts, and other legacies in the storage ring. These should be the things that those foreign cultivators used to exchange with local cultivators. Gu Mo naturally had no use for these legacies. His Sheneng 100 herb scripture legacy went all the way to Mahayana. These are top-grade spirit stones. Suddenly, Gu Mo saw many special spirit stones in the storage ring. Gu Mo was very familiar with that kind of spirit stone, they were top-grade spirit stones. As expected of a soul transformation's wealth, it was indeed abundant. With these top-grade spirit stones, Gu Mo's 5th-grade spiritual vein was basically complete. Just as Gu Mo had expected, as Gu Mo buried the top-grade spirit stones he found, and then with the assistance of the heaven and earth nascent soul, a true 5th-grade spiritual vein formed within the Dongtian space. With the formation of the 5th-grade spiritual vein, the spirit fields covered by the spiritual vein also synchronously became 5th-grade spirit fields. Good. Looking at the few acres of spirit fields emitting rich spiritual qi, a smile couldn't help but appear on Gu Mo's face. Finally, he no longer had to tightly guard that small patch of 5th-grade spirit field. With these few acres of 5th-grade spirit fields, Gu Mo would be able to increase the number of 5th-grade sun flowers and produce more 5th-grade sun essence. 5th-grade sun essence was an important resource for upgrading 5th-grade plants, and also an important opportunity for Guang to step into soul transformation. First, return to King He Cultivation World. For the next period, Guang planned to enter a farming state. Guang would not go out and wander again until those few acres of 5th grade spirit fields were planted with 5th grade sunflowers. Guang patted his butt and went back to farm. The foreign soul transformations, however, were in an uproar, because they already knew that the soul lamp of one of their fellow disciples had extinguished. A soul transformation had actually died so silently, without even his primordial spirit escaping. The impact this had on those foreign soul transformations was immense, because to achieve this, one would at least need to be at the soul transformation late stage. This is impossible. How can this small world have a soul transformation late stage expert? Regarding this speculation, a soul transformation stated that it was unexplainable. They had all met the 3 soul transformations of this small world, and they were all only at the soul transformation early stage. That's hard to say. This small world even has corpse immortals and immortal ruins, so it's not strange for a soul transformation late stage to appear. Humph, those natives must be hiding something else from us. What? A soul transformation has fallen. Soon, Qing Venerable and the other 3 local soul transformations received the news. All 3 of them were a bit stunned. How did they not know that the Tianyuan cultivation world had such a powerful expert? Despite their surprise, Qing Venerable and the other 3 local soul transformations were very happy about the fall of the foreign soul transformation. After all, these outsiders acted too overbearingly. Now that there was an existence that made them wary, at least these outsiders should be more low-key. As for those outsiders turning to deal with them, Qing Venerable and the other 2 were not worried. After all, with the corpse immortal and the immortal treasure still there, as long as those outsiders still had designs on these opportunities, they wouldn't completely tear off their masks. Of course, after this incident, the outsiders would likely send soul transformation mid-stage or late-stage cultivators, but this was also a good thing for the Tianyuan cultivation world, as the zombie tide was becoming increasingly massive. 9 Serenity Domain. Good, good. The remnant soul absorbed the soul power. These were the souls of cultivators hunted back by the zombie tide. These souls provided a considerable replenishment for the remnant soul. Of course, while the remnant soul absorbed the soul power, Yao Shifeng also secretly absorbed it on the side, improving himself. The remnant soul did not stop him from doing this. He knew very well that if he didn't let that kid improve, he would feel uneasy and would not cooperate with his actions then. Still not enough. After absorbing the harvested soul power, the remnant soul still felt unsatisfied. My lord, the enemy side has already produced soul transformation late stage, and our losses are somewhat great, and our gains are not as good as before, a demonic sect soul transformation said. Heh, ridiculous. Do they think a few soul transformations can suppress me? The remnant soul sneered, and immediately, the remnant soul's consciousness descended back into its main body. In an instant, a finger of the majestic headless corpse moved slightly. The next moment, 3 pure death chi shot out and merged into the bodies of the 3 demonic sect soul transformations. Subsequently, the cultivation of the 3 demonic sect soul transformations soared all the way, finally reaching the soul transformation late stage. Thank you for the Lord's bestowal. Feeling the surging power within their bodies, the 3 demonic sect soul transformations were overjoyed. They had not expected that after becoming zombies, their cultivation could still have such a leap. Work hard, and you will be rewarded, the remnant soul's somewhat tired voice sounded. Every time he used the power of his main body, it consumed a large amount of the remnant soul's power. However, with these 3 soul transformation late stage zombies, and intelligent zombies at that, they should be able to deal with that foreign soul transformation late stage. The soul of a soul transformation late stage cultivator would definitely allow him to feast. Are you certain there's a late stage soul transformation here? A middle-aged deist returned to Tianyuan Immortal City, called his soul transformation junior brothers over, and asked about the doubts in his heart. He was a late-stage soul transformation cultivator sent by his sect for support, because not long ago, an early-stage soul transformation junior brother had perished here, suspected to be the work of a late-stage soul transformation cultivator. That the local natives dared to attack them was clearly a very serious matter. If the culprit couldn't be brought to justice, it would cause those natives to look down on them. At that time, many tasks would become difficult to accomplish. Therefore, after the middle-aged deist arrived, he immediately began investigating in the Tianyuan cultivation world, hoping to find the culprit. But the result was nothing. There were simply no late-stage soul transformation cultivators in the Tianyuan cultivation world. As for whether the target might be hiding, the middle-aged deist cultivated a pseudo-divine ability for investigation. Unless the target cultivated a divine ability level concealment method, it would be impossible to evade his investigation. Senior brother, it's absolutely true. Although junior brother Zole was early-stage soul transformation, his strength was not weak. If it wasn't a late-stage soul transformation cultivator who acted, how could he have perished so silently? Hearing this, the several soul transformation cultivators offered their conjectures. Could the culprit have left this continent and fled to another? A soul transformation cultivator asked. These words immediately gained everyone's approval. If the culprit knew that a late-stage soul transformation expert had been sent from their side, they would certainly not remain here, fleeing would be the best option. Alright then, I'll just go to a few more places. The middle-aged deist also felt it made sense. Although searching this way would be more troublesome, the culprit absolutely had to be found, as it concerned the sect's reputation. With that, the middle-aged deist left Tianyuan Immortal City, preparing to go to other cultivation worlds to investigate the situation. Just as the middle-aged deist left, 3 figures exuding late-stage soul transformation chi also departed from the 9 Serenity domain. Found it. As soon as the middle-aged deist left the Tianyuan cultivation world, he sensed a late-stage soul transformation aura. This couldn't help but fill his heart with joy, finding the target so quickly would save him a lot of time. Thus, he would have more time to hunt zombies, earn contribution points, and exchange them for immortal treasures. As a late-stage soul transformation cultivator, the middle-aged deist had the ambition to break through to the void refining realm. However, the middle-aged deist quickly frowned, because he also sensed late-stage soul transformation chi from 2 other directions. Adding the one he just sensed, that made 3 late-stage soul transformation cultivators. For such a small world to actually have 3 late-stage soul transformation cultivators made the middle-aged deist feel a bit incredible. As expected of a small world with immortal ruins, it truly has something. Although the middle-aged deist felt surprised, he didn't panic. After all, soul transformation cultivators in small worlds were limited by their legacy, and their combat power was generally mediocre. But he was a soul transformation cultivator from a body integration sect. The various powerful secret arts and divine abilities he mastered meant he wouldn't be at a disadvantage even against 3 opponents. No, it's Death Chi, they are late-stage transformation god zombies. As the 3 late-stage soul transformation auras approached, the middle-aged deist also noticed something amiss. The 3 late-stage soul transformation auras were filled with Death Chi and were not living beings. This discovery sparked a hint of pleasant surprise in the middle-aged deist's heart. After all, killing 3 late-stage soul transformation cultivators wouldn't yield any contribution points, but killing 3 late-stage transformation god zombies would earn him a large sum of contribution points, which could then be exchanged for immortal treasures. Be careful, those foreign soul transformation cultivators are not easy to deal with. The 3 demon sect soul transformation cultivators transmitted messages to each other. After learning that the foreign late-stage soul transformation cultivator had left, they pursued him. Ever since receiving the remnant soul's reward, which elevated their cultivation to late-stage soul transformation, the 3 demon sect soul transformation cultivators' enthusiasm had been fully ignited. If they brought back a late-stage soul transformation primordial spirit soul this time, would they not have a chance to advance further? Soon, the middle-aged deist and the 3 demon sect soul transformation cultivators met. There was no exchange between them, they directly engaged in combat upon meeting. Afterward, expressions of shock appeared on both sides' faces. The middle-aged deist discovered that the 3 soul transformation zombies actually possessed intelligence, which made them much harder to deal with than unintelligent zombies. And the 3 demon sect soul transformation cultivators were shocked by the middle-aged deist's methods. They were both late-stage soul transformation, but the opponent's erupted combat power was simply stronger than theirs. However, neither side intended to stop. The middle-aged deist was thinking about how much contribution he could gain by slaying these 3 late-stage transformation god zombies, while the 3 demon sect soul transformation cultivators, though slightly weaker in combat power, were zombies and had no fear of death. Even if their zombie bodies were blown apart, as long as there was enough Death Chi, they could quickly recover. Moreover, a zombie's physical body was inherently extremely tough, and it would be by no means easy for the middle-aged deist to blow apart the physical bodies of the 3 demon sect soul transformation cultivators. The battle of 4 late-stage soul transformation cultivators frantically stirred the power of heaven and earth. Such a massive commotion was naturally sensed by the soul transformation cultivators in Tianyuan Immortal City. How can there be 4 late-stage soul transformation auras? The soul transformation cultivators gazed into the distance, their eyes filled with shock. One of the auras was very familiar to them, it was their senior brother. The other 3 were very unfamiliar, and their auras were somewhat obscure, but they could be sure that they were not their people. Should we go support him? Of the 4 auras, 1 was their own, and the other 3 were outsiders. It was obvious their senior brother was being besieged. Go to your death. Hearing this, a soul transformation cultivator shook his head. For them, early-stage soul transformation cultivators, to intervene in a late-stage soul transformation battle, wasn't that just going to their deaths? It's those 3 from the demon sect. The foreign soul transformation cultivators could sense the commotion, and the local Qing Venerable and the other 2 soul transformation cultivators naturally also sensed the battle. Regarding this, the 3 local soul transformation cultivators roughly guessed the origin of the 3 obscure late-stage soul transformation auras. After all, they and the 3 demon sect soul transformation cultivators had been mortal enemies for many years and were very familiar with each other. The only thing that Qing Venerable and the other 2 couldn't understand was how the auras of the 3 demon sect soul transformation cultivators had become late-stage soul transformation. They had been corrupted by Death Chi and turned into zombies, which should have cut off any possibility of further advancement. It's that corpse immortal. Suddenly, Qing Venerable and the other 2 thought of a possibility. At that moment, a hint of envy actually arose in the hearts of Qing Venerable and the 2 soul transformation cultivators. Late-stage soul transformation, that was a realm they had never even dreamed of. After all, as they were still only early-stage soul transformation, their current aspiration was merely to hope to step into the middle-stage soul transformation. That's just power bestowed by an outsider, not one's own power, and it can be taken back at any time. The taking sect soul transformation old ancestor shook his head. Exactly. Now we have quite a few legacies from beyond soul transformation, so we might not be unable to advance further. The yin-yang sword sect soul transformation cultivator nodded. The three of them had also exchanged for some high-level legacies from foreign sects. At this moment, the three were currently comprehending these legacies, hoping to complete their own Dao. The battle is over. I wonder which side won. Suddenly, Qing Venerable looked into the distance. At this moment, the turbulent power of heaven and earth gradually subsided, indicating that the battle had ended. Foreign soul transformation cultivators are nothing special after all. The myriad blood demon sect cultivator held a primordial spirit in his hand. It was the middle-aged Daoist's primordial spirit. To have one's primordial spirit captured meant that one's life and death were in another's grasp, which was absolutely a complete defeat. And for this victory, the three demon sect soul transformation cultivators also paid an extremely heavy price. For example, the myriad blood demon sect cultivator only had half of his body left, and the other two demon sect soul transformation cultivators only had their heads intact. Such severe injuries, if it were an ordinary soul transformation cultivator, there would only be one path, primordial spirit leaving the body, and then seeking to possess a new physical body. But for zombies, such injuries were nothing. Bringing back that late-stage soul transformation primordial spirit, the adult would surely give them enough rewards. At that time, what would the loss of this physical body matter? 9. Serenity Domain. The remnant soul looked at the late-stage soul transformation primordial spirit and nodded in satisfaction. Good, you did well. A late-stage soul transformation primordial spirit was worth tens of millions of ordinary mortal souls. This wave would definitely allow him to recover a lot of power. You dare to touch me, aren't you afraid of my sex retaliation? The middle-aged Daoist's primordial spirit threatened. However, the remnant soul directly ignored the middle-aged Daoist's threat and swallowed him in one gulp. In an instant, the remnant soul felt a sense of fullness, a feeling of soul power suddenly becoming abundant. Immediately, the remnant soul's consciousness entered the headless corpse. Subsequently, a large amount of profound death chi surged out from the headless corpse. Those death chi transformed into three black dragons that landed within the bodies of the three demon sect soul transformation cultivators, allowing their lost physical bodies to rapidly recover. Moreover, the realm of the three demon sect soul transformation cultivators was once again boosted, directly stepping into soul transformation great perfection, which was already the highest realm this small world could bear. Therefore, once the three demon sect soul transformation cultivators reached soul transformation great perfection, the infusion of death chi stopped. The remaining death chi then condensed into transformation god zombies. Thank you for the reward, my lord. Feeling the surging power within their bodies, the three demon sect soul transformation cultivators were ecstatic. The realm that was once insurmountable in their hearts was now so easily broken through. Merit naturally deserves reward. The remnant soul said indifferently. The remnant soul was well aware that after eliminating a late-stage soul transformation cultivator from the foreign cultivators would react in one of two ways, either retreat, or send stronger cultivators. The first option was clearly impossible. Therefore, those foreign cultivators could only choose the second option, sending stronger cultivators. Under such circumstances, the remnant soul naturally had to strengthen the combat power of the three demon sect soul transformation cultivators. Once those three demon sect soul transformation cultivators made more contributions, the remnant soul would also teach them some formidable divine abilities and secret arts. Ordinary zombies had no intelligence and obviously could not cultivate divine abilities or secret arts. Although the remnant soul could enlighten those zombies to grant them intelligence, that would consume his soul power. Given the remnant soul's current state, it was naturally impossible to consume his own soul power. Therefore, the remnant soul could only strengthen the three demon sect soul transformation cultivators. Anyway, after these three became zombies, their life and death were controlled by the remnant soul, so there was no need to worry about them losing control. As the remnant soul was generously bestowing rewards, the soul transformation cultivators in Tianyuan Immortal City all turned pale. The battle had ended, but their senior brother had not returned. Subsequently, a soul transformation cultivator sent a message to the sect and learned the news of their senior brother's soul lamp extinguishing. That was a late-stage soul transformation expert, who had perished just like that. However, the culprit this time was very clear, three late-stage transformation god zombies had attacked. Late-stage transformation god zombies appeared so quickly. In the King He cultivation world, Gumo also learned this news immediately. That foreign late-stage soul transformation cultivator was clearly targeting Gumo. Now that person was killed, it was considered that the zombies had attracted the hatred, giving Gumo more time to develop. It was just that the zombies' combat power was increasing a bit too quickly. How long had it been, and late-stage transformation god zombies had already appeared? The appearance of soul transformation great perfection zombies would probably not take long either. Regarding the zombies' combat power, Gumo knew that it would eventually reach the upper limit of this small world, soul transformation great perfection. Unless someone could reseal the corpse immortal now, otherwise, with the corpse immortal's power constantly leaking, the increase in zombie combat power was unstoppable. Now it seemed that the increase in zombie combat power was a bit too fast. But with foreign cultivators resisting, Gumo felt he still had some time. Looking at the second fifth grade sunflower in the Dongtian space, Gumo continued his great agricultural undertaking. News has come from the sect. A void refining elder will suppress his realm and descend. As the morale of the foreign cultivators was low due to the demise of the late-stage soul transformation cultivator, a piece of news spread, invigorating everyone. The upper limit of this small world was soul transformation, void refining cultivators naturally couldn't enter. But if a void refining cultivator was willing to lower his cultivation, he could still enter. Although the cultivation was lowered, a void refining cultivator's realm, divine abilities and secret arts were all still present. Their combat power was completely overwhelming to other soul transformation cultivators. Sending a void refining cultivator was also sufficient proof of the foreign sect's attention to this place. After all, lowering one's cultivation was not a simple seal of cultivation, an ordinary seal of cultivation could not escape the small world's perception. Only truly lowering one's cultivation could deceive the world's perception. This kind of cultivation reduction could not be recovered in a short time, and during the period of reduced cultivation, one could not cultivate. For a cultivator, being unable to cultivate was absolutely an unbearable thing. But for greater benefit, these could all be temporarily abandoned. World Gate. On this day, foreign soul transformation cultivators gathered here, because a void refining elder from their sect was about to descend. Of course, the local Qing Venerable and the two soul transformation cultivators also came. The three were also full of curiosity about the void refining realm experts, a level they had never seen before. Time flowed by. Suddenly, the world gate emitted dazzling light, and then a vast heavenly might descended, but that heavenly might quickly dissipated, followed by an old man stumbling out of the world gate. Greetings, elder. Seeing this, the foreign soul transformation cultivators all bowed, choosing to ignore the elder's disheveled appearance. It was clear that this elder had some small intentions when entering, but in the end, he was sensed by this small world. The heavenly might just now was the best proof. If this void refining elder had been stubborn, then everyone should have seen the scene of heavenly lightning striking a void refining expert. The void refining elder straightened his robes, then responded indifferently. Is this a void refining expert? What terrifying physical body strength! Qing Venerable and the other two native soul transformation cultivators watched the old man from behind the crowd, their hearts filled with shock. They didn't know much about the void refining realm, only that it was a body refining stage, but now it seemed that the void refining realm was not as simple as merely tempering the physical body. Greetings, senior. After a long wait, Qing Venerable and the other two finally got the opportunity to meet that void refining expert. The void refining old man nodded indifferently. The three soul transformation cultivators from the small world could not arouse the void refining old man's interest at all. If they weren't natives of this place, they wouldn't even have had the chance to meet him. Qing Venerable and the other two also knew that their status was not highly regarded by the other party. After a simple greeting, they retreated. Their visit was not only to see the legendary void refining expert, but more out of respect. With such a prominent figure descending, their local forces naturally could not be negligent. Let's go, let's first check out that immortal treasure. The void refining old man was very clear about the main purpose of his visit this time. To be frank, avenging that late-stage soul transformation disciple of the sect was not even the void refining old man's primary goal. The corpse immortal and the immortal treasure were. As he spoke, the group arrived at Tianyuan Immortal City. The void refining old man directly entered the exchange point. Looking at the taking mirror within the exchange point, the void refining old man's eyes shot out a divine light. This was clearly some kind of special method. The divine light fell upon the taking mirror, and immediately, light flowed on the mirror, then revealed various immortal treasures stored within the taking mirror. Upon seeing this, the void refining old man's eyes blazed with divine light. Such an immortal treasure held immense allure even for a void refining cultivator like him. Or rather, no cultivator below the immortal realm could refuse such an immortal treasure. Furthermore, the higher the cultivation, the more importance was placed on this immortal treasure. Conversely, for those with lower cultivation, this immortal treasure might be too high-end to fully unleash its effects. With the immortal treasure right before him, the void refining old man didn't hesitate, directly reaching out, wanting to grasp the treasures from within the taking mirror. As a void refining cultivator, he was basically an invincible existence in this small world, so he didn't need to be too concerned about his actions. However, the void refining old man's hand was blocked by a faint light. That was a restriction left by the Suixin immortal spirit to prevent powerful foreign cultivators from forcefully seizing them without following the rules. The void refining old man felt the faint light, his brows furrowed, and then he retracted his hand. He had a hunch that if he forced his way through, it would trigger the faint light to retaliate and directly throw those treasures into the void realm. So be it. Since he couldn't break the rules, the void refining old man could only follow them. With his strength, hunting those zombies would be easy. At that time, all these immortal treasures would be his. Quick, quick, quick. The legendary void refining expert is making a move. Such a grand event cannot be missed. The news that the legendary void refining expert was going to eliminate the zombie tide spread rapidly. Immediately, countless cultivators rushed to the front lines, preparing to witness the magnificent display of the void refining expert's power. For most cultivators, a nascent soul true lord was a lofty figure, and a soul transformation cultivator was someone they needed to look up to. Not to mention void refining, which was even stronger than soul transformation. Many cultivators only now learned that there was a void refining realm above soul transformation. The void refining old man did not stop the continuously gathering crowd. After all, he was also preparing to show off his strength to these natives so that they would obediently listen to him. Perhaps the deterrence wasn't enough before, as a soul transformation disciple of a sect was actually killed by an unknown native. This time, after he displayed his strength, he wanted to see who would dare to make a move again. With this thought, the void refining old man walked towards the zombie tide in front. And with each step the void refining old man took, his figure grew taller, and soon the void refining old man transformed into a majestic giant. The void refining realm cultivates the physical body, but this is not simply about enhancing the physical body's strength, it is also the process of condensing a physical body manifestation. A physical body manifestation is different from a primordial spirit manifestation. A primordial spirit manifestation controls the power of heaven and earth, while a physical body manifestation is pure physical body strength. However, this does not mean that a physical body manifestation is weaker than a primordial spirit manifestation. On the contrary, in terms of pure destructive power, a physical body manifestation far surpasses a primordial spirit manifestation. Furthermore, after condensing a physical body manifestation, void refining cultivators will also awaken corresponding physical body divine abilities, among which the most common physical body divine ability is rebirth from a drop of blood. Some cultivators with special talents may awaken offensive physical body divine abilities, and the combat power of such void refining cultivators will be extremely powerful. Of course, the physical body divine ability of this void refining old man at this moment was the very ordinary rebirth from a drop of blood, which did not greatly enhance his combat power, but it was invincible for self-preservation. As long as a drop of his essence blood remained, even if his physical body was destroyed, he could be reborn with the help of the remaining essence blood. Humph, truly uncomfortable. The void refining old man frowned slightly. When he displayed his physical body manifestation, he felt the rejection of this world. Therefore, he could only reduce the power of his physical body manifestation. Originally, if he unleashed his full power, the size of this physical body manifestation would be at least several times its current size. Now, it could at most maintain this size, but even so, this move deeply shocked everyone. Because the shock brought by the physical body manifestation was too great, the subsequent crushing defeat of the zombie tide by the void refining expert seemed less shocking. After all, for such a powerful void refining expert to eliminate these zombies was simply a matter of lifting a hand. In a true sense, he eliminated a large number of zombies with just a wave of his hand. Without needing to employ any special methods, the void refining old man simply crushed his way through with his enormous physical body manifestation. Finally, the void refining old man killed his way to the outskirts of the 9 Serenity domain. The 3 demon sect soul transformation cultivators, whose combat power had already reached soul transformation great perfection, now looked at the giant with solemn expressions. At this moment, they didn't have even a sliver of a chance of victory in their hearts. Even though the aura emanating from the giant was also soul transformation great perfection, the opponent's combat power and methods had definitely reached the void refining level. My lord, we cannot stop this person. The 3 demon sect soul transformation cultivators quickly transmitted their voices to the remnant soul. He wouldn't dare to enter. The remnant soul's tone was indifferent. As long as the void refining old man dared to step into the 9 Serenity domain, the remnant soul would directly use the power of its main body to crush the opponent to death. As the remnant soul said, the void refining old man stood outside the 9 Serenity domain and did not step in. The place where the corpse immortal fell was not so easy to enter. Fortunately, this wave of killing had earned him a considerable amount of contribution, enough to exchange for some immortal treasure. What a pity. Seeing the void refining old man finally retreat, Qing Venerable and the other 3 soul transformation cultivators couldn't help but show expressions of regret. If they could have directly broken through the 9 Serenity domain, perhaps they would have had a chance to suppress the corpse immortal. However, this was just a thought. If the corpse immortal had not left a remnant soul, a void refining expert might have had a chance to break through. But since the corpse immortal left a wisp of remnant soul, let alone a void refining cultivator, even a body integration cultivator would probably not dare to step in. This meant that to resuppress the corpse immortal, they could only continuously consume the diffused power of the corpse immortal, thereby weakening it, and finally seal it. And this process would be extremely long. However, if they could quickly kill the zombies formed by the corpse immortal's power, it could accelerate this process. But so far, only that void refining old man had managed to sweep through and drive all the zombie tide back into the 9 Serenity domain. Although, as long as the corpse immortal existed, the zombie tide would reappear, this at least gave everyone a period of rest. During this time, the void refining old man planned to explore this small world thoroughly to search for the true immortal relics. He knew very well that the immortal treasure in the exchange point should only be a small part. The real bulk, or even the immortal legacy, should be somewhere in this small world. If he could obtain the immortal legacy, he might be able to reach a higher realm. At the same time, in the 9 Serenity domain. At this moment, the remnant soul's mood was also somewhat irritable. The void refining old man's actions disrupted his plan. Now that the zombie tide had been driven back into the 9 Serenity domain, the remnant soul's planned soul hunting naturally could not continue. And the acquisition of souls was an important means for him to recover his strength, so the remnant soul could not remain suppressed like this forever, he needed to counterattack. But facing a void refining expert who had voluntarily lowered his cultivation, an ordinary soul transformation great perfection cultivator would definitely not be able to defeat him. And the upper limit of this small world was soul transformation great perfection. Even if the remnant soul could create zombies with void refining combat power, once such a level of zombie appeared, it would be directly rejected by this small world. Since he couldn't directly create void refining level zombies, the remnant soul could only strengthen the soul transformation great perfection zombies, for example, by teaching the 3 demon sect soul transformation cultivators various powerful divine abilities and secret techniques. And also by creating special soul transformation great perfection zombies. However, all of these would consume the remnant soul's power. But now, the remnant soul had no choice but to make these necessary investments. Fortunately, he had devoured many souls before, so the remnant soul was still quite well off and should be able to create a team of zombies capable of resisting that void refining expert. There's actually another continent here. While the void refining old man was exploring the immortal relics in the small world, the King He cultivation world naturally wouldn't be missed. However, the current King He cultivation world was already enveloped by a grand formation, so even the void refining old man couldn't enter unnoticed. Of course, the void refining old man didn't need to enter unnoticed. He could forcefully break through the formation. Although the grand formation enveloping the King He cultivation world was derived from an immortal formation, it was not a true immortal formation after all, and the formation master was not an immortal. It was just that the formation covered a sufficiently large area. Relying on its vast area, this formation was enough to block soul transformation cultivators from entering, but against the void refining old man, it clearly couldn't hold him back. Boom! With a roar, the grand formation was broken, and the void refining old man directly entered the King He cultivation world. As a void refining expert, the old man naturally had no qualms about his actions, because there were no cultivators in this small world who could threaten him. Only the corpse immortal in the 9 Serenity domain and the missing immortal relics might pose a danger to him. Other places clearly did not contain anything that could threaten him. What's going on? With the grand formation broken, all the cultivators in the King He cultivation world were alarmed, including Guang. Breaking directly into the formation clearly indicated hostile intentions. Senior, we apologize for not greeting you sooner. The first to react was naturally the Kingla sect. Immediately, an elder of the Kingla sect stepped forward to pay respects. After all, based on current intelligence, only that foreign void refining cultivator should be able to break through the grand formation. Facing such a powerful expert, even if the other party had forcefully broken through the grand formation, the King He cultivation world still had to show a smiling face. Who is the strongest here? The void refining old man's divine sense swept out. Without the obstruction of the grand formation, the void refining old man's divine sense quickly scanned the entire King He cultivation world, but he did not discover the existence of any immortal relics. Thinking that it was an immortal's method, it was not surprising that he couldn't find it. Inquiring with the local natives should provide some clues. Facing the void refining old man's inquiry, the Kingla sect elder couldn't help but hesitate. It was clear that this powerful expert had ill intentions, and if the Kingla sect elder was about to come up with an excuse when suddenly he felt his head being grabbed, and then a powerful divine sense surged into his sea of consciousness, directly searching his memories. The true legacy of Sheneng Valley. A moment later, the void refining old man discarded the Kingla sect elder, whose soul had been shattered, and headed towards the Kingla sect's mountain gate. Through soul searching, he had already obtained the information he wanted. Kingla sect, Spirit Field Courtyard. Where are the immortal relics of this world? The void refining old man stared at Guang in front of him and asked directly. As he spoke, an invisible aura pressed down on Guang. If Guang were an ordinary nascent soul true lord, under this pressure, he would reveal everything. But Guang was not an ordinary nascent soul. At this moment, Guang's sea of consciousness was already filled with a large amount of primordial spirit power. Sigh. Guang activated his primordial spirit power to resist the void refining old man's pressure, and he also sighed deeply in his heart. He originally didn't want to go to extremes, but since someone was forcing him to act, Guang could only stop being polite. Guang's sigh caused an inexplicable sense of unease in the void refining old man's heart. Although it was surprising that the nascent soul junior possessed primordial spirit power, this was far from enough to make him feel danger. While he was in doubt, the void realm behind Guang twisted, and then an ice blue energy P appeared, shooting towards the void refining old man. How dare you? Seeing Guang, a mere nascent soul, dare to attack him, a void refining expert, the old man couldn't help but laugh. Immediately, the void refining old man was too lazy to ask questions and prepared to subdue Guang and directly search his soul. If it weren't for the fact that soul searching easily damaged memories, leading to incomplete information, he would have acted much earlier. Bang! Relying on his confidence in his cultivation, the void refining old man did not dodge the ice blue energy P and directly took the blow head on. The next moment, an extremely cold force erupted on the void refining old man, but it was clear that this attack did not cause any damage to the void refining old man. It only slightly delayed the opponent's movements, but that was enough. The instant the void refining old man paused, a purple, spiky maw appeared and directly swallowed the void refining old man in one bite. The old man was a void refining cultivator. Logically, Guang's rank 5 carnivorous flower shouldn't have been able to swallow him, but the void refining old man had lowered his cultivation to enter this small world, which put him within the carnivorous flower's devouring range. Not to mention the void refining old man who had lowered his cultivation, even the corpse immortal, after its head was suppressed to the soul transformation level, was destined to be swallowed in one bite. Major Thousand Worlds. In a hidden underground cave, a void refining level formation was set up, and within that formation lay a crystal. Inside the crystal, a drop of blood was sealed. Suddenly, the dormant formation in the cave emitted dazzling light. Subsequently, the crystal in the formation cracked, and the blood within floated up. At the same time, the surrounding spiritual chi was continuously gathered by the formation and poured into that drop of blood. Under the infusion of spiritual chi, that drop of blood continuously wriggled, finally transforming into a young man. What's going on? How did this venerable one perish? After a moment of confusion, the young man suddenly realized. The venerable one spoken by the young man was naturally the void refining old man who had been swallowed by the carnivorous flower. Any void refining cultivator who had awakened the divine ability of rebirth from a drop of blood would find a hidden place and leave a drop of their blood. In this way, even if their main body unfortunately perished, they could be reborn with the help of that drop of essence blood. However, after rebirth, everything needed to start over. But with the void refining realm, recultivating was not an issue as long as resources were sufficient. Besides that, the void refining old man after rebirth did not have the memories of his main body, because the main body's primordial spirit and soul had disappeared. This made the void refining old man after rebirth completely unaware of how his main body had died. The only thing the void refining old man's reborn body knew was that his main body had gone to a small world, and then he was reborn. How could that small world have power that could threaten this venerable one? Did something unexpected happen? The void refining old man's reborn body frowned. This matter needed to be reported to the sect as soon as possible. However, before that, the void refining old man's reborn body needed to cultivate for a while. Only after gaining some cultivation could he control the magical artifacts stored here and return to the sect. Otherwise, given his current state of complete loss of cultivation, it would take an unknown amount of time to return to the sect. There was no other way, this place was too far from where the sect was located. The reason for hiding the essence blood so far away was to ensure safety. For example, if the sect encountered a great enemy and the main body perished, then this resurrection point naturally couldn't be left within the sect, leaving it outside was safer. But at this moment, this caused some inconvenience for the void refining old man's reborn body returning to the sect. It shouldn't take more than a few months, right? The void refining old man's reborn body thought to himself. With his void refining realm, it wouldn't take long to recover to the golden core cultivation. By then, he would almost be able to return to the sect. Tianyuan cultivation world. The sudden disappearance of the void refining old man initially did not attract attention. After all, how could the whereabouts of a powerhouse of this rank be speculated by outsiders? It wasn't until the remnant soul in the 9 Serenity domain assembled a powerful zombie tide that everyone realized that the void refining powerhouse was missing. The remnant soul had prepared enough combat power to confront a void refining powerhouse, but at this moment, the void refining powerhouse had disappeared. This caused the cultivator side's battle line to instantly collapse. Immediately, those foreign cultivators quickly sought aid from their sects. It was just that the sects of those foreign cultivators also couldn't send a second void refining powerhouse over in a short period. After all, the previous void refining old man had disappeared without a trace. Without investigating this clearly, who would dare to come again? But if no strong support was sent, the battle line would completely collapse. Once the Tianyuan cultivation world fell, the immortal treasure would also be lost. Under duress, the foreign sect chose to sell this news to a friendly sect. Although having another share of the pie would damage their own interests, it was better than having their dining table overturned by zombies and getting nothing to eat. However, the more people who knew a secret, the greater the risk of exposure. As soon as the foreign sect leaked the news, soon almost all major sect forces in the entire major thousand worlds knew about it. Thus, a large number of cultivators flocked here. Some of these arriving cultivators were loose cultivators, but there were also some disciples from major sects, such as those with Mahayana or undergoing tribulation cultivators overseeing them. Of course, the most dazzling were the disciples of top sects who possessed immortal artifacts. These top sects were absolutely most concerned about the immortal treasure. After all, the immortal artifacts of those top sects required immortal stones to be consumed every time they were used, which made these sects' desire for immortal stones far exceed everyone else's. The influx of a large number of foreign cultivators instantly stabilized the situation that was on the verge of collapse. Seeing this, Guang, who was about to make a move, returned to his small courtyard. Guang had naturally anticipated the chain reaction caused by him eliminating the void refining old man. Guang was also prepared to take action. Although Gumo's combat power had not yet reached its limit, and even after devouring the void refining old man, the spiritual chi concentration in his Dongtian space had once again increased, raising Gumo's limit by quite a bit. But at least Gumo was confident in repelling that special zombie tide. However, after taking action, the corpse immortal remnant soul would certainly be alerted, which would be detrimental to the subsequent plan. Gumo's plan was to accumulate enough power, and then suppress the 9 Serenity domain. A related plan had gradually formed in Gumo's mind during this time. Now that a large number of foreign cultivators had arrived and the situation was under control, Gumo naturally prepared to continue cultivating and accumulating power. Good, 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 so many souls will definitely allow my strength to recover further. Facing the large influx of foreign cultivators, the remnant soul was not flustered at all, instead, it was very excited. Immediately, the zombie tide led by the 3 soul transformation demonic sect cultivators engaged in a fierce battle with the team formed by the foreign cultivators. The battle, controlled by the remnant soul, was exceptionally brutal. A large number of zombies were slain, but many cultivators also perished. After those cultivators died, the 3 soul transformation demonic sect cultivators would use a special secret technique to restrain the souls of those cultivators and bring them to the remnant soul. This caused the remnant soul's power to slowly recover. Subsequently, the remnant soul released more of its main body's power, condensing more powerful and special zombies. And those foreign cultivators, for the sake of the immortal treasure, were also continuously arriving. Among them, the elite disciples of those top major sects, although at the soul transformation great perfection cultivation, could unleash combat power comparable to void refining and were the main force against the zombie tide. The arrival of a large number of foreign cultivators also brought many treasures and legacies that were not found in the Tianyuan cultivation world. It is no exaggeration to say that the current Tianyuan cultivation world is now connected to the major thousand worlds. And to obtain those treasures and legacies from the major thousand worlds, one only needed to use the karma gained from hunting zombies to exchange for them. The sects represented by those foreign cultivators almost all presented an exchange list to purchase karma. This not only benefited the cultivators of the Tianyuan cultivation world but also benefited loose cultivators from the major thousand worlds. Legacies that were originally difficult to access could now be obtained here simply by hunting zombies. What else could this be if not an opportunity? Of course, obtaining this opportunity also required considerable risk. After all, that zombie tide was not so easy to deal with. Especially those special soul transformation great perfection zombies, whose combat power was comparable to void refining. Except for the elite disciples of those top major sects who could contend with them, other cultivators were no match at all. Time flowed by, and the battle between the zombie tide and the foreign cultivators lasted for several years. During this period, a large number of zombies were hunted, and many cultivators also died tragically. The hunting of a large number of zombies caused the power of the headless corpse in the 9 Serenity domain to decrease by 1,000th. Such a long period of consumption only consumed 1,000th of the headless corpse's power, which shows the corpse immortal's strength. But as long as the corpse immortal's power is consumed, even if it's only 1,000th, there will always be a day when the corpse immortal's power can be completely exhausted. And although many people on the cultivator side also died, a large number of cultivators arrived daily to replenish them. After a few years, the number of foreign cultivators in the Tianyuan cultivation world not only did not decrease but even increased compared to before. This place had truly become a treasure trove of opportunity for cultivators from the major thousand worlds. No matter how powerful the corpse immortal's power was, facing this continuous consumption by cultivators, it would probably only be exhausted to death in the end. If this continued for several thousand years, completely resolving the corpse immortal crisis, then it could be considered a great perfection of karma. Unfortunately, things would not go so smoothly. With the arrival of demonic cultivators, the situation changed. A demonic cultivator sect named Corpse Ghost Sect, after entering this small world, actually directly joined the zombie faction. Naturally, the remnant soul was very welcoming of this, granting them part of the corpse immortal's legacy and power, which greatly boosted the Corpse Ghost Sect's strength. It was clear that this corpse immortal was the true opportunity for the Corpse Ghost Sect. It was rumored that the Corpse Ghost Sect's legacy came from a corpse immortal, so this was like finding their old ancestor. The Corpse Ghost Sect's joining directly broke the balance of combat power. However, with the arrival of void refining cultivators who lowered their cultivation, the balance of combat power was restored. However, as the difficulty of hunting zombies increased, many cultivators felt that earning karma by hunting zombies to exchange for treasures was no longer as cost-effective. So, some cultivators began to eye the immortal treasure. The immortal treasure at the exchange point obviously didn't appear out of thin air. It was clear that there was an immortal treasure in this small world. It was just that no one had found the whereabouts of the immortal treasure until now. It was only speculated that the immortal treasure might be on the continent named Qinghe Cultivation World. However, that continent was enveloped by a large formation, and outsiders simply couldn't enter. A few who relied on their strength to break through the formation and enter never heard from again, disappearing inexplicably. This made many cultivators filled with awe towards the Qinghe Cultivation World. Ridiculous. In response, a void refining cultivator who had lowered his cultivation expressed disdain, saying that in this small world whose limit was only the soul transformation level, there was still a place that could threaten him. Immediately, a void refining cultivator from a major sect broke through the formation of the Qinghe Cultivation World and rushed in. Let me see what exactly caused my main body to perish so completely. Outside the Qinghe Cultivation World, a young man looked at the void refining cultivator who had broken through the formation and entered, his gaze deep. This young man was the reborn body of the void refining old man who had first entered this place. Now he had returned to this small world, wanting to explore the truth of his main body's demise. Unfortunately, the young man only confirmed that his main body's last disappearing place was the Qinghe Cultivation World. After that, there were no more clues. His main body disappeared too completely, without even a trace of soul chi remaining. Otherwise, the void refining old man's reborn body could have obtained some clues with the help of the remaining soul chi. However, now that another void refining powerhouse had intruded, perhaps some intelligence could be gained from this. Again. Guang frowned. The number of foreign cultivators who had intruded over the years was increasing. If these intruders behaved themselves, Guang could turn a blind eye, but none of these intruders were good people. They directly caused destruction in their search for the immortal treasure. Guang also didn't hold back and fed them all to the carnivorous flower. He thought this would deter those foreign cultivators, but unexpectedly, someone else had intruded, and this time it was a void refining cultivator who had lowered his cultivation. However, even a void refining powerhouse who had lowered his cultivation was still a one-bite affair for the carnivorous flower. I didn't expect there to be a soul transformation here. After waiting for a moment, the void refining cultivator who had lowered his cultivation appeared before Guang. Guang, through refining rank 5 sun essence, now had abundant primordial spirit power in his consciousness. Although he had not yet fully condensed his primordial spirit dharma idol, to outsiders, Guang was indistinguishable from a soul transformation cultivator. In fact, in terms of the total amount of primordial spirit power alone, the current Guang even surpassed an ordinary soul transformation cultivator. The void refining cultivator who had lowered his cultivation wanted to obtain information about the immortal treasure on this continent. Finding Guang, the highest cultivated person in the Qinghe cultivation world, was clearly the most convenient thing to do. Regarding that immortal treasure, you should know quite a bit, right? The void refining cultivator sat casually on the stone chair opposite Gu Mo. Your Excellency's opportunity is in the Tianyuan cultivation world, not here. Gu Mo shook his head. Hunting zombies to exchange for immortal treasures was the correct way for those foreign cultivators to obtain opportunity. I say it's right here. The void refining cultivator's gaze sharpened. Possessing combat power that was invincible in this small world made him seem reckless. If you say it's here, then it's here, forever here. Knowing that he was dealing with someone difficult to communicate with, Gu Mo didn't bother with further words and waved his hand. Immediately, tendrils rushed out from the pond in the small courtyard, wrapping around the void refining cultivator. These were rank 5 entangling water grass, placed by Gu Mo in the pond to cooperate with the rank 5 carnivorous flower. What? Feeling the rank of the entangling water grass, the void refining cultivator was startled. He hadn't noticed it at all just now. Such terrifying concealment ability was astonishing. However, it was just a rank 5 spirit plant, and. As soon as the void refining powerhouse had this thought, a purple maw covered in sharp thorns appeared, biting down towards the void refining powerhouse. However, this void refining cultivator from a major sect was clearly stronger than the previous one. He actually managed to dodge in the nick of time during the crisis. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the tendrils of the entangling water grass successfully wrapped around the void refining cultivator. Subsequently, another purple maw appeared. Over these past few years, the rank 5 carnivorous flowers Gu Mo possessed were clearly more than just one. The aura has vanished. Outside the Qinghe cultivation world, the rebirth body of the void refining old man had a grave expression. Just now, the aura of the void refining cultivator who had intruded suddenly disappeared. A void refining cultivator, even if he suppressed his cultivation, should not have vanished so easily in this small world, let alone be invincible. But such an incredible scene truly occurred. What exactly happened there? The rebirth body of the void refining old man gazed at the Qinghe cultivation world. That seemingly ordinary place had already seen 2 void refining cultivators perish in succession. Soon, other cultivators who were paying attention to this place also noticed something was amiss. At this moment, everyone was in an uproar. A void refining cultivator, and one from a major sect at that, had disappeared without a trace. Finally, peace and quiet. With the deterrence brought by the carnivorous flower devouring a void refining cultivator, the Qinghe cultivation world finally returned to tranquility, and Gu Mo could finally continue farming to accumulate his foundation. As the Qinghe cultivation world returned to peace, the battle in the Tianyuan cultivation world entered a heated phase. Although the zombie tide's combat power had greatly increased with the addition of demonic cultivators, the cultivators' combat power was even stronger, even directly suppressing the zombie tide. This was because the foreign cultivators discovered that the number of immortal treasures in the exchange points was dwindling. To exchange for the last of the immortal treasures, the various major sects had dispatched even more forces, wanting to seize this final opportunity. This created the cultivators' immense advantage, but such an advantage obviously could not last. Once the immortal treasures in the exchange points were exhausted, the situation would completely reverse. At that time, those foreign cultivators might directly withdraw. After all, the immortal treasures that attracted them were gone. As for the corpse immortals' opportunity, the righteous path cultivators clearly couldn't compete with those demonic path cultivators. What should we do next? Qing Venerable and the other 2 local soul transformation cultivators also found the current situation tricky. Once those foreign cultivators retreated, the Tianyuan cultivation world would absolutely not be able to withstand the assault of the zombie tide and the foreign demonic cultivators. Why not increase the exchange quantity for treasures? The soul transformation cultivator from the yin-yang sword sect suggested. Increasing the exchange quantity now, those foreign cultivators probably won't agree. The taking sect's soul transformation cultivator shook his head. If their strength was enough to suppress those foreign cultivators, then there might be a possibility of increasing the exchange quantity, but given the current strength comparison, they did not have this ability. If your strength is inferior, don't think about changing the rules. Unable to reduce expenses, they could only increase income. As for how to increase income, it was naturally by asking Senior Suksan Immortal Spirit for more treasures. With this thought, the 3 soul transformation cultivators headed to the Qinghe cultivation world. They all knew that Senior Suksan was in the Qinghe cultivation world. Earlier, a void refining cultivator had suddenly disappeared in the Qinghe cultivation world. In the eyes of the 3 soul transformation cultivators, this was clearly Senior Suksan making a move. Of course, the 3 soul transformation cultivators could not directly find Suksan Immortal Spirit. Therefore, they could only first go to Gu Mo and contact Suksan Immortal Spirit through him. However, when the 3 soul transformation cultivators saw Gu Mo, their faces revealed shock. Evidently, they were all startled by the powerful primordial spirit chi emanating from Gu Mo. Seniors, please return. Senior Suksan no longer has any treasures. Gu Mo shook his head after learning the purpose of the 3 soul transformation cultivators. Senior Suksan had basically taken out all the immortal stones and other treasures from the immortal ruins. What remained were things that could not be spread outside. This. Upon learning that there were no more immortal treasures, the expressions of the 3 soul transformation cultivators were somewhat uneasy. Didn't that mean the Tianyuan cultivation world would soon fall? Senior Suksan used immortal treasures to buy us some time. Next, we need to bear it ourselves. Gu Mo's gaze swept over the 3 soul transformation cultivators. With the influx of various legacies from the outside major thousand worlds, the strength of the 3 soul transformation cultivators had all greatly improved. To be able to cultivate to soul transformation in this barren small world, the talents of the three were considered excellent even in the major thousand worlds. Now that the legacy problem was resolved, their cultivation naturally saw a great increase. Not only the three soul transformation cultivators, but the overall strength of the cultivators in the Tianyuan cultivation world had greatly improved. How can we withstand it? The three soul transformation cultivators gave a bitter smile. Currently, in the Tianyuan cultivation world battlefield, the main force consisted of soul transformation great perfection cultivators. Even if the three of them had entered the soul transformation middle stage, it was far from enough. I will make a move then. Gu Mo spoke, the confidence in his tone making the three soul transformation cultivators look at each other. Seeing this, Gu Mo waved his hand and the Dongtian space opened. The three soul transformation cultivators saw a large expanse of spirit plants. Seeing this, the soul transformation cultivators of the Taking sect and Yin Yang sword sect were still a bit stunned. This. But Qing Venerable's face was already filled with shock. As a 5th tier Lingzi master, she could tell at a glance that this large area of spirit plants were all 5th tier. Although she was a 5th tier Lingzi master, she had only cultivated one 5th tier spirit plant, but Gu Mo had cultivated so many. Qing Venerable did not know that Gu Mo only showed a portion. The three soul transformation cultivators left. When they arrived, they were full of worry, but when they left, there was no trace of anxiety on their faces. After all, Gu Mo's vast expanse of 5th tier spirit plants gave them immense confidence. With this, even if those foreign cultivators left, the Tianyuan cultivation world would be able to withstand it. Master! Not long after the three soul transformation cultivators left, Ruan excitedly ran over. Ruan, did you sneak out again today? Gu Mo caught the little loli who pounced on him, rubbing her head as he spoke. During this time, Ruan had been receiving guidance from Senior Suxin in the Immortal Ruins, which greatly increased the little loli's cultivation and combat power. Especially her combat power, Senior Suxin's master was a female sword immortal. Ruan, now having received the legacy of that female sword immortal, also embarked on the Dao of a sword cultivator. Speaking of that female sword immortal's legacy, Gu Mo had actually received a portion as well, which was the nameless sword cannon. That female sword immortal rose from this small world, and in the process of her rise, relevant legacies would naturally be left behind. No, I didn't. Hearing this, the little loli looked nervous. As she spoke, Yuan Naya's figure appeared. Looking at Ruan hiding in Gu Mo's arms, she immediately said crossly, Ruan, have you finished your homework today? Finished. The little loli raised her small head and said. Ruan cultivated with Suxin immortal spirit, and Chu Fifei and Yuan Naya also benefited, occasionally receiving guidance from Suxin immortal spirit. Although neither of them followed the Dao of a sword cultivator, Suxin immortal spirit's realm was so high that guiding the two girls was naturally more than sufficient. Oh, then you demonstrate it, Yuan Naya raised an eyebrow. Hearing this, 12 flying swords appeared within Ruan's body. These 12 flying swords were precisely Gu Mo's 12 natal flying swords. Although Ruan possessed an independent soul, she was essentially an incarnation refined by Gu Mo. Their powers originated from the same source, so Ruan could fully use Gu Mo's natal flying swords. With the 12 natal flying swords bestowed by Gu Mo, Ruan's starting point was countless times higher than other cultivators. As for Gu Mo himself, the power of his current plant battle line was already incomparable to 12 natal flying swords. It could be said that the power of these 12 natal flying swords was already somewhat disconnected. Of course, since they were natal flying swords, they could be tempered and upgraded. It was just that Gu Mo's time was all spent on plants, and he truly had no time to upgrade his natal flying swords. Therefore, Gu Mo gave these 12 natal flying swords to Ruan. This could both enhance Ruan's foundation, and Ruan could also use the sword immortal legacy she received to temper these 12 natal flying swords. Ultimately, these 12 natal flying swords would be tempered into 12 immortal swords. At that time, Gu Mo would also be able to experience the power of immortal swords. Gu Mo's natal flying swords could be used by Ruan, and in the future, Ruan's natal immortal swords could also be borrowed by Gu Mo. Ding ding ding. In the training ground, Ruan and Yuan Naya's figures constantly flickered, accompanied by the sound of metal clashing. The Golden Core realm Ruan and the Nascent Soul realm Yuan Naya actually fought to a draw, which clearly showed Ruan's combat power. Stop. Yuan Naya took a few steps back, calling a halt to the spar, because Yuan Naya realized that she was no longer a match for Ruan, the little girl. Although Yuan Naya still had trump cards and hidden moves she hadn't used, she knew very well that Ruan would only have more. Hide and seek. After finishing her homework check, Ruan excitedly said. This was her favorite game. Alright. Yuan Naya nodded. Hearing this, Ruan cheered, then scurried away, and soon pulled Chu Fifei over. The game of hide and seek naturally couldn't be without Chu Fifei. Tianyuan Cultivation World. When the last immortal treasure was exchanged, the atmosphere subtly changed. The most direct result was that the foreign cultivators' enthusiasm for hunting zombies greatly diminished. Some cultivators were even preparing to leave. After all, the most important opportunity here was gone, and there was no longer any meaning in staying. Rumble. Just as a group of foreign cultivators were about to leave, suddenly, a strong energy fluctuation came from the sky. Then, under everyone's astonished gaze, the world gate in the sky disappeared. The disappearance of the world gate meant that no one could leave. And it was the remnant soul that destroyed the world gate. It was not easy to have so many cultivators come. If all these people ran away, where would he hunt for souls? Ah! With the world gate destroyed, the foreign cultivators who realized what happened let out angry growls. This was equivalent to cutting off their retreat. Without subsequent support, they would eventually be swallowed by the endless zombie tide. With this thought, a sense of despair spread through the crowd. Everyone, the world gate can be repaired. Feeling the pervasive despair, Qing Venerable and the 3 local soul transformation cultivators quickly spoke, "We will now ask Suxan immortal spirit to make a move." Upon hearing that the world gate could be repaired, the aura of despair immediately dissipated considerably. They probably thought that their sects were also currently searching for the coordinates of this small world, and at that time, perhaps even before the world gate was repaired, strong individuals from their sects might tear through the void realm and descend. Well, this should be a beautiful fantasy. Unless a top true disciple of a top major sect was trapped, otherwise, there shouldn't be any cultivators capable of tearing through the void realm to make a move. However, internal and external cooperation to accelerate the repair of the world gate should not be a problem. It should be about time. Gu Mo looked at the shattered world gate in the sky, then glanced at the plants in his Dongtian space. He knew it was time for him to make a move. After so many years of dormancy, it was now time to deal with that corpse immortal. With that, Gu Mo's figure flickered and disappeared. These years, besides cultivating plants, Gu Mo had also continuously comprehended various secret arts and divine abilities. Upon arriving at the Tianyuan cultivation world, Gu Mo saw ubiquitous slaughter. The slaughter between zombies and cultivators, with the world gate blocking subsequent support, meant the cultivator side's combat power losses could not be replenished. They were now at a disadvantage, and this disadvantage would only grow larger. Until it completely collapsed in the end. Gu Mo did not choose to directly join the battle, because he had more important things to do. Avoiding various zombies, Gu Mo arrived at the former mountain gates of the 3 major top demonic sects. This place had long since been completely abandoned, but the 5th tier spiritual vein was still there. Although the spiritual vein had been polluted, it was not a big problem. Gu Mo had already prepared a purification formation. If combined with sun essence, the purification speed could be even faster. During the operation of the purification formation, it naturally attracted wandering zombies nearby. However, these zombies were not strong, as the powerful ones had already been sent out to fight the cultivators. It could be said that those foreign cultivators attracted the firepower for Gu Mo, giving him time to set up. Soon, when the purification formation completed purifying the death chi in a nearby area, Gu Mo summoned a giant corn from the black mist space. The corn was so large that it required a heavy flatbed truck to carry it. It looked like a giant cannon. No, it wasn't just like one, it was a cannon, a corn cannon. Name, corn cannon. Grade, 5th tier low grade. Effect, fires corn projectiles, causing super large scale area damage. Planting conditions, 5th tier spirit field. Looking at the corn cannon in front of him, Gu Mo was filled with emotion. The corn cannon was not an initial plant, which meant it could not be obtained directly from blind boxes. Blind boxes could only yield the initial version of the corn cannon, the corn pult. It wasn't until Gu Mo further expanded the black mist space and discovered a greenhouse garden, which was a separate space identical to the cultivation space. The cultivation space was mainly used for upgrading plants, while this greenhouse garden was a place for plants to evolve. For example, evolving the pea shooter into a repeater, snow pea, 3-peater, and so on. A single pea shooter alone had numerous evolution branches. As for other plants, while their evolution branches weren't as numerous as the pea shooter, the evolved plants were all very powerful. For instance, the advanced form of the corn pult was this corn cannon. The corn cannon was an ultra-long range, super large area, mass destruction plant, most suitable for clearing fields. As Gu Mo took out the corn cannon, a root extended from the back of the giant corn and plunged into the soil, beginning to absorb spiritual chi. As the spiritual chi from the 5th tier spiritual vein was continuously extracted, the kernels on the giant corn cob also began to emit a faint glow. When the entire giant corn cob glowed crystal clear and stood upright, it meant the corn cannon was ready for launch. The corn cannon has 2 firing modes. One is precise firing, guided by Gu Mo's divine sense, to accurately attack a target. This firing method allows the corn cannon's power to be maximized, but its drawback is that its range is limited to the distance Gu Mo's divine sense can cover. The second method is coordinate firing, where the corn cannon is set to attack a specific coordinate. Although this mode has a large error margin, its maximum range is extremely high, allowing for cross-domain attacks. Theoretically, Gu Mo could fire the corn cannon from the Qinghe cultivation world to attack enemies in the Tianyuan cultivation world. Of course, the Qinghe cultivation world doesn't have a 5th grade spiritual vein, and Gu Mo didn't want to use the spiritual chi from his Dongtian space, so he moved the corn cannon here. There was no other way, the corn cannon consumed too much spiritual chi. This single 5th grade spiritual vein could only support one corn cannon. Of course, while the spiritual chi consumption was immense, the power of the corn cannon was also astonishing. For this launch, Gu Mo chose the precise mode, because his current divine sense was sufficient to cover most of the Tianyuan cultivation world. Although, given the corn cannon's destructive range, a few kilometers of error wouldn't be an issue with coordinate firing. However, being able to fire precisely allowed the corn cannon's destructive power to be better utilized. Gu Mo flew into the sky, his divine sense sweeping towards the distance. The most intense battlefield between cultivators and zombies was where Gu Mo intended to attack next. Fire. With his divine sense locked onto the zombie's rear flank on the battlefield, Gumo's mind stirred. Instantly, a massive corn cob shot out from the corn husk, rapidly ascending into the sky, then whistling towards the distant battlefield. Frontline battlefield. There are too many zombies. If this continues, we'll be exhausted to death sooner or later. Looking at the endless zombie tide, more and more cultivators felt worried. With the realm gate shattered, they lost their support and could only fight a war of attrition against the continuous zombie tide. But how could they possibly outlast the zombie tide? That corpse immortal, who was supporting the zombie tide, still stood there. Why don't we retreat? Let's find a place to hide. Once the realm gate recovers, we can just leave. Under immense pressure, some cultivators began to consider retreating. After all, this wasn't their homeland. What did its destruction have to do with them? This small world wasn't small either. Even if the zombies invaded completely, it would take time to occupy the entire small world. As long as their sect could reopen the realm gate during that time, they would have hope of survival. Makes sense. These words immediately garnered the agreement of many foreign cultivators. The contribution points gained from hunting zombies could no longer be exchanged for immortal treasures, so why should they risk their lives for it? Not good. Qing Venerable and other local cultivators, who were currently fighting the zombies, were startled to see a large number of foreign cultivators retreating. The battle line was already extremely strained. If more people retreated, the line would collapse completely. It's over. The soul transformation from the taking sect side. They had worked so hard for so long, only for it to fail at the last moment. Let's retreat too. As long as the Green Mountains remain, there will be firewood to burn. The soul transformation from the Yin-Yang sword sect gazed at the vast numbers of zombies in the distance. There were simply too many. Wait, what is that? Suddenly, Qing Venerable looked up at the sky, a hint of astonishment in his eyes. What he saw was a giant corn cob flying in from afar. Alerted by Qing Venerable, the two soul transformation cultivators from the taking sect and the Yin-Yang sword sect also noticed the corn in the sky. At that moment, they were all bewildered. It's him. Suddenly, all three thought of one person. Such a strange plant could probably only belong to that individual. Plus, he had said earlier that he would act if the situation became critical. Now it seemed he hadn't broken his word, but could this single corn cob turn the tide of the battle? What in the world is that? When Qing Venerable and the two others discovered the corn in the sky, the retreating foreign cultivators naturally also saw it. Everyone was astonished. If it had been a spell attack like a fireball or an ice mountain, everyone could understand, but a corn cob? That was truly a bit too abstract. Whoosh! Under the gaze of many cultivators, the giant corn, which many thought was a joke, plunged into the zombie tide. Rumble! The next moment, an earth-shattering explosion erupted, instantly clearing out a large swathe of zombies. But this was not the end. Countless golden corn kernels were scattered in the explosion, covering a vast area. Boom, 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 boom. Subsequently, those corn kernels also exploded. Each exploding kernel could cover an area, and the power of these corn kernel explosions reached the soul transformation level. With a multitude of corn kernels exploding simultaneously, even if the power of each kernel's explosion only initially reached the soul transformation level, the cumulative effect of their numbers would heavily injure, or even instantly kill, a great perfection soul transformation cultivator caught within the blast radius. This. The cultivators stared at the terrifying scene in the distance, their mouths agape in shock. That single corn cob had almost completely wiped out the entire zombie tide. Only a few special zombies at the Great Perfection Soul Transformation realm survived, but they were all heavily wounded. Kill! Someone shouted, and immediately, the cultivators who had intended to retreat returned to the battlefield, beginning to clear out the stragglers. Who? Seeing this, Qing Venerable and the other two couldn't help but let out a long breath. At this moment, they recalled Gumo's confidence when he said he would act. Now it seemed he hadn't exaggerated at all. Gumo indeed had the power to change the course of the battle. As expected, it's very effective. Gumo observed the damage caused by the corn cannon, sighing in his heart. This corn cannon could definitely be called a war ender, one shot and all beings were equal. It was just that each launch required too much preparation time. Gumo's gaze swept over the empty husk, but within the husk, a corn cob was continuously growing. When that corn cob grew to the size of the previous one, it would mean the corn cannon's second shot was loaded. However, at the current speed, it would take most of the day for the second shot to be loaded. With such a long time, the battle would likely be over already. Fortunately, one shot from this corn cannon ended the frontline battle. It would take a considerable amount of time for the zombie tide to regroup. 9 Serenity Domain. What's going on? The zombie tide was instantly cleared, and the remnant soul said in disbelief. This wave of zombie tide had cost him a lot of effort, and it was just gone like that. My lord, it should be some kind of powerful spirit plant. A foreign demonic cultivator stated his judgment. That one corn cannon shot not only cleared out that wave of zombie tide but also caused many demonic sect disciples to perish within it. I'm not blind. Go find out who did it, the remnant soul said somewhat anxiously. For some reason, the remnant soul felt a strong sense of unease in his heart at that moment. Yes. Upon hearing this, a group of foreign demonic cultivators quickly left the 9 Serenity Domain to investigate the source of the terrifying corn. The corn cannon's ultra-long range made it difficult for enemies to pinpoint Gumo immediately, which gave Gumo a chance for a second attack. For this second corn cannon shot, Gu Mo planned to directly launch it at the 9 Serenity Domain, because he noticed that the zombie tide was contracting towards the 9 Serenity Domain. Clearly, the unease in the remnant soul's heart made him subconsciously want to gather his forces to deal with the upcoming situation. Suddenly, Gu Mo's gaze swept into the distance. At this moment, several powerful death chi were approaching his location. It was clear that those foreign demonic cultivators still had some tricks up their sleeves, finding this place so quickly. Gu Mo paid no attention to them, his gaze remaining on the giant corn cob that was charging, preparing for the second corn cannon launch. Stop him quickly. The few foreign demonic cultivators saw the corn cannon and immediately knew this was the formidable individual who had cleared out the zombie tide earlier. Without hesitation, those demonic cultivators charged forward with killing intent. However, just as a great perfection soul transformation demonic cultivator was about to approach Gu Mo, a large purple mouth appeared in the void realm, directly swallowing the demonic cultivator, and then the purple mouth disappeared. This left the other demonic cultivators with expressions of shock. A powerful cultivator at the great perfection soul transformation realm was swallowed just like that. The sense of horror made the other demonic cultivators' scalps tingle. That spirit plant probably only has one. Let's all go together, we'll definitely win. A demonic cultivator shouted loudly, as long as we take down this person, the Lord's reward will definitely be substantial. Upon hearing this, many demonic cultivators were immediately tempted. That great perfection soul transformation cultivator earlier was originally only at the late stage soul transformation realm. It was because of his outstanding performance that he received a reward from that Lord, stepping into the great perfection soul transformation realm in an extremely short amount of time. From late stage soul transformation to great perfection soul transformation, under the best circumstances, it would require hundreds of years of arduous cultivation. If one's background and opportunity were poorer, it could take thousands of years, or even be stuck at the bottleneck for life, unable to advance, which was quite normal. But here, as long as one performed well, none of these would be a problem. Under the temptation of the immense reward, those demonic cultivators suppressed the fear in their hearts and charged towards Gu Mo. But to their despair, purple, ferocious large mouths appeared one after another in the void realm, devouring all the demonic cultivators who approached Gu Mo. The number of carnivorous flowers Gu Mo now possessed had already reached dozens, and all of these dozens were 5th grade. As for those below 5th grade, there were even more. If it weren't for the sun essence still being needed to upgrade other plants, the number of carnivorous flowers would be far greater. It could be said that unless the number of attacking enemies exceeded the number of carnivorous flowers, no one could get close to Gu Mo. It's ready. The disappearance of those demonic cultivators did not attract Gu Mo's attention. At this moment, the corn cannon's second corn cob had finished charging. This time, Gu Mo planned to use coordinate firing. After all, the 9 Serenity Domain was a fixed location, and as long as the coordinates were calculated accurately, it could still hit precisely. Of course, Gu Mo was also worried that locking with Divine Sense would alert the Corpse Immortal's remnant soul in the 9 Serenity Domain. Whoosh! The giant corn shot out from the husk, straight into the sky, then sped towards the 9 Serenity Domain. Seeing this, Gu Mo stored the cannon in the black mist space. Being able to fire 2 shots was already very good. Plants like the corn cannon usually only had one chance to fire. 9 Serenity Domain. The remnant soul's brow suddenly furrowed, because several traces of the chi he had left on those demonic cultivators had suddenly disappeared. These were the demonic cultivators who had gone out to find the person who had acted earlier. Now that the chi of those demonic cultivators had vanished, the implication was self-evident. Suddenly, the remnant soul's figure flickered, and he appeared above the 9 Serenity Domain. Then, the remnant soul saw a giant corn cob plummeting downwards. Seeing this, the remnant soul quickly separated from Yao Shifeng's body and entered the Corpse Immortal's true form. In an instant, the towering Corpse Immortal laboriously raised a finger and pointed at the incoming corn. Rumble. In an instant, the giant corn in the sky directly shattered. Clearly, the 5th grade corn cannon was no match for the Corpse Immortal. I need to rest for a while. Although the crisis was successfully resolved, using the main body's power this time greatly depleted the remnant soul's strength, causing him to relinquish control over Yao Shifeng and enter a state of slumber. Attack. Having regained control of his body, Yao Shifeng's expression was blank. Then, he issued the command to attack. Immediately, the previously gathered zombie tide surged out like a black giant wave. In a short while, the 9 Serenity Domain was almost empty. All the zombies and demonic cultivators had been dispatched by Yao Shifeng to hunt for souls, to aid the remnant soul's recovery. Suddenly, Yao Shifeng performed a secret spell, concealing himself and simultaneously concealing the sleeping remnant soul, leaving only his perception. Then, Yao Shifeng's gaze swept forward as he spoke. Long time no see, Gu Mo. It has been a long time. As Yao Shifeng spoke, Gu Mo's figure appeared, gazing at Yao Shifeng. So, should I call you Yao Laeta now, or Corpse Immortal? Either is fine, actually. After all, I probably can't get rid of him anymore, or perhaps I don't want to get rid of him. After all, he gave me immense power. Yao Shifeng spread his hands. Of course, I don't want to become someone else's puppet. Gu Mo, if you can force that remnant soul to act again, then I'm confident I can devour him. At that time, the crisis in the Tianyuan cultivation world will resolve itself. Yao Shifeng knew very well that he couldn't escape the fate of becoming the remnant soul's puppet by relying solely on his own strength, but Gu Mo's appearance gave Yao Shifeng hope. All right. Gu Mo nodded. If he had Yao Shifeng as an insider, then resolving the corpse immortals problem would be easier. Of course, even if Yao Shifeng eventually betrayed him, Gu Mo wasn't afraid, because Yao Shifeng's assistance was not part of Gu Mo's original plan. After the two parties reached a simple agreement, Gu Mo's figure disappeared and then reappeared outside the 9 Serenity Domain. Gu Mo then began to set up a purification formation to purify this death-chi polluted area, in order to plant spirit plants there later. Gu Mo's plan to deal with the corpse immortal was not complicated: blockade the 9 Serenity Domain with a plant battle line, and then, using the plant battle line, continuously deplete the corpse immortal's power until he was finally suppressed. Originally, with the zombies all gathered in the 9 Serenity Domain, Gu Mo had intended to directly connect this place with his Dongqian space to quickly set up the plant battle line. But now that Yao Shifeng had dispatched all the zombies and demonic cultivators from the 9 Serenity Domain, this gave Gu Mo the opportunity to set up the plant battle line on the spot. P.S. Many readers can tell that this book is about to conclude. According to the outline, there was originally more major Thousand Worlds plot and Dark World Mushroom Plant plot, but the book's performance isn't good, so I can only end it after the Small World arc. Although the word count isn't high, I will at least provide an ending to bring this story to a close, rather than suddenly disappearing midway. Compared to the temporary plant battle line in the Dongqian space, the plant battle line deployed in the outside world could be maintained for a longer time. Of course, the deployment of the plant battle line required spirit fields. The area outside the 9 Serenity Domain was filled with dense death chi, even if a purification formation was used to remove the death chi. It still did not meet the standards of a spirit field, mainly due to insufficient spiritual chi. Fortunately, Gu Mo had anticipated this situation and already had a countermeasure in mind. If the land lacked spiritual chi, it could be directly supplemented to make the barren land full of vitality. Of course, this method was extremely costly, but for Gu Mo, it was not a difficult task. Because the carnivorous flower could transform prey into spiritual chi to nourish the land beneath it by devouring and digesting them, and the carnivorous flower's prey, zombies, were extremely numerous, so there was no need to worry about not having enough. Once the land had spiritual chi, it could be transformed into a spirit field, and then other spirit plants could utilize this spiritual chi to exert their proper combat power. Time was of the essence, so Gu Mo began planting carnivorous flowers along the 9 Serenity Domain, directly encircling it. Then, Gu Mo immediately proceeded with the deployment of torch tree stumps. However, the density of the torch tree stumps was not high, they were only for temporary burst usage. The true main output of the plant battle line was the pea shooter, and various evolved forms of the pea shooter. Compared to the original version of the pea shooter, these evolved pea shooters had at least double the combat power. For example, the two-shot pea shooter was a pea shooter with double the firing speed, and with no reduction in power, the output was directly doubled. In addition, there was also the 3-line pea shooter that could fire 3 energy peas simultaneously, and there was even an evolved form called the machine gun pea shooter, which could reach a firing speed of hundreds of rounds per second. Although the power of each energy pea was not strong, coupled with that terrifying firing speed, the total output was extremely terrifying, and it was absolutely effective for clearing out miscellaneous enemies. The above were all speed evolution roots. The pea shooter also had an attribute evolution root, such as the ice attributed ice pea shooter, which had freezing and slowing effects, making it a sharp weapon against agile enemies. Combined with the torch tree stump, it could achieve dual ice and fire attribute attacks, directly elevating its power by a notch. Carnivorous flowers, torch tree stumps, and pea shooters were the core output of the plant battle line, but output alone was far from enough, defense was also needed. This task was naturally handled by the nut array, and now, the nuts used to deploy the nut array were also the evolved high nuts. Compared to the original version of the nut, the high nut was taller and naturally had stronger defense. Deploying a nut array with high nuts could elevate the defense of the nut array by several levels. Thus, even if the plant battle line encountered a large-scale zombie tide attack, it could withstand it for a long time, giving the carnivorous flowers, pea shooters, and other spirit plants enough time to output damage. However, to ensure foolproof safety, Gu Mo also buried a large number of potato mines on the outer perimeter of the plant battle line. When the zombie tide approached, the potato mines could clear a wave first, reducing the pressure on the plant battle line. Looking at the long plant battle line, Gu Mo let out a long breath. Everything was ready, and the next step was to put the plant battle line into actual combat. Originally, Gu Mo's plan was to resist the zombie tide while deploying the plant battle line, but with Yao Shifeng as an inside man, the plan proceeded very smoothly, and the plant battle line was completed by Gu Mo in one go. According to the plan discussed with Yao Shifeng, once Gu Mo had deployed the plant battle line, Yao Shifeng would recall a portion of the zombie tide from the outside. After the summoned zombies were cleared by Gu Mo, Yao Shifeng would summon another batch, until all the zombie tide was completely cleared. They're coming. After waiting for a moment, the grey clouds formed by condensed death chi in the distance were rolling in. Subsequently, a massive zombie tide appeared. Because this wave of zombie tide was not very numerous, Gu Mo did not activate the potato mines, allowing the zombie tide to rush directly to the carnivorous flowers. The plant battle line deployed by Gu Mo was not entirely facing the 9 Serenity Domain, some parts of the battle line were facing the rear, with the purpose of eliminating these summoned zombies. Once all the zombies in the rear were eliminated, Gu Mo would then transplant this portion of the plant battle line and change its direction. Ooh-ah! As the massive zombie tide was about to crash into the plant battle line, a few slender deified transformation zombies suddenly rushed out, their speed dozens of times faster than other zombies. These were special zombies. Besides speed type, there were also defense specialized, long-range attack type, and even flying zombies. These special zombies not only possessed special abilities but also had combat power at the late stage or even great perfection of soul transformation. Each one had caused extremely huge losses to the cultivator side, but in front of Gumo's plant battle line, these special zombies were not so effective. Swish swish swish. Before the speed type zombie could get close, ice blue energy peas were shot out. It was the ice pea shooter launching an attack. The ice blue energy peas bombarded the slender, agile zombie, immediately slowing it down significantly. Then, when the slow-moving agile zombie rushed to the plant battle line, it was swallowed by a carnivorous flower, and this special zombie, which was a headache for cultivators, was easily dealt with by the plant battle line. After dealing with the leading special zombies, it was then the main force of the zombie tide. Zombies, like a flood, rushed to the plant battle line and were blocked by a layer of light barrier. That was the light barrier of the nut array. The zombie tide could not attack the carnivorous flowers inside unless they broke through the nut array's light barrier. The carnivorous flowers, however, could pass through the formation's light barrier and swallow the zombies outside. As for the pea shooters, their attack frequency was very low at the moment because Gumo needed to replenish the spiritual chi in this land, and pea shooter attacks consumed spiritual chi. Currently, the spiritual chi in this land was not very abundant, preventing the pea shooters from unleashing their full firepower. However, once the carnivorous flowers swallowed this wave of zombie tide, it should be enough to raise the spiritual chi concentration in this area to an extremely high level. Crunch, crunch. Chewing sounds constantly echoed. The massive zombie tide, after approaching the plant battle line, continuously disappeared. Soon, the first wave of zombies was completely devoured by the carnivorous flowers, and at the same time, the spiritual chi concentration in the area where the plant battle line was located reached fourth order. However, this was clearly far from enough. Gumo had originally planned to use sun essence to supplement the initial lack of spiritual chi, but now it was clearly not needed. Because Yao Shifeng had already summoned the second wave of zombies. This wave of zombies also included special zombies, which were defense-specialized zombies. The defense of these zombies was extremely powerful, making it very difficult for even a soul transformation great perfection cultivator to break their defense. But as long as these zombies were still at the soul transformation level, they were destined to be swallowed in one bite by the fifth-order carnivorous flowers. Then came several consecutive waves of zombie tide, each wave containing special zombies that were extremely troublesome for cultivators. In one wave, flying zombies appeared. These flying zombies flew over Gumo's plant battle line from the air, intending to attack from the rear. They were then shot down by the plant battle line from other directions. A small portion of the plant battle line deployed by Gumo faced outwards, while the remaining majority faced the 9 Serenity Domain. The flying zombies circled around and attacked from the 9 Serenity Domain's direction, which was like running into a steel plate. As a large number of zombies were devoured, especially those special zombies, the spiritual chi obtained by the carnivorous flowers after devouring and digesting them was more than 10 times that of other ordinary zombies of the same rank. This also caused the spiritual chi concentration in the land where the plant battle line was located to directly rise, gradually approaching the 5th order level. This was also the spiritual chi rank that allowed the plant battle line to exert its full power. What's going on? The various demonic cultivators fighting at the front line were startled to find that the number of zombie tide around them was decreasing at a strange speed. The reason they could maintain an advantage over those righteous path cultivators was because they had astonishingly powerful special zombies and a vast number of ordinary zombies as support. If they lost these zombies, the number of demonic cultivators would be far inferior to those righteous path cultivators. Those zombies are leaving on their own initiative. Soon, those demonic cultivators discovered the situation. The large decrease in zombies was not because the enemies were killing too fast, but because these zombies were actively retreating. Retreat. Although they didn't know why the zombies were retreating, those foreign demonic cultivators knew that without the zombies' support, they were no match for those righteous path cultivators. Therefore, those demonic cultivators also decisively chose to retreat. Stop them. The righteous path cultivators saw that the situation was greatly favorable and naturally could not let those demonic cultivators leave. They quickly rushed out to stop them. The demonic cultivators, deprived of the zombie tide's cover, were quickly defeated and retreated steadily. When the last wave of zombie tide was devoured by the plant battle line, the spiritual chi concentration in this area finally successfully entered the 5th order, which also meant that the plant battle line's combat power had entered its most prosperous state. Quick, quick, quick. Streaks of devilish chi flew rapidly from a distance. Those were the retreating demonic cultivators. At this moment, their only thought was to quickly return to the 9 Serenity Domain, as only there would they be safe. What is that? Soon, the fleeing demonic cultivators saw the long plant battle line, but the pursuit from behind left them no time to investigate the suddenly appearing spirit plants. They chose to directly fly over them and enter the 9 Serenity Domain. But soon, a strong sense of unease suddenly welled up in the hearts of those demonic cultivators. Almost instinctively, they all cast various defensive measures. Da-da-da-da. It was at this moment that a series of dense sounds erupted. It was the machine gun pea shooter from the plant battle line taking action. In an instant, energy peas shot out like a torrential downpour. Ah! The dense attack instantly shattered a demonic cultivator's defense, then tore his physical body apart. Run, run! This terrifying scene scared the other demonic cultivators out of their wits. They turned and retreated, but their rear was also not safe. The righteous path cultivators who were pursuing saw the demonic cultivators turn back and quickly pounced on them. Soon, all these demonic cultivators were killed, with more than half of them being killed by Gumo's plant battle line. How terrifying these spirit plants are! The cultivators looked at the plant battle line in the distance. As those who had personally witnessed the spirit plants tear apart demonic cultivators one by one, their hearts were filled with awe for those spirit plants. However, upon learning that these spirit plants belonged to their side, their awe was mixed with some pleasant surprise. With such powerful spirit plants, the zombie tide would no longer be a threat. 9 Serenity Domain. With Yao Shifeng's assistance as an insider, the zombie tide and the cultivators who had defected were basically all wiped out. Although the dense death chi in the 9 Serenity Domain continued to condense new zombies, these zombies were clearly not a major threat. Sir, this is bad. Yao Shifeng took a deep breath and feigned an anxious expression as he called out to the other consciousness within his body. What is it? Being woken from his slumber, the remnant soul was clearly unhappy. What's going on? However, before the remnant soul could get angry, he suddenly realized that his senses had become empty. Immediately, the remnant soul seized control of Yao Shifeng's body and quickly rushed out of the 9 Serenity Domain. Along the way, the once dense zombie tide had now dwindled to only a few scattered remnants, and these were clearly newly born. How could the remnant soul not be enraged when the zombie tide he had painstakingly created was gone after a single nap? Sir, those plants outside. Yao Shifeng spoke to remind him. Hearing this, the remnant soul's gaze swept towards the distance, and he immediately saw the plant battle line surrounding the 9 Serenity Domain. To think they can stop me with just these, how laughable. The remnant soul stared at the long plant battle line, his eyes gleaming with ferocity. Immediately, the remnant soul possessed the headless corpse. The next moment, a large amount of profound death chi surged out from the headless corpse. Subsequently, that death chi transformed into powerful zombies. The real battle has begun. Gu Mo looked at the changes in the 9 Serenity Domain, took a deep breath, and said. He knew very well that the previous battle was just an appetizer, the real tough fight was yet to come. Roar! The zombie tide, like a surging flood, frantically rushed out of the 9 Serenity Domain, directly pouncing towards the plant battle line set up by Gu Mo. Boom boom boom. However, before those zombies approached the plant battle line, they were first cleared by a wave of potato mines. Afterward, dense attacks from pea shooters rained down. Some powerful special zombies withstood these attacks and charged to the front of the plant battle line, but as soon as they got close, they were directly swallowed by carnivorous flowers. Although the zombie tide was surging, it simply could not break through Gu Mo's plant battle line, and as time passed, Gu Mo continued to strengthen the power of the plant battle line. How is this possible? This scene, witnessed by the remnant soul, filled him with a strong sense of unease. This unease stemmed not only from the plants but also from his own weakness. Using the power of his physical body just now had made the unrecovered remnant soul even weaker. No, I must destroy those plants. The remnant soul knew clearly that if he gave up now, his plan would completely fail. If the zombie tide couldn't get out, it couldn't hunt souls, and he wouldn't be able to recover. If his soul power couldn't recover, the remnant soul would never be able to return to his physical body. After much deliberation, the remnant soul gritted his teeth and once again possessed his physical body. This time, he unleashed all his power, controlling the headless corpse to lift a finger and press it towards Gu Mo's plant battle line. Bang! The enormous, mountain-like finger descended, and the nut array outside the plant battle line instantly shattered. Facing an attack from a corpse immortal, this was clearly not something the current plant battle line could withstand. Only when the plant's rank continued to rise in the future would there be a chance. The moment the nut array shattered, more than half of Gu Mo's plant battle line directly turned to ashes. It was no exaggeration to say that this single blow directly broke Gu Mo's plant battle line. Gu Mo was not flustered by this at all. If the plant battle line was destroyed, he would simply replant. Instead, Gu Mo was very curious about the remnant soul's current state. Whoosh whoosh. Continuously and forcefully using the power of his physical body in his weakened state plunged the remnant soul into an unprecedented state of weakness. However, with those annoying plants destroyed, the zombie tide should be able to break out. As long as the zombie tide brought back souls, he would recover in no time. I'll leave the rest to you. The remnant soul said to Yao Shifeng, then prepared to enter slumber to reduce the consumption of soul power. All right, go ahead, I'll take it from here. Yao Shifeng's tone was calm. The remnant soul paused, noticing the unusual tone in Yao Shifeng's voice. But very quickly, the remnant soul's expression changed. He knew what Yao Shifeng was going to do. He wanted to devour him. You think you can devour me? Facing Yao Shifeng's rebellion, the remnant soul laughed. Immediately, the remnant soul directly pounced on Yao Shifeng. Even if he was extremely weak, he was not a small cultivator who could be casually bullied. In an instant, Yao Shifeng and the remnant soul began a fierce soul battle. Although the remnant soul was weak, its soul essence was very high, giving Yao Shifeng a feeling of chewing on a rock. But Yao Shifeng knew this was his only opportunity to get rid of the remnant soul. Although the remnant soul felt like a rock to chew on, breaking his teeth one by one, Yao Shifeng didn't care at all, only madly tearing at the remnant soul. Yao Shifeng's desperate posture also scared the remnant soul, because going on like this would result in mutual destruction. In this situation, the remnant soul felt like retreating. He didn't want to perish with a small cultivator. However, the moment the remnant soul harbored thoughts of retreat, he lost this battle. Gulp. When Yao Shifeng swallowed the last fragments of the remnant soul, the corpse immortal soul completely disappeared, becoming a part of Yao Shifeng. At this moment, Yao Shifeng vaguely felt that he could control the towering headless corpse. However, Yao Shifeng rationally suppressed this thought. If he were to control the headless corpse, his soul would instantly explode the next moment. Now that he had devoured the remnant soul and established a connection with this headless corpse, in the future, when he was strong enough, he would be able to transform this corpse immortal into one of his clones, thereby stepping into the ranks of top powerhouses. As for now, Yao Shifeng chose to leave. After the realm gate was repaired, Yao Shifeng would leave this small world to pursue higher realms. Gu Mo, who will be the first to reach the highest peak in the future? Yao Shifeng gazed at Gu Mo in the distance, then his figure flickered and disappeared. It's over. Looking at the disappearing Yao Shifeng, Gu Mo knew that the corpse immortal crisis had temporarily come to an end. Of course, the headless corpse was still there, and the corpse immortal's power would continue to leak out, forming a large number of zombies. However, with the plant battle line in place, those zombie tides simply couldn't get out. Carnivorous flowers devoured zombies and digested them, returning spiritual chi. Torch tree stumps and pea shooters absorbed spiritual chi and launched attacks. As long as this cycle remained unbroken, no matter how many zombies came, it would be useless. The headless corpse's power was overflowing every moment, and the corpse immortal, having lost its soul, could not recover its strength on its own. Given enough time, this plant battle line could exhaust the headless corpse to death. This small world actually has such a powerful Lingzi master. Outside the plant battle line, the foreign cultivators looked at Gu Mo within the plant battle line and couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. It was no exaggeration to say that this crisis was single-handedly quelled by Gu Mo. Otherwise, this small world, including themselves, would have become prey to the zombies. Buzz. As everyone marveled at the power of the plant battle line and sighed in relief at their narrow escape, the power of space vibrated in the sky, and then a phantom gate formed. The realm gate has recovered. Seeing this, everyone was overjoyed. As the phantom gate solidified, figures appeared one after another. These were the reinforcements from various sects. Those reinforcing cultivators, upon entering the small world, had expected a hell-like scene, but the reality was very peaceful, and the original zombie tide seemed to be gone. Your Excellency, stop. Gu Mo stopped a cultivator who wanted to enter the 9 Serenity domain. The plant battle line's blockade not only prevented the zombies inside from coming out but also prohibited people from outside from entering. What if I insist on going in? The cultivator who was stopped was a void refining powerhouse who had lowered his cultivation. Being blocked by Gu Mo, a soul transformation cultivator, he was naturally displeased. Elder. Before Gu Mo could speak, a cultivator in the crowd quickly ran over and whispered a few words to the void refining cultivator. Subsequently, the void refining cultivator's eyes revealed a look of shock. After a while, the void refining powerhouse cupped his hands towards Gu Mo, then quickly departed. Glancing at the departing void refining powerhouse, Gu Mo came to the plant battle line. Then, he took out a flower that looked like a street lamp. This was the street lamp flower. Name, street lamp flower. Rank, 5th order low grade. Effect, insight. Planting condition, 5th order spirit field. Although the plant battle line was formidable, it couldn't withstand various mysterious methods of cultivators. However, with this street lamp flower, one could rest assured. Under the light of the street lamp flower, all concealment methods would become ineffective. Planting some street lamp flowers in the plant battle line would ensure foolproof security. After completing the rearrangement of the plant battle line, Gu Mo performed a final check, then his figure disappeared. A remote location somewhere in the world. Xian Tianhen, with his white hair, gazed at a distant mountain range where devilish chi surged. A soul transformation demon venerable resided there, the very demon sect soul transformation cultivator who had killed his disciple Lin Wu back then. After the zombie disaster descended, the opponent had directly fled and hidden in this remote place. Xian Tianhen had searched all the way for his disciple, but in the end, he didn't find his disciple, but he did find this killer. At that moment, killing intent swirled in Xian Tianhen's eyes. He had now obtained an opportunity, and his cultivation had reached nascent soul great perfection. If he put everything on the line, he might even be able to threaten a soul transformation cultivator. Just as Xian Tianhen was hesitating whether to make a move, suddenly, a terrifying sword light descended from the sky, directly severing the mountain range where devilish chi surged. Cutting a mountain range with one sword, such terrifying strength made Xian Tianhen's heart skip a beat. But very quickly, Xian Tianhen found that the sword light seemed somewhat familiar. It wasn't until Xian Tianhen saw the familiar sword formation that his pupils instantly constricted. End of book. P.S. The story ends here. Although a bit short, at least it has a beginning and an end. Of course, this was only 1/3 of the original planned content. Due to poor performance, the subsequent 2 major sections, the major Thousand Worlds and the Dark World, were cut, resulting in many plants not getting a chance to appear. I apologize to everyone, I failed to write it well. Learning from this lesson, I will strive to write better works next time. Chapter 285 Plants vs. Zombies, End. So, see you in the next book.